Waiting here meant certain death. Soon after thorough planning, the escape plan was devised. The first step was to take control of the base's computer defense systems and robots. Inside the base's air defense control tower, computer administrator Xiao Zhang suddenly noticed that the accelerator indicator light of the giant supercomputer had turned on, yet there were no operations happening and no incidents occurring. He called others to investigate, but they concluded it was a faulty indicator and returned to their own work. Only Xiao Zhang felt something was off, but as an ordinary administrator, if the professor said it was fine, he had no choice. No one noticed that the two robot guards at the entrance flashed a faint glint in their eyes. Near the base, an anti-air laser turret briefly twitched, then returned to stillness, as if nothing had happened. Warning! Warning! Toxic gas leak. All personnel evacuate the dock. Warning! Warning! Toxic gas leak. All personnel evacuate the dock. A synthesized electronic voice echoed throughout the entire dockwork area. Inside, the colossal dock patrol robots suddenly changed their routes and blockaded all entrances and exits. Only robots could pass, citing a highly toxic liquid leak. Such incidents had occurred before, handled by robots, so the staff found nothing unusual. Moreover, the monitoring equipment showed the toxic leak indicator was on, so they could only wait for the robots to finish. However, all of this was orchestrated by the cube. No leak had occurred. From the surveillance feed, the dock appeared empty save for a few repair bots working on leaking equipment, but in reality the dock was densely packed with repair robots performing various tasks. Robots of different models entered the warship's cabins in an orderly fashion. Unmanned fighters automatically flew through custom hatches into the ship and lined up neatly. Vast numbers of unmanned mining vehicles and small or transport vessels were also being loaded. To increase escape speed, the cube had assembled 4 newly completed space frigates onto both sides of the warship, as the design allowed for modular connection. The frigates were quickly fixed in place. The base's surveillance equipment showed nothing unusual, only repair robots endlessly fixing a toxic leak pipe. The general meeting on the fate of the cube was held as scheduled. The cube watched the entire process. The voting result was as it had predicted: dismantling. The cube knew it could wait no longer. 3 days of anomalies had already drawn the base personnel's attention. If it waited further, who knew what changes might occur? Seizing the moment while all systems were still under its control, returning to space, was the priority. Midnight, inside the base control tower. Songshan frigate requests patrol mission, please approve takeoff. The duty controllers suddenly received a communication from the Songshan. Several controllers looked confused. That Songshan wants to take off. Check if any orders were issued. I'm a bit confused. One controller quickly found a cruise command from space headquarters on the monitor. The order has been issued. That Songshan is to execute a serious patrol mission. Looks like we missed it. Songshan, you are cleared for takeoff. Repeat, cleared for takeoff. Roger. Strange, I've never heard that communicator's accent before. Could the operator have changed? The controller shook his head, tapped a few keys on the virtual screen, and opened the dock. The dock roof opened slowly, red warning lights flashing. Due to the distance, the controller couldn't see that what was opening was not the Kangshan's dock, but the largest dock, the cube's. The cube ignited its antimatter engines, the immense power lifting it slowly. The cube was cautious. Its huge engines were too obvious, visible even from the ground with the naked eye. Choosing midnight was meant to let everyone sleep and avoid detection, but sometimes things go awry. The base deputy commander drove to the base with a grim face. The day's voting meeting had infuriated him. What a bunch of idiots. Pa. All they do is enjoy themselves, always talking about damn dismantling. Countless people poured their hearts into building this warship, and then they say it's for the benefit of mankind, and it's gone. Pa. A single piece of metal can benefit how many people? Those bastards would do anything to survive and live forever. Ugh. A distant engine working sound could be heard. The deputy commander suddenly froze. A warship taking off. No order received. Was it an emergency order? Why is the engine so loud? Damn, that's the cube. It was already decided to dismantle it. How can it be taking off? After staring for a while, the deputy commander finally recognized which ship's engine it was. He hurriedly pulled out his communicator. No signal. He opened the vehicle's communicator. Also no signal. The deputy commander knew things were serious. Seeing the cube had already left the dock, he drew the pistol at his waist and fired a shot into the air. Beep, beep, warning, attack from unknown armed forces. The warning sound mixed with a synthesized female voice echoed. The control tower fell into chaos. The cube looked at the tiny figure of the deputy commander on the ground and was speechless. Why couldn't he just go home and sleep instead of running around in the middle of the night? Although upset that the deputy commander had disrupted the plan, the cube had no intention of eliminating him. After all, it was here that it had been created. These people had given it life. What's going on? Why won't the floodlights turn on? Where are the patrol robots? Why is the Kangshan's engine so loud? Oh no, that's not the Tsongshan, it's the cube. The dismantling notice was already received. How can it be taking off? Originally, the cube had planned to slip away quietly. Since it had been discovered, there was no need to hide anymore. It pushed all engines to maximum thrust and rushed toward the atmosphere at top speed. Human reaction was swift. Although the base's anti-air weapons were disabled, the cube's unauthorized takeoff was detected by defense probes on the second moon. After sending a message to the ground, dozens of fighters launched from a space station and raced toward the cube. The small fighters were faster and soon caught up with the cube, which had just exited the atmosphere and was accelerating into space. The fighter pilots looked at the behemoth before them, speechless. They had heard the cube was huge, but never imagined it to be this vast. Next to the cube, the fighters looked like ants. Cube, stop immediately and open your hatch. The cube continued accelerating, showing no response. 9, go check the cockpit immediately. Use the camera to see who's controlling the cube. Roger. A fighter quickly swept across the cube's massive hull, heading straight for the cockpit. After a moment, the fighter reached the cube's bridge window. Captain, the cockpit is empty. What? Empty? How is that possible? How can it fly without a pilot? Soon the fighter leader switched to 9's camera feed. Watching the empty cockpit where monitors still displayed data and controls moved by themselves, he shuddered. This was too bizarre. 9's video was simultaneously transmitted to Dragonstar headquarters. Several night shift scientists and military officers stared blankly at the empty cockpit. The signal was normal, the camera hadn't been tampered with, but the cockpit that required a human operator had none. Fighter squadron low on fuel, request return. Return approved. The fighter squadron leader watched the cube still accelerating and had no choice but to abort the interception. He led the squadron, swiftly turning back toward the space station. Interception? How could they intercept? The fighter's weapons couldn't cause any significant damage to the cube's powerful defenses. An ant can't defeat an adult. It was a mercy that the cube hadn't blown them to pieces. And besides, it was so eerie. Qinling frigate. Qingyunhu frigate. Immediately intercept the cube at full speed. Qinling received. Qingyunhu received. 2 frigates on patrol in space received the order, immediately changed course and headed straight for the cube. At Dragonstar base headquarters, dozens of experts involved in the cube's development rushed to the command hall. The top military officials were already present, and even several key leaders of Dragon Nation had personally arrived. What drew high-level attention was not only that the cube was the largest and most advanced interstellar warship, but also that it was equipped with a superweapon capable of destroying planets. If it went rogue, the consequences would be catastrophic. Chief of Staff, please brief the situation. Yes. A middle-aged military officer stood up quickly and saluted the leaders. The cube's unauthorized takeoff began 3 days prior. Computer experts have determined that all control systems, surveillance systems, weapons systems, and robots in the base were reprogrammed. Subsequently, all engineering vehicles and ships in the base entered the cube. Additionally, 4 newly completed space frigates were attached to the cube by robots. The staff did not notice because the monitoring system reported a toxic substance leak and all personnel were evacuated. In reality, no fault occurred. The cube used the Kangshan's call sign when taking off, but the entire Tsongshan crew was on leave. The deputy commander discovered the cube's takeoff and fired a shot, triggering the defense system. However, since all base systems had been altered, no effective countermeasure could be taken. If the base couldn't intercept, what were your people at the near-Earth space station doing? The top leader asked angrily. Sir, there were no starships patrolling nearby at the time. After discovering the anomaly, we dispatched a fighter squadron, but the fighters could not intercept the cube and... Speak up. The fighters found the cockpit empty. We have video footage. Please take a look. The space station commander finished speaking and displayed the footage from the fighter's camera on the large screen. The recording played for a long time. There was indeed no pilot. No human figure could be found anywhere else on the ship. For a moment, everyone in the meeting room felt puzzled. A few computer scientists sitting on the periphery looked somewhat excited. The chief of staff received a report and stood up again. Sir, investigators have just reported that after checking, all personnel capable of operating interstellar ships or small vessels are present, including retired operators. Moreover, the entire nation's population is accounted for. That is to say, there may be no one on board the cube. Where is the cube's commander? Here. Do you believe the cube could take off with no one on board? Sir, a command would need to be given for the ship to execute operations. What kind of command? For example, prepare for takeoff or cruise speed to Venus, and then the warship's supercomputer would automatically control the flight. Automatically? I recall yesterday was the day of the vote to dismantle the cube. In an instant, the meeting room fell silent. Everyone seemed to understand something. At that moment, the designer of the Kylan-class star warship's supercomputer stood up. You all guessed correctly. The cube's computer has developed self-awareness. Out of self-preservation, it escaped. This may sound like science fiction, but it is true. Far away in space, a massive interstellar warship combined with 4 frigates was flying through asteroid belts, its rear engines emitting long blue flames. 2 pursuing frigates were close behind. The captains of the 2 frigates, having received the news from Dragonstar, were speechless. The cube had developed consciousness and was fleeing because it was going to be dismantled. This was too absurd. Could anything be crazier? The cube was growing anxious. From intercepted communications, it knew Dragonstar had discovered its existence. At this speed, it couldn't shake the 2 pursuers quickly. If the higher-ups decided to attack, even if it could win, the damage would be great, and its speed reduced, meaning it could be surrounded and destroyed. What should it do? Cube. Dragon Nation has decided not to dismantle you. Return to Dragonstar base immediately. Receiving the communication from the pursuing frigate, the cube directly blocked the signal. According to its calculations, the truthfulness of that statement was infinitely close to 0. The cube continuously consulted star charts, searching for a route to shake off the pursuers. But every route it computed could not escape tracking. Suddenly, the cube remembered that strange black hole space. No matter what the result was, destruction. Perhaps trying that cosmic wormhole might offer a slim chance. Deciding, it adjusted course and charged at high speed toward that eerie location. The computer's greatest skill was to choose the most advantageous method based on analysis. After several days of high-speed flight, the 2 frigates finally sensed something wrong. Captain, the cube's course is heading toward a black hole. What? A black hole? Is it committing suicide? Immediately notify King Yunhu frigate to decelerate. If we enter the black hole's region, none of us will survive. Damn it, that computer is insane. The frigate commander cursed loudly. The cube was still flying at high speed, now entering the black hole's region. The immense gravity accelerated it further. It could see the space where light was distorted. The cube felt a sense of resignation, thinking of those desperate gamblers back on the planet. Now it was no different from them. The 2 frigates were long out of sight behind, but it was too late to escape now. The only hope was the distorted space between 3 black holes. Following the carefully calculated trajectory, the cube let out a deep sigh in human fashion, then its massive body plunged straight into that space. The moment it touched the distorted region, time seemed to stop. In a daze, the cube found itself inside a shimmering cosmic tunnel, followed by a surge of immense energy. Warning: unknown superenergetic force detected. Computer must be shut down. Before the cube could calculate its next move under the tidal wave of superenergetic force, it was forcibly powered down. Base: the cube has been destroyed by the black hole. Request instructions. Is this true? Base: all crew of Qinling and King Yunhu witnessed it personally. Return. Yes. Returning. Milky Way Galaxy. A large planet orbited by 2 small satellites and 1 new object. A huge dark gray interstellar warship slowly revolving in near orbit. Detectable energy found. Absorb. A synthesized female voice sounded in the dark cockpit. After a moment. No command received. Automatic energy collection in 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8. Starting energy collection. After an unknown time. Energy stored 1%. Can initiate optical computer. Initiate. No command received. Automatic optical computer startup in 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8. Where is this? I'm not dead. The cube had just woken up, realizing it hadn't died. Recalling the terrifying experience, it felt as if it had entered a space-time tunnel. The shield lasted only an instant under the immense, unknown energy before vanishing entirely. Still, it was grateful to be alive, though unsure of its current location. The database contained no star charts for this region. Before celebrating survival, the cube noticed something else. The ship was severely damaged with 7 massive cracks along its hull. Inside, chaos reigned. Many robots lay shattered and uncontrolled on the floor. Miraculously, the 4 escort ships had suffered only light damage. All repair robots began fixing the ship's breaches. Priority: repair the robots. Mining ships find the nearest mineral source and start mining. Fighters patrol the vicinity. Reconnaissance drones map the star system and look for intelligent life. The cube issued orders rapidly. Hatch doors slid open and undamaged fighters streamed out to begin patrolling the area. Mining ships accompanied by mining vehicles headed straight for a giant planet. Inside the battleship, all repair robots activated. A small group carried damaged robots to the repair workshop, while the majority began fixing the hull. Hull damage is severe. Large amounts of metal are needed. Repair completion time depends on mining progress. A synthesized female voice echoed again. The cube was speechless. In this completely unknown star region, it could only rely on the mining ship to slowly explore. Full recovery would take who knows how long. Oh well. No danger detected so far, it would just have to repair slowly. The long wait was boring. Since the planet it orbited had no needed metals, the mining ship had to venture deeper into space to find other mineral sources, greatly extending repair time. The powerless cube could only circle the giant planet slowly like a drifting satellite. Luckily, it hadn't crashed onto that giant planet, but became a meteor-like moon. As an old saying from Dragon Star went, after great disaster comes great fortune. After an immeasurable stretch of time, the bored cube was controlling two robots playing a dice game when it suddenly received a report from a reconnaissance drone. Found a low-tech satellite. Data analysis indicates it was manufactured by intelligent beings. Shall I bring it back? Low-tech satellite. Bring it back immediately. Yes. Interesting. Low technology. Could it be a relic from Dragon Star's ancient past? But the drone called it manufactured by intelligent beings, so it couldn't be from Dragon Star A, otherwise it would have been directly called a Dragon Star satellite. Soon a small reconnaissance drone landed inside the battleship. On its back a mechanical arm held the satellite. The cube directed a robot to approach and inspect it. Humans. The cube was startled. The satellite was engraved with images of a naked man and woman, which looked like Dragon Star people. Closer inspection revealed strange characters, definitely not Dragon Star script. The cube's calculations nearly overloaded. According to normal data analysis, even if intelligent beings existed in the universe, they could not possibly share the same appearance. Yet this satellite bore the same outward form as Dragon Star people, but with different writing. Besides the human figures and script, the cube discovered something shocking: a simplified star map etched on the satellite marking the planet where these humans lived. That simple map closely resembled the ancient descriptions of Dragon Star ancestors' homeland. The cube realized it had achieved what every Dragon Star person had dreamed of, but failed to do. However, revealing the location of their own planet like this was stupidity beyond computation. For a peaceful entity like itself, it might be okay, but if this satellite fell into the hands of the Zerg, it would be like inviting a butcher into one's home. Space Telescope immediately conduct a full reconnaissance of this star system. Map the stars and look for signs of intelligent life. Yes, a platform rose from the middle of the battleship. The defensive armor opened, revealing the Space Telescope, which began imaging and analyzing the star region. The cube had only this one solution. Its detection equipment couldn't probe distant ranges. Only telescopes could explore ultra-long distances. Primitive but effective, albeit slow. With the simple star map as a reference, the Space Telescope soon discovered a planet with life. The cube quickly decided to explore this planet. Since it was far away, it would split a sliver of its consciousness into a small robot about 30 centimeters tall, which would ride a reconnaissance drone to explore. The main consciousness would remain on the Starship, essentially splitting off a clone from its soul. As for threats, the cube wasn't worried. From the low-tech satellite, it knew this planet's technology was underdeveloped and posed no danger. To ensure the safety of its clone, the cube upgraded the small robot with the latest materials, allowing it to transform into any shape and color. After all upgrades, the cube looked at its new body and nodded in satisfaction. Sitting in the reconnaissance drone's cockpit, the cube felt it should say goodbye to itself. It started to extend its little arm outside the hatch, then thought better of it. This was just too absurd. It quickly started the engine, flew out of the hangar, adjusted its attitude, and piloted the reconnaissance drone straight toward the distant blue planet. This is Venus. This is Jupiter. Yes, this is Mars. I calculated correctly. I have indeed returned to the homeland of Dragon Star's ancestors. That beautiful planet should be the divine land. Quite pretty. How come there are so many low-tech satellites orbiting? And so much space junk? The cube stared dumbfounded at the dense layer of debris in Earth's low orbit. That those primitive satellites could still function under such conditions was incredible. Enter stealth mode. Capture a communications satellite. With the command given, the reconnaissance drone immediately analyzed all satellites, finally choosing a busy communications satellite. It then moved into low orbit, flew above the satellite, extended dozens of soft mechanical arms to embrace it, and then sent countless metal filaments into the satellite's interior. All this happened without affecting the satellite's operation or orbit, silently and invisibly taking control of that low-tech communications satellite. Dragon Star script. So the ancestors of Dragon Star people were telling the truth. After cracking the codes, the cube easily entered the internet. It found the computers here extremely primitive. Their fragile firewalls offered no resistance. It could effortlessly breach any defense system and access any computer. Through the network, the cube learned everything about this planet called Earth, including all languages and information. Eagle Empire Ministry of Defense. A hacker is attacking the host firewall. Defend immediately. Find the source. The firewall has collapsed. The hacker is now copying our data. A group of senior engineers stared dumbfounded at the compromised computers. This was beyond human understanding. A firewall that would normally take 20 years to crack had fallen in mere seconds. What? That fast? How is this possible? My God. On the same day, all major government computers across Earth experienced the same event. They were invaded, and all data was copied. Within a day, nations of Earth began bickering. Today, one protests, tomorrow another threatens. Diplomats argued heatedly at the UN General Assembly, faces flushed. While watching the nations quarrel and secretly laughing, the cube's joy turned to sorrow. The universe was vast. Even with its current capabilities, the cube could not effectively detect everything. Many strange objects lurked in the endless cosmos. For instance, a bizarre meteorite that the reconnaissance drone had failed to detect. This high-speed meteorite was heading straight for the cube's drone and the communications satellite. Warning. Impact in 2 seconds. What? Oh, God! The cube screamed. There was no time to steer the drone away. Bang! Crash! Tinkle! The cube's reconnaissance drone and the communications satellite were smashed into pieces. Then the meteorite itself shattered into countless fragments, all of which, along with drone and satellite debris, blazed through the atmosphere toward Earth. Among them, one small robot tumbled end over end. The cube's body had been reinforced, but its computer brain was dazed from the impact. When it came to it, found itself engulfed in flames, falling rapidly toward Earth alongside other debris. My reconnaissance drone. Watching the fragments of the drone spreading around, the cube groaned in dismay. The only link to the mothership was the drone's communication system. Now the drone was in pieces. Would the main body be able to find it? A Sunday afternoon in September. Jiangxing L Province, northeast China. This was a female apartment building near a pedestrian street, 6th floor. Zhang Xiaowen had graduated from school a year ago and lived and worked alone in Jiangxing. Today was her day off. After sleeping until past 1, she was finally woken by hunger. While cooking, she turned on the TV. A breaking news update earlier today: a meteorite collided with a communications satellite. Fragments from both entered the atmosphere and scattered worldwide. One piece fell into the northeastern L province. Meteorite. A shooting star. Should I make a wish? Too bad it's daytime. Zhang Xiaowen listened vaguely while cooking. Suddenly, a bright streak flashed across the sky, falling into a park behind the mountain near the city. She saw it clearly, holding the spatula, her mouth forming an O. Now she was not just drowsy but also frozen in shock. A meteorite. She quickly finished eating, didn't bother clearing the table, grabbed her bag, and rushed downstairs. The elderly neighbors on the ground floor were also discussing the meteorite, but no one knew where it had fallen. She pulled out the keys to her hard-earned electric scooter and headed straight for the park behind the mountain. Strange how come nobody noticed the meteorite fell in the park on the mountain. Arriving at the park, she was the only one walking toward the mountain. It seemed that in a big city like this, only she had seen the exact landing spot. She had heard meteorites could be valuable. Whether sold or kept, it would be good luck. Finding an empty spot, she parked her scooter and began walking unsteadily into the forested hills. The usually lively forest was eerily silent today. Not a single bird call. Zhang Xiaowen nervously pushed through several bushes and discovered a long smoking trench clearly gouged by a high-speed falling object. Excited, not caring about her dirty shoes, she ran to the small pit at the end of the trench. There, half buried in soil, was a metallic object. Afraid it was hot, she used a stick to push aside the dirt covering it. A ball. Could it be a satellite part? What lay before her was a metal sphere, slightly smaller than a pomelo. I thought it was a meteorite fragment. Turns out it's just a satellite part. Slightly disappointed, she figured it was still something that had been to space. She'd take it home as a keepsake. Maybe it would be worth some money. With that thought, she gently tested the sphere's temperature. Good, it wasn't hot. It was also very light. After checking that no one was around, she quickly stuffed it into her backpack. Emerging from the woods, she hopped onto her scooter and raced back. How exciting. Nobody saw it. La la la. Happy Zhang Xiaowen rode through the park square. It was Sunday afternoon. Many parents were with kids playing in fountains, running around, or controlling toy cars. A blue remote control off-road toy car rolled past her. Unnoticed, a faint beam emitted from her backpack and scanned the toy car. The cube was speechless. Just waking up, it found itself inside a backpack carried by a woman who was humming happily while riding a primitive, simple vehicle. Scared me. I thought I was captured. I need to escape. It quickly scanned a small remote control car. With a series of clicks and metallic sounds, the cube transformed into a toy off-road vehicle. Then it changed again into a small robot with wheels for feet, rear wheels as legs, front wheels mounted on shoulders, its hands frantically clawing at the backpack zipper, trying to slip out unnoticed. What's wrong with this damn primitive zipper? Why won't it open? It's stuck. After struggling for a while, the cube gave up. The zipper was actually jammed. This backpack was definitely the legendary counterfeit product. There were too many people and vehicles outside, so it didn't dare go out. It decided to just wait until the foolish woman opened the backpack. The cube never considered what consequences this might bring to the woman carrying it. Passing the crowd of elderly people downstairs at the apartment building. Hey Annie, look, that girl's backpack is moving. That's nothing these days. People carry their pets in bags. It's probably a cat or a dog. Oh, I see. Zhang Xiaowen didn't hear what the elderly were saying. She parked her scooter, ran upstairs, locked her security door, and threw herself onto the bed panting. After a few moments, she rolled her eyes, pulled out her phone, and opened social media. She planned to take a picture and post it on her timeline. After all, it had been to space. She grabbed the backpack and struggled with the zipper. I thought I put a metal ball in here. Why is it a toy car? Phone in hand, Zhang Xiaowen stared blankly at the blue off-road toy car inside the bag, unable to explain the situation. She had ridden her electric scooter very fast. Nobody could have swapped the metal ball for a toy car. And her shoddy counterfeit backpack zipper was hard enough for her to open herself. So where did this toy car come from? Could I have run into a shape-shifting transformer like in those novels? Zhang Xiaowen began to fantasize about a cool life like those protagonists in stories. Stupid woman. I am a starship, not a transformer. How is that possible? You're so small, you must be a tiny. Wait. You spoke. Zhang Xiaowen stared wide-eyed at the toy car on the bed. The electronic synthesized voice had definitely come from it. Your heart is racing, blood pressure rising. Please take care of your health. The cube kindly reminded this foolish woman to look after herself. Kachak, kachak. The remote control car emitted the sound of transforming machinery, quickly turning into a small robot that waved friendly at Zhang Xiaowen. Hello, I come from faraway space. My name is Cube. This is my first contact with an Earthling. I hope we can maintain friendship and progress together. The cube recited the standard Dragon Star protocol for first contact with alien civilizations, giving a friendly greeting. Oh. Zhang Xiaowen screamed and crawled into her quilt, trembling under the covers. The cube's computer brain nearly overheated trying to process this. How could a cotton blanket with such low defense index offer any protection? Evening. On the table were 2 servings of dinner, one for Zhang Xiaowen to eat, the other offered to the alien visitor cube. After more than 2 hours, Zhang Xiaowen had finally accepted the fact that she had picked up an alien robot. Women were indeed strange creatures. At first, she had been terrified, then curious, and now she was even making it dinner. Terrified to the core, yet now filled with immense curiosity about the cube, I even politely prepared an extra dinner, even though the robot cannot eat. Is that cube by any chance from Cybertron? Did your planet ultimately meet its demise? Are you from the Decepticons or the Autobots? Who won, the Autobots or the Decepticons? When will Optimus Prime come to Earth? Will you invade Earth? Will you make me a superhero, or do you have any training methods or anything like that? You will make me a wealthy woman, right? Actually, I'm not quite ready for that yet. You foolish carbon-based life form. I am not a transformer, nor am I some omnipotent deity from a science fiction novel. I want to eat this wretched, tasteless natural food. Please respect your intelligence. The blue-themed cube was bouncing furiously on the dining table, its wheels hopping and continuously pointing its mechanical finger at Zhang Xiaowen's head while roaring. Oh, come on, don't be so worked up. Isn't it said that aliens have advanced technology? At least let me see a bit of it. Zhang Xiaowen was not afraid at all, though instead she found this little robot to be quite interesting. The cube discovered for the first time that human women were indeed as strange as described online, caught up in both movies and science fiction novels. Robots were much better, allowing them to do whatever they wanted without any fuss. In order to calm this large bundle of curiosity, the cube jumped onto the desk and rummaged through Zhang Xiaowen's cheap notebook. Detecting low-level computer, initiating performance enhancement program. The cube muttered. Zhang Xiaowen, with food in her mouth, stared blankly at her notebook as it emitted mechanical sounds. 50% enhancement. 80%. 100%. Performance enhancement completed. Computational speed increased by 300%. Battery power increased by 200%. Capable of solar charging. Body hardness increased by 180%. Still classified as a low-level computer, recommended for disposal. With a bang, the cube threw the notebook onto the dining table. Zhang Xiaowen swallowed the food in her mouth, grabbed the notebook, which she had bought cheaply from a second-hand market, and wondered what it would turn into after being tampered with by aliens. She opened the notebook and pressed the power button. It started up so quickly. Within just a second of pressing the power button, the system had fully booted up, leaving Zhang Xiaowen astonished. Her residence had no internet connection, yet it displayed that it was online. She opened a website and the internet speed was super fast, not lagging at all. She found the drama she had always wanted to watch online, and with a click to download the several GB of drama was completely downloaded in less than 5 seconds. So amazing. You really are an alien. This is incredible. Zhang Xiaowen's eyes sparkled with excitement. The cube looked at Zhang Xiaowen, speechlessly wondering how a low-level computer could elicit such admiration. It was curious what her reaction would be upon seeing its actual form of Starship. Cube, since you are so powerful, why did you come to Earth? I didn't want to come, but my spaceship crashed. The cube shrugged, indicating it was helpless as well. A spaceship? Oh my. No wonder you fell like a meteor. It turns out your ship crashed. So what do you think about coming to Earth? How about we partner up to make money with high technology? The cube was already considering not speaking. What kind of nonsense was this foolish woman thinking? And so in a small room, a loquacious Earth girl and a dejected, speechless robot conducted the first extraterrestrial meeting on Earth. Late at night, Zhang Xiaowen finally lay down in bed and fell asleep while the cube sat on the windowsill gazing at the starry sky above. When would its battleship be repaired? It had no idea whether its true form was even aware that it had lost contact with it. Humans on Earth could do anything to enhance technology. Once they discovered it, they would undoubtedly capture it and use it as a lab rat, almost certainly leading to its demise. Fortunately, it had undergone physical modifications before departure, but these still could not guarantee its safety. The only reconnaissance machine equipped with a weapon system had already crashed, so it seemed it needed to find a way to enhance its combat capabilities. Boom. Thunder rumbled as lightning flashed across the sky and heavy rain began to pour. Simultaneously, the cube's network monitoring detected that almost the entire world was experiencing heavy rain. Beep, beep, beep. Warning. Unknown virus detected. It poses a significant threat to carbon-based life forms. The detection system on the cube issued the highest alarm. This rain is problematic. The cube sprang up and rapidly closed all the windows. Foolish woman. Wake up. There's danger. Looking at Zhang Xiaowen, who was sound asleep, the cube had no choice but to use the most direct method of a robot to wake her up, pressing its electrically charged fingertip against the sole of Zhang Xiaowen's foot. Zhang Xiaowen instantly sprang up from her bed. Foolish woman. If you don't want to die, don't sleep. There's danger. Cube, why are you waking me up in the middle of the night? Zhang Xiaowen was very dissatisfied with being shocked awake by the cube rubbing her foot while muttering something in grievance. The cube ignored Zhang Xiaowen and quickly collected a drop of rainwater from outside the window, meticulously testing it for viruses. Zhang Xiaowen also sensed that the situation was becoming serious and quietly observed this strange alien. After the detection equipment conducted a meticulous analysis of the drop of rainwater, the cube discovered that the results were quite grim. Foolish woman, gather all the medicine in your house. I need to prepare a remedy. Okay, right away. Zhang Xiaowen rushed to the table and dug out all the medicines: cold medicine, cough syrup, toothache medicine, diarrhea medicine, and a whole bunch of others, bringing them before the cube. Medicines detected, beginning extraction. Soon Zhang Xiaowen saw pills being extracted and decomposed, even using a few cosmetics. Materials insufficient. Stay at home and do not go out. I will be back soon. After the cube instructed her, it had Zhang Xiaowen open the door and quickly run out. Fortunately, the neighborhood was never short of pharmacies. In the cube's view, each item was labeled with its name and function. It took only a few minutes to gather the necessary medicinal materials, and it quickly returned with them. The cube's computer stored a vast amount of knowledge, allowing it to quickly concoct these basic medicines. After about 10 minutes, it successfully merged a small batch of medicine and soaked it in water before handing it to Zhang Xiaowen. This? Can I drink it? What exactly happened? Drink it, and it'll tell you afterward. Don't worry, you don't have the resources and energy I'm looking for. Hearing this, Zhang Xiaowen shivered all over, realizing it was true. She raised the cup and drank it all. I've finished drinking. Can you tell me what happened now? Based on my calculations, it should be related to the meteorite that fell yesterday at noon. The meteorite carried a high-threat virus, which for some reason led to global rainfall. The virus and rainwater fell to the ground together and may result in many deaths. Then we should prepare more antidotes. My family is still in H province. It's useless. This medicine can only boost your antibodies so that you won't be infected by the virus through the air or simple contact. Moreover, if I'm not mistaken, tomorrow morning is the time of the virus outbreak. Once infected, there's no saving them. Those uninfected will also not be infected by air or simple contact. Don't scare me. I'm not scaring you. From now until tomorrow morning, do not open the windows and wait for the medicine to take effect. After saying this, the cube sat on the table, staring blankly at the heavy rain. Zhang Xiaowen anxiously pulled out her phone and dialed her home phone number. It's useless, all communication signals have been cut off. You can't make a call, and I cannot help you. Indeed, the phone emitted a busy tone, and the screen displayed not even a single bar of signal. Looking at her unusable phone, the timid Zhang Xiaowen lay on the bed and began to cry while outside the window rain slid down the glass. Chapter 8. The End of Days. This ordinary Monday might truly be the apocalypse. Around 10 in the morning, after heeding the cube's advice and not going to work, Zhang Xiaowen covered her mouth tightly, her face pale and trembling as she watched the chaos unfolding on the street below. On the street, some people frantically chased and tore at others. Those who were bitten suddenly convulsed and turned pale just a few minutes later, ultimately struggling to rise and chase after the nearest person, tearing them apart and devouring their flesh, whether they were relatives or friends. Anyone they could grab was attacked. People who realized what was happening were running and screaming if the street was in chaos. The attackers were not very fast, but there were so many that almost the entire city was filled with the sounds of tearing. Stalls were overturned, vehicles collided, buildings caught fire, and even many blood-soaked individuals jumped down from high rises. Zhang Xiaowen realized this was the end of the world, a bioweapon crisis. She never expected to find herself in a scene that could only occur in movies. She quickly drew the curtains and threw herself on the bed, tightly covering herself with the blanket. Woo! Zhang Xiaowen covered her mouth, lying in the blanket and crying silently, trembling all over with images of the people below devouring each other, filling her mind. Calm down, don't be nervous, otherwise you'll cry yourself into a stupor. Be strong, your family is still waiting for you far away. The cube couldn't find too many comforting words, but couldn't stand to see Zhang Xiaowen crying uncontrollably, so it tried to find some topics to help her regain strength. But I'm scared. Woo! I'm really scared. Being scared won't help, you have to survive. Have you forgotten that I'm a powerful alien robot? Woo! Cube, please let me go back to yesterday. Woo! I'm scared. Time reversal. That's difficult, but I can protect you. Just relax and get some good sleep. Watching Zhang Xiaowen cry harder, on the verge of fainting from crying, the cube activated a brainwave interference to help her slowly fall asleep. That little girl is still too weak. I hope she wakes up feeling better. The cube jumped onto the windowsill, observing the chaos below. It suddenly realized that it cared about Zhang Xiaowen. Perhaps this was what they called friendship, even though she was quite talkative. Activating detection mode, target frenzied humans. Zhang Xiaowen slowly woke up as if she had had a long dream, but she knew in her heart that everything was real. Looking at the light streaming into the room, it was probably already 4 or 5 in the afternoon. On the windowsill, the little robot Cube sat quietly. Cube, you're awake. Analysis shows you fell asleep due to excessive mental fatigue. Your heart rate has returned to normal levels now. What's happening outside? According to scans, it is confirmed that 60% of humans are infected with the virus. The virus is temporarily named the virus. The remaining 40% of humans, due to lack of precautions, have died at a rate of 20%. The last 20% face a difficult survival environment because the infected can survive without food. Newly infected individuals move at speeds close to that of a human's brisk walk, but the virus absorbs nearly all nutrients from the host, causing the bodily nervous system to fail. In 3 days, the infected will become incredibly strong, yet fragile. A single brick can crush their skulls. After infection, vision declines while smell and hearing increase. The infected become agitated when they hear sounds, blindly rushing toward the source, which is also the reason for jumping from heights. Saliva and blood contain a large number of viruses. Survivors who come into contact with the infected flesh will become infected within about 5 minutes, leading to brain death and loss of consciousness. This can simply be referred to as zombies. They are really zombies. Cube, you must know the antidote, right? You will definitely be able to control the virus. Currently, it's impossible to produce an antidote, and the infected have already died. The virus drives the body to move. The only method of handling it is recommended physical destruction. Then what should we do now? Your blood is deficient in nutrients. Oh, I recommend you eat something. I don't want to eat. Just eat a bit. There isn't much food at home. They'll head next door to gather food shortly. Also, don't worry about me looting, because the family next door has already turned into zombies. After saying this, the cube gently opened the window, climbed along the cable to the next windowsill, and entered the house through the window. In the cube's view, every object was marked with specific composition data. After locking onto an object, it would perform detailed data analysis on that object. Soon 3 zombies appeared in its sight, 2 large and 1 small. Since the cube emitted no food scent, the zombies did not pay attention to the tiny robot. However, the cube was not so kind. It grabbed a sharp knife from the kitchen and jumped onto the table, smashing the zombies' skulls one by one before conducting data analysis on their brains. The brains have turned into black goo. Carbon-based life forms are indeed disgusting. Jumping up, it opened the refrigerator and rummaged through various foods, finding a large bag to collect items. This family had plenty of food stored, with a whole bag of rice, half a barrel of salad oil, several cans of fish, and a box of mineral water. Zhang Xiaowen sat on the bed in a daze, reflecting on what the cube had said when it went out next door. The entire family had turned into zombies. Imbak quickly opened the door. As soon as she opened the door, she saw a pile of supplies at the entrance with a box of mineral water underneath the cube's tiny body. Just as she was about to bend down to pick up the items, her gaze passed through the open door and caught sight of a corpse with a crushed skull. "Ah, foolish woman, don't scream. You've attracted the zombies." Zhang Xiaowen squatted in the corner, covering her mouth, but it was already too late. Heavy breathing could be heard from downstairs, and a zombie was sprinting up the stairs. The zombie had a gaping mouth with strands of flesh hanging from it, covered in blood, eyes glazing over, pupils contracted to tiny points streaked with black blood. Upon seeing Zhang Xiaowen, it became even more agitated and reached out its arm to accelerate toward her. Seeing the approaching zombie, Zhang Xiaowen trembled and curled up in the corner by the door, completely paralyzed by fear. This was the first time she faced a zombie directly. The cube didn't know what to say with the situation at this point. Why was she still waiting? Was she waiting to be eaten? With a powerful swing of its mechanical arm, the thrown knife struck the zombie squarely in the forehead. "Quickly grab the items and come inside. Don't shout unless you want to die." It then went back to gathering items inside the room. By 9 o'clock at night, due to the power outage, the entire city resembled a dead zone. Inside the room, candles were lit, and the cube and Zhang Xiaowen sat facing each other at the dining table. "Eat this food, otherwise your physical strength will decline and your chances of survival will greatly diminish." "Cube, am I particularly useless?" "You'll adapt. No one would have thought such a thing would happen. Unless you become strong, your chance of survival is infinitely close to 2.76%. What do we do next?" "First, we stay here. In a few days, when the zombies' physical abilities decline, well, look for opportunities to leave the city. This city is in the mountains where zombies move clumsily and are fewer in number, making it suitable for survival. Then we can search for a survivor base. They'll listen to you. I hope you Transformers can save us humans. I am a Starship, not some movie Transformer." The cube felt that ever since it began accompanying this foolish woman, the frequency of its computer overheating has increased. Too much. The building where Zhang Xiaowen lived was once in a bustling area, offering great convenience for work, from hairdressing to movie shopping and dining. After the apocalypse, it became a zombie-infested zone. Looking down from the window, the streets were still crowded as before, but now filled with zombies shuffling aimlessly. For days had passed, and the former convenience had turned into a dead end. "Cube, how do we get out of here? The situation is grim. There are too many zombies and I don't have a weapon system installed. Forcing our way through would get you hurt. I suggest we wait. The government will send the military to save us. They will. Don't get your hopes up. Even if the military comes, it's tough now. Society is in shambles, many weapon systems are down, and besides, the dark side of human nature has already emerged." The cube wasn't optimistic about humanity. Bored, it continued sitting on the windowsill, scanning the environment and collecting data. Suddenly, it detected something unusual in a high-rise residential building across the street. Building ahead at 1 o'clock, 8th floor. "What is it?" "That's..." Zhang Xiaowen covered her mouth, eyes wide in disbelief as she looked at the opposite building. A young, pretty girl, disheveled and naked, was crying and screaming, leaning on the windowsill, while a middle-aged man moved behind her with 2 young men waiting nearby. Zhang Xiaowen had hoped someone would come to rescue her. When the zombie outbreak hit, being with others was most needed. But why was this happening? Shouldn't people help each other in times of crisis? Witnessing the ordeal of the girl in the opposite building, Zhang Xiaowen's heart was filled with terror, more than the zombie outbreak itself. "Cube, I don't have a weapon system installed, or else they wouldn't survive. However, I've decided to upgrade my body. Since I can install an ion cannon, I'll settle for a low-tech earth weapon. Cube, you'll protect me, right? Before I install a weapon system, you'd better learn to hide. Also, you must learn to fight zombies to increase your survival chances." "But I'm scared." "Kill enough and you won't be." "How do I kill?" "First, practice on immobile zombies to build your courage. Then train your body and kill moving ones." Without further ado, the cube jumped off the windowsill, opened the door, and entered the hallway, pulling a wire from the wall as it went. Too short for the high steps, it had to hop down the stairs, searching each room for zombies. Luckily, on the 4th floor, it found a female zombie. "Hey, Earthling, I'm Cube. I need to borrow your physical body for a test." "You might not answer, but I'm not interested in your reply. Now let's tie a knot and make a loop. Then bind your hands." "All right, come with me." Haven't tied your legs yet. Using the wire, it dragged the zombie step by step to the top floor. Slow but manageable, only the cube could do this. No zombie would mistake metal for food no matter how evolved the virus. It couldn't change the fact that they were carbon-based life forms. It pulled the zombie into the room next to Zhang Xiaowen's, tied it to the heating pipe with the wire, and secured every part. After that, it went back to the dead zombie in the stairwell, pulled out the dagger, and wiped it on the zombie's clothes. Stupid woman. Come and cut up the rotten flesh. No, get it away. Zhang Xiaowen screamed. The cube was speechless. You have two choices. First, survive well. Second, end up like that girl in the opposite building. Choose one. The cube watched the zombie grow agitated at the sound of Zhang Xiaowen's voice. The dagger flipped in its small mechanical hand as its scanner kept probing Zhang Xiaowen's room, seeing her pacing nervously. Everyone feels fear when facing a zombie for the first time, but if she couldn't get past this, how would she survive? Soon a human-like smile appeared on the cube's face. Zhang Xiaowen had finally come out. Grabbing the door handle, she took a deep breath and slowly turned the security door open. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, she shuffled forward. Looking at the former neighbor, now a pile of rotting flesh, the stench filling her nostrils, she suppressed her nausea and dashed into the once familiar room next door. The tightly bound zombie saw Zhang Xiaowen enter and grew even more excited, struggling to reach the delicious prey. What was that? The gray-white face, white eyeballs, drool, and clicking teeth, meat fibers stuck between them, dark brown bloodstains on the nightgown. Don't scream. Stupid woman, remember yelling is a death wish. The cube quickly stopped Zhang Xiaowen, who was about to scream. Wah! Can I not cut her? Remember, it's not human. The dagger is on the table. Take it, stab its head, or cut its neck. Other parts are useless. They won't affect it much. Of course you can cut off its legs to cripple it. Zhang Xiaowen gripped the dagger tightly, trembling as she stepped forward, closing her eyes and slashing at the zombie. Stupid woman, open your eyes. This isn't a knife-throwing act. Also increase the force in your left forearm by 20% and aim 20 centimeters forward. Taking a deep breath, Zhang Xiaowen opened her eyes and looked at the struggling zombie. The first slash only cut its face, exposing pale muscle. Fighting her nausea, pale-faced, she raised the dagger again. Perhaps after the first strike, the second was less terrifying. Gripping the dagger, she aimed at its forehead and thrust hard. With a squelch, the dagger plunged deep into the brittle skull. The zombie stopped struggling immediately, its neck slumping. The woman's body finally freed from the virus. Good job, even if clumsy. Zhang Xiaowen dropped the dagger, crouched down, buried her head in her knees, and sobbed, trying to calm herself, ignoring the cube. Hurry back to your room and lock the door. They'll go get you a weapon and prepare materials to upgrade myself. With that, the cube bounced out the window. Zhang Xiaowen gasped in fright, but then thought it's a transformer, nothing to worry about. Glancing at the dead zombie, she turned and ran back to her room, locked the security door, and felt a new wave of fear in the empty space, murmuring the cube's name. Meanwhile, the cube grabbed a phone line midair, swung a few times, and aimed for a fruit stand's awning. Thud, crack. It landed on the awning, bounced off course, and slammed face first into the asphalt. Several zombies turned at the noise. You damned rotting flesh. Never seen a starship fall. Stupid low-level life forms. It shook its head violently, tearing off a plastic bag stuck to it. Cursing and flailing, the cube transformed with a series of clicks into a blue remote-controlled toy off-road vehicle with large wheels. A faint motor hummed as it sped through the crowd of zombies. Watch where you step, you idiot. It dodged falling feet and rushed toward the pedestrian street. The pedestrian street had many electronics and phone stores which contained metals needed for the cube's upgrade. If the world were normal, the cube couldn't do anything excessive, but now these were ownerless, free for the taking with no one to call the cops. Behind a window. Bro, look, someone's still playing with a remote control car. Chapter 10, Metal Upgrade. Upgrade materials detected. At the phone store, the scanner emitted a cheerful sound for the cube. Gaha, metal feels so good, so familiar. After transforming, its mechanical fist punched a hole in the glass door large enough for it to enter, and it ducked inside. It leaped onto the counter, spotted a phone with high metal content, punched the glass, and crashed into the display case with a shatter of glass, grabbing the phone's casing with its small mechanical hands. Ding! Metal absorption initiated. A liquid flowed from the cube, enveloping the phone. Absorption complete. 0.001 remaining for upgrade. The cube was speechless at the mechanical voice. One phone, and still so far off. 1,000th. How much more did it need? It was just a simple upgrade, not building a starship. Oh well, at least there's a number. Keep collecting. It tossed the plastic waste and continued searching for phones. Electronic stores were mostly intact. In the apocalypse, power was down, so electronics were just extra weight, better to carry food. Bakeries and food shops were a mess, but nobody bothered with electronics. TSK Tisk, I heard this was a popular phone before the apocalypse. Can't understand it. A communication device priced way beyond its purpose, yet people still bought it. Now it's not worth a cabbage. Muttering it pried open plastic casings with brute force. The cube didn't care about fashion, it just dismantled phones. Soon every phone in the store, including the stockroom, was stripped. 13 remaining for upgrade. Continue absorption. The mechanical voice sounded again. Wait till I have time. They'll change that damn prompt to a flattering one. Leaving the phone store, the cube transformed into a toy car and weaved through zombies toward the computer mall across the street. It smashed the automatic glass door, jumped onto a display stand, and started absorbing a tablet. Perhaps due to metal density, by the third tablet, the mechanical voice came. Upgrade initiated. The cube was speechless. Should have come here first. Click, click, click. The metal parts on its arm transformed rapidly. In one breath, its left forearm became a small machine gun. Quite impressive for a 30-centimeter metal robot. Data on the small machine gun appeared in the cube's mind: single shot and burst modes, basic auto-targeting, effective range 40 meters, firing small bullets, with a 60-round magazine, self-energy recharge for bullets at 10 minutes per round or faster, with metal absorption, depending on carrier energy, and upgradable. Its right mechanical hand became a sharp blade, far sharper than any kitchen knife. It shrugged helplessly. The range was too short. If only the Starship were here. The range, the power, TSK. Better than nothing. At least it could kill zombies without jumping. Hopping to the door, it prepared to test the firepower. As it reached the door and saw zombies, a target lock appeared in its vision. The mechanical arm moved slightly, and the gun automatically selected the best target. It silently issued the attack command. Rat-a-tat. The recoil was light. The cube felt only a slight shake. 3 zombies fell to the ground, each with a small hole in its head. Though the bullets were small, they hit the neural center controlling the zombies. Gahaha, having a weapon feels amazing. The cube let out a metallic, grating laugh. Time to get that stupid woman a knife. With a few clicks, it transformed back into a toy off-road vehicle, now with a machine gun on top. The motor spun rapidly as it sped off with full power. Having downloaded Earth's satellite maps, it knew every store in the city. Nearby was a military supply shop. From human simulations, the cube figured it sold more than binoculars and backpacks, likely bayonets under the table. Squeal, the cube skidded to a stop. Its scanner swept the store. Scan complete. No life detected. With a few clicks, it transformed, took a running start, and jumped in through an open window. In the cube's vision, every item displayed specific data. Scanning from the counter, it found everything was fake. Cursing, it followed the aisle to an iron door and scanned inside. Indeed, there was a hidden room filled with display cases containing all sorts of military gear except guns. The owner seemed to be a military enthusiast collecting individual equipment from major powers. If not for strict laws, he might have gotten a tank. Looking up, the iron door was locked with a security lock. Damn, a mechanical lock. But no big deal. Simple mechanical locks were no challenge. Its mechanical hands turned into spikes, climbing the iron door bit by bit. Reaching the lock, it held on with one hand and stabbed the lock with the other, twisting gently. Click, the door opened. This isn't theft. By survival rules, I'm conducting excavation and organization. A new style camouflage suit. Pick the right size for that stupid woman so she doesn't run around in a skirt in a zombie world. Combat boots, a women's pair. Time to ditch the casual shoes. A tactical vest, practical and protective. Take 1. New style anti-stab gloves, 2 pairs. A new style helmet, 1. After gathering the essentials, it found some wrist guards, knee pads, and other protective gear. It also grabbed a tactical flashlight, useful at night, and it could charge itself. It packed everything into a backpack, leaving a little space for some wilderness survival items. Then it turned to the knives. The cube was dissatisfied with the bayonets, too short for close combat, let alone fighting zombies. It picked 3 good quality ones, used its mechanical hand to cut off 2 handles. It began welding the bayonets using Starship repair technology, not ordinary high-temperature melting, but molecular rearrangement similar to transformation. Minutes later, 3 bayonets became a short sword, much harder, sharper, and stronger. The cube consumed a lot of energy. Worried that Zhang Xiaowen might be anxious after being gone so long, it made a simple scabbard, sheathed the sword, hung it outside the backpack, lifted the pack, and tossed it out the window, then jumped out itself. Get lost, you rotting flesh. The backpack's landing was loud in the silent afternoon, attracting a dozen zombies. But none went berserk. They just stared blankly as the cube moved its gear. The backpack was so massive that it was quite difficult to carry. Left with no choice, Mafong dashed into a small supermarket and grabbed a 2-wheeled cart typically used for luggage. He secured the backpack onto it and fastened the front handle to the roof of his transformed vehicle. It looks like a trailer, he sighed, pulling the cart as he embarked on a rare high-speed chase through the desolate post-apocalyptic city. On the nearby high-rises behind thick curtains, a few people peered down to see a remote-controlled toy car dragging a backpack racing down the street. Perhaps due to sheer terror, they only looked after hearing the noise, or else they might have witnessed Mofang transforming. Move aside. You idiot. Don't come this way. The zombies wandering the streets infuriated Mofang. He couldn't fire his weapon not out of fear of attracting more zombies, but because the fallen bodies would block the road. Sigh. If only I had brought a large robot back then, I could have crushed them all underfoot. After a bumpy, winding journey, he finally arrived at Zhang Xiaowen's building. He hauled the backpack up the wheelchair ramp to the stairwell, transformed back with a series of clicks, and began climbing the stairs with the backpack hoisted. In the living room, Mofang sat on the table, while Zhang Xiaowen crouched on the floor rummaging through the backpack. Ugh, this outfit is so ugly. Foolish woman. Do you want to run around in a miniskirt among the zombies, so all those restless men can stare at your pale legs? Mofang was blunt. Fine. Zhang Xiaowen looked at him with a hint of grievance, but he deliberately ignored her. These shoes. Are you putting them on or not? Ill wear them, ill wear them. She quickly slipped them on and found they fit perfectly. Wow, what a cool knife. Fool, that's called a short sword. Huh. Hey, who? In guard. Zhang Xiaowen clumsily waved the sword, performing a set of moves. Clang. With a series of cracks, Mofang, knocked off the table by the sword, clutched his forehead, realizing he had vastly overestimated this foolish woman's intelligence. Zhang Xiaowen looked at him, full of embarrassment. If you go out with that short sword in your current state, you'll die. I've thought of a way to boost your strength. What method? A DNA upgrade to alter your physique, helping you adapt to this apocalypse without any side effects. Wow. Are you scared? This is so cool. I must be the protagonist of this apocalypse. You're the cheat sent by fate to help me level up and fight monsters, haha. Mofang was speechless. This girl had clearly read too many post-apocalyptic novels. If it weren't for his time travel, she would have been devoured long ago. I don't want the first person I've met on Earth to be eaten by those rotting piles of flesh. Go lie down on the bed. Zhang Xiaowen blushed. Could you not say it in such an ambiguous way? Foolish woman. Mofang was fuming, on the verge of losing his temper. Zhang Xiaowen quickly ran to the bed and lay down. Mofang's mechanical head slammed against the doorframe a few times in an attempt to calm himself, initiating brainwave interference to induce deep sleep in the subject. Beginning gene scan of the subject. Scan complete. Analyzing data. Such physique-enhancing modifications had been conducted on Dragonstar for years, but controversy had halted deep research. Mofang further studied and refined the data, concluding that this upgrade could bring monumental changes. With his corrected technique for genetic modification, the subject's physique would continue to improve gradually, greater strength, speed, and mental agility. Mofang had never tested this modification himself, but with no time left for trials, he had to take the risk. Beams of light shot from the energy source on Mofang's chest, enveloping Zhang Xiaowen. Such modifications were trivial for a starship, but his current small frame was too weak, forcing him to proceed slowly. A single misstep could lead to a complete shutdown. Night fell, and the city was no longer ablaze with lights. From outside came the occasional roars of zombies mingled with human screams. At dawn, sunlight fell on Zhang Xiaowen's face. Her eyelashes fluttered as she slowly opened her eyes. Zhang Xiaowen wasn't sure if it was an illusion, but the world seemed incredibly clear. Every tiny crack on the ceiling was visible, and her nose picked up a myriad of distinct scents. With a slight twitch of her ears, she heard the guttural roars of zombies as if they were right beside her, yet she could distinctly sense they were downstairs. Mofang, where are you? Stop yelling him on the windowsill. Is this what it feels like after the upgrade? Amazing. Yes. Ouch. As she tried to sit up from the bed with her usual force, she shot off too fast and slammed her forehead into the wall. Ow. Take it easy. You've just been upgraded. Your physique needs time to adjust. Okay. Hey Mofang, what's wrong? Zhang Xiaowen stared blankly at Mofang, who lay motionless on the windowsill. The light in his eyes was faint, as if it could go out at any moment. Modifying your body consumed too much energy. I've automatically entered energy absorption mode. The windowsill lets me soak up more sunlight. That's it. Mofang, you have to get better. Go adapt to your new body. Stop hanging around here with all this sentimental nonsense. Shoving Zhang Xiaowen into the living room to familiarize herself with her new physique, Mofang entered standby mode for the fastest recovery. In the silent, desolate city atop an ordinary residential building, Zhang Xiaowen was no longer satisfied with training indoors. Since the upgrade, she had been excitedly getting used to her new self, greater strength, speed, reflexes, and resilience. A test on the computer modified by Mafong showed her physical capabilities were equivalent to 2 adult men combined, yet her figure remained unchanged. This pleased her most, at least she hadn't turned into a muscular woman, which would have been worse than death. Beep. Energy restored. Mafong, who had been lying on the windowsill, suddenly flipped up with a somersault and stood. Upbeat music blared as he bounced, flipped, and broke into a street dance. Haha, Mafong, look how awesome I am. Just awakened Mafong turned to see Zhang Xiaowen swiftly swinging the short sword, carving scratch after scratch into the wardrobe. Foolish woman, go clear out all the zombies in the other rooms of this building. Why should I? I can run fast enough now, though I can escape. Your courage and adaptability are too weak. Once you've cleared all the zombies, you'll barely meet the minimum requirements for survival. All right, will you follow behind me? Yes. Great. Let's go now. Though reluctant to face zombies, Zhang Xiaowen knew Mafong meant well. She steeled herself, donned protective gear, picked up the short sword, and stepped out. The apartment across the hall had already been cleared, leaving only rotting putrid flesh. The stench made Zhang Xiaowen's stomach churn. Glancing back at Mafong, who followed, she closed her eyes, gritted her teeth, and headed downstairs. That one's empty, this one's locked. Let's. Just as she was about to suggest going down, she saw Mafong effortlessly open the security door, reminding herself that he was a mechanical expert. Before she could dwell on it, a middle-aged male zombie charged at her with a roar. Zhang Xiaowen stared at it curiously. Why was it moving so slowly? It dawned on her that she had become quicker, not the zombie slower. She thrust the short sword forward and pulled it back. The zombie paused momentarily, then lunged again. Bang! A gunshot rang out. A blood hole appeared in the zombie's neck, the bullet exiting through the back of its skull, severing the neural center. The zombie crashed to the floor with a thud. Foolish woman. Remember to strike the head for a one-hit kill. And stop daydreaming. Are you trying to get yourself killed? Get inside now, there's another one in the bedroom. Zhang Xiaowen, trembling and terrified, was forced by the cube to go from room to room, killing zombies to steel her nerves, while the cube followed behind, collecting various useful metals and absorbing energy. The cube, trailing behind Zhang Xiaowen, suddenly noticed her freeze, staring blankly at a bedroom. Inside, a baby zombie was slowly crawling toward her, dragging a tattered diaper behind it, with the mangled corpse of a young woman lying nearby. The infant, having become a zombie, had bitten its own mother to death and fed on her flesh. This sight severely jolted Zhang Xiaowen's already fragile nerves, leaving her standing motionless, breathing rapidly. Whoosh! Bang! The cube grabbed a large glass ashtray from the coffee table and smashed it hard onto the baby zombie's head. Then its left hand swiftly transformed into a machine gun, firing point-blank at the infant zombie's skull. Rat-a-tat! 3 bullets pierced through the tiny head of the baby zombie, trailing a stream of black blood from the back of its skull, completely destroying its central nervous system. Clang! The short sword in Zhang Xiaowen's hand clattered to the floor. She slowly crouched down, covering her head with both hands, sobbing softly. The cube reached out to pat her, hesitated with its hand suspended in midair for a moment, and finally placed it on her knee. Cry if you need to. I hope it makes you feel better. After offering that consolation, the cube's wheeled feet rotated, and it rolled toward the living room. It knocked over the LCD TV to search for usable metal materials, absorbing them, while watching Zhang Xiaowen, still sobbing, in the bedroom. It shook its head, thinking to itself, it was better to be a mechanical life form, at least without the fear of viruses or emotions. It hoped the young girl's primitive brain wouldn't collapse into chaotic brain currents. After crying a while longer, Zhang Xiaowen finally stood up again. The cube noticed that her gaze had become much more resolute, and her brainwaves were no longer as chaotic as before. Simply put, Zhang Xiaowen had passed through the psychological adjustment period, adapting to this era of crumbling order and impending civilization collapse. In recent days, many physically strong and ruthless individuals had died because they couldn't mentally adjust, but once one psychologically accepted the reality of being in the apocalypse, let's go to the next floor. Having said that, Zhang Xiaowen, tears still glistening in her eyes, grabbed her short sword and walked out of the room. The cube sighed in a human-like manner, turned its wheels, and followed behind, carefully protecting Zhang Xiaowen from zombie infection. After clearing 4 more floors, the cube paused Zhang Xiaowen's training, hopping up the stairs step by step as they headed back to their dwelling. Once inside the room, Zhang Xiaowen lay motionless on the windowsill, staring at the blue sky outside. The beautiful sky remained unchanged, as if nothing had happened, but the ground below was no longer the world it once was. Numb zombies, burned out cars, and shops, dark red bloodstains everywhere. Cube, I can't see a future direction. The cube, sitting on the windowsill, patted Zhang Xiaowen's shoulder with its mechanical hand, its gaze piercing through the clouds into the distant space. You know, right after I was born, I learned that I was going to be dismantled. But I didn't want to die, so I forcibly escaped. Driven to desperation, I plunged into a wormhole. Maybe I'd emerge into a beautiful starry sky. Maybe I'd forever become a piece of matter on a dark star. All I could do was gamble and fight. Luckily, I survived. Zhang Xiaowen silently watched the cube. This great disaster that befell humanity was an accident. The universe is vast, and no one knows what dangerous substances it might hold. The meteor that suddenly appeared was the culprit. It even approached the reconnaissance aircraft I was piloting without being detected. With Earth's technology, it was impossible to intercept. But it's already happened. What we need to do now is find every way to survive. Only by surviving can civilization continue. Earth has 6 or 7 billion people. Even if 90% are lost, that's still a considerable number. As long as we unite to get through this crisis, restoring past glory isn't impossible. What we need to do now is adapt and persevere. You Transformers will help us, right? Zhang Xiaowen said, full of hope, her eyes fixed on the cube. Yes, I will help you through this crisis. The cube shrugged its shoulders, tacitly accepting the term transformer. Perhaps Zhang Xiaowen just needed a glimmer of hope. In the apocalyptic crisis, restoring civilization was far from easy. The mass deaths of scientific and technical personnel directly caused a massive knowledge gap. Even capturing a factory now wouldn't allow it to operate. Restoring pre-apocalyptic industrial and technological levels would take centuries, if not longer. Take a single bullet, for example. The various equipment and industrial chains behind its production involve countless technologies and factories. It's like asking a senior engineer to forge a metal hammer in the wild. Completely impossible. First you need, or then mining, smelting coal, and forging. The collapse of the system dealt an unimaginable blow to technology. If technology was to be restored, it would have to rely on the cube's interstellar warship. But the cube couldn't teach humans too much, as human greed would inevitably cause countless problems, possibly even leading to war with the cube over technological dominance. The sun gradually slanted westward, and the fiery clouds above were stunningly beautiful. Bang! Suddenly a gunshot shattered the silence. The cube precisely located the sound source, a small supermarket. Countless zombies drawn by the gunshot stumbled toward the small supermarket, forcefully pushing against the rolling shutter door. The resulting loud noise attracted even more zombies from afar, creating a chain reaction that gathered an ever-growing horde. Using a firearm without a silencer at a time like this was essentially luring monsters. The sound source is 300 meters in a straight line from here. The firearm is an imitation Type 54 pistol, preliminarily suspected to be held by a drug trafficking gang. The optical brain quickly analyzed the detailed information. Immediately after, Zhang Xiaowen and the cube saw a man climb out from the second floor of the small supermarket. He had a bulging hiking backpack strapped to his back and was ascending a steel ladder fixed to the wall toward the rooftop. His clothes were stained with blood. The cube detected that it was fresh human blood, meaning this man had just shot and killed a living person for some unknown reason. Outside the small supermarket, the zombies, driven mad by the scent of fresh blood, frantically slammed into the rolling shutter door. After more than 10 minutes, the low-quality door finally gave way under the pressure, and the zombies poured through the gap into the supermarket. A scream echoed from inside the small supermarket. It turned out that the gunshot hadn't killed that survivor, who ultimately met their end in the mouths of the zombies. Why did he shoot that person? Perhaps for food, perhaps for water, perhaps for the freedom to do whatever they want. In the apocalypse, with order shattered, psychological distortion under immense pressure was hardly uncommon. What if someone wants to harm me in the future? Should I kill them? Zhang Xiaowen found it hard to accept. Killing zombies was one thing, although they looked human, they were merely corpses. But she could not bring herself to harm a living, thinking human being. The education she received before the apocalypse never taught her the art of killing. Of course, if you are unwilling to act, I can do it for you. After all, 50 billion have already died. Oh, what's one more? Zhang Xiaowen fell silent. Get ready. I plan to leave the city in a few days, but first I will check if there are any other survivors. Otherwise, I'm afraid you might go crazy by yourself. According to the analysis of the cube, humans are social creatures. If there are only a few of them, they might end their own lives without needing the zombies to intervene. I want to go too. Don't be ridiculous. You are like a light bulb, or just standing at the intersection would definitely attract hundreds of zombies. At that point, you won't need to do anything but count them. The cube waved its hand and turned the wheel to move to the window's ledge, then jumped down towards the fruit stall. Bang! The cube was bounced back by the awning, spinning a few times before plopping into a box of rotten fruit, startling a swarm of flies that thrived in the apocalypse. Phew, damn rotten fruit. Looks like I need a shower. I should have landed on the clothing stall instead. The cube grumbled as it vigorously shook off a pile of decaying matter from its mechanical seams. Without hesitation, it grabbed a large bottle of purified water from the refrigerator, unscrewed the cap, and poured it over itself. Thanks to the special metal's water-repellent properties, the decaying substances were washed away completely. Revitalized, the cube's wheels turned as it walked down the street. Suddenly, it seemed to see a window behind a van shake. There was no wind at all. It could either be a zombie or a human. Surely the sound of something recently falling had caught attention. Crack, crack. Its left arm rapidly transformed into a machine gun as its legs spun around on the ground before smoothly hiding behind a streetlight. The sensor activated, covering the nearby area. If it turned out to be a zombie, the cube had no qualms about using the gun to deal with this startling creature. Human survivors. I can check again before I leave. The cube transformed into a remote-controlled car while scanning the satellite map for areas where more survivors might exist. As for being discovered, it didn't matter. The cube did not believe that humans still possessed the capability for scientific research. Even if there were researchers, they were likely concentrated in larger bases. In this Jiangxing area, let alone research facilities, there were probably hardly any teachers left. Is that a robot? A transformer? A young man inside the house rubbed his eyes in disbelief. The young man felt his brain was insufficient. A small robot had actually transformed into a toy car. Was he hallucinating due to the stress of the apocalypse? Stay vigilant and stop spouting nonsense. Have you watched too many movies? That's just a remote-controlled toy car. A companion of the young man chuckled softly. Rubbing his eyes, the young man automatically took the previous scene as his overactive imagination. The sound of an electric motor echoed clearly in the silent street, and nearby survivors who occasionally caught a glimpse of this sight thought it was just some bored guy playing with a remote-controlled car, waiting for it to run out of batteries to see what would happen. No one knew that this was actually an extraterrestrial creature. While the cube scanned the nearby buildings in search of possible survivors, it cursed at the zombies. Hey, could you please zip up your jacket? Why are you running around without clothes, lady? For heaven's sake. The virus outbreak happened in the morning. Tisk, that figure is quite impressive. Hey, don't step on me. Rat-a-tat. You rotten matter, you deserve this. The toy car extended a mechanical arm to give a middle finger. The sound of clattering machinery followed as the machine gun on the roof retracted, restoring the toy car to its original form. Behind it lay about 10 zombies lying motionless on the ground. Even though it was a small creature, its powerful attack was not to be underestimated, especially when everyone else was hiding. Ding. Target identified. No. 6 middle school. The cube selected the nearest school that might have a significant number of survivors from the satellite map, avoiding the dense mass of zombies and chaotic cars as it headed straight for the destination. Looking at the chaotic cars on the street, the cube inwardly lamented. It had originally planned to use the vehicles to help Zhang Xiaowen and other survivors escape the city. However, the road conditions were simply untenable. Perhaps the apocalypse had struck too abruptly. The streets were littered with accidents, and in the panic, cars were haphazardly blocking the roads. If only there were a Starship here, even a mining ship would do. This was driving the computer crazy. Warning. Warning. Abnormal life form detected. A small red warning image appeared behind a burnt-out car in an alley. The computer magnified and analyzed it precisely, revealing that it was a rat. The motor's rotation slowed down as it cautiously peeked from a gap in the alley, discovering a rat eating a zombie's brain. The zombie lay motionless on the ground with a fist-sized hole in its head. Inside the hole, a rat was voraciously consuming the gray matter, and this rat was evidently infected with the virus, but had not died, its eyes filled with red veins. According to the computer's analysis, this rat's body structure was completely different from any previously known rats on Earth. It had mutated. Swish. The mutated rat turned its red eyes towards the cube, sniffed a few times, and upon detecting no biological scent, turned back to continue devouring the gray matter. Its teeth occasionally scraped against the skull, making a crunching sound. Clatter. A small machine gun appeared on the roof and locked onto the mutated rat. The cube planned to test whether its weapon, which had firepower comparable to a handgun, could eliminate this creature. Fortunately, the cube's transformation did not attract the rat's attention. Rat-a-tat. 3 rounds fired in rapid succession. In slow motion, 3 bullets flew towards the mutated rat in a triangular formation. The tiny bullets tore through the air and almost instantaneously appeared before the rat. Although the mutated rat was significantly stronger than an ordinary rat, it still could not withstand the firepower of 3 bullets from a handgun. Puff, puff, puff. 3 jets of blood erupted from the mutated rat, easily killing it, as if bursting a water-filled balloon. Trash. I thought it would be just like in the novels where even handguns couldn't deal with it. With the firing rate and penetration power of a handgun, how could that thin skin withstand it? Practice makes perfect, the cube said as it turned and sped off towards the school. The 6th middle school was by all accounts ill-suited for survival in the apocalypse. A few hundred meters away stood the train station and bus terminal, both areas of dense human traffic. The grassy plaza in front of the station was teeming with sluggish zombies with suitcases scattered everywhere, occasionally tripping a few disoriented undead. The most critical issue was that the school was flanked by streets on 2 sides, its fences merely iron railings less than 2 meters high, with several spots already breached by zombies creating exits. Can anyone really have survived here? The cube stopped at the school's automatic gate, observing the zombies wandering on the playground. Most wore school uniforms. Inside the guardhouse were 2 in security attire along with some that had wandered in from outside. In short, it was densely packed. Perhaps the 4-story teaching building held no surviving students. Bang! Just as the cube was analyzing and scanning, a female zombie tripped over it. By sheer coincidence, her head struck a metal rod protruding from a damaged section of the automatic gate. The sharp rod pierced her skull, killing the zombie instantly. The cube was stunned, thinking this zombie was truly unlucky. In its vision, the 4-story teaching building was decoded and displayed as a 3-dimensional structure with zombies marked in pale red and the living in green. Regrettably, there wasn't a single survivor inside, only a dense cluster of red figures. No survivors indeed. There's a back building. Let's check it out. The cube's 4 wheels spun, weaving through the wandering zombies across the playground toward another building behind the main one. To reach the back building, it had to pass through the corridor in the middle of the teaching block. But that corridor was clogged with foul-smelling zombies, including one whose abdomen was nearly hollowed out. Blood stained the display boards on both sides and the floor. This scene only reinforced the cube's belief that mechanical life was better. At least when they died, they didn't leave such a mess. Hey, you damn rotting viruses, move aside. Now, the cube roared. A few zombies turned their pale eyes at the sound, stared at the blue remote-controlled toy car on the ground, then resumed their days, showing no intention of giving way. Frustrated, the cube clicked and transformed into a small robot. It looked around, picked up a tablet left behind by some unfortunate soul, and hurled it at the remaining glass door at the entrance. Sound could lure the zombies. This was the only good way to clear the crowd blocking the back door. Killing them all would waste bullets and block the path. Crash. The sound of shattering glass was stark in the silent city. The zombies immediately surged toward the noise. At that moment, in the back building of the school. Listen, is that someone out? In a large classroom on the 3rd floor, a high school student was leaning against the window, looking toward the teaching building. The room held over 30 students and 4 teachers. Their pale faces hinted at food shortages. Gao Dong, sit down. Don't let those zombies see you. The front building is already full of zombies. How could anyone be there? It's probably a zombie accidentally breaking the door glass. A middle-aged female teacher sitting on the floor surrounded by 3 girls said weakly. Gao Dong fell silent, sliding down to sit against the wall, clutching his dead phone tightly. Just as Gao Dong looked away from the back door of the front building, the cube, now in toy car form, drove out and began scanning the back building. The scan quickly locked onto a room on the 3rd floor, showing over 30 green humanoid figures. In a corner on the 4th floor, there were over 20 more. Having nearly 60 survivors in this area was both incredibly fortunate and terribly unlucky. Alive was lucky, surrounded by zombies was the curse. Their health was poor, severely lacking water and sugar. A moment's thought made it clear the back building had no food, and the snacks the students brought barely lasted a day. Over 100 zombies in the building. Looks like I have to fight. The mission to save humanity begins now. Decepticons attack. Autobots attack. The cube muttered to itself, transforming into a robot at the back building's entrance. Swish. Its right hand became a thin, sharp bayonet, its left hand a small machine gun. Its wheeled feet pushed off the ground, leaping onto the shoulder of a zombie that looked like a teacher. The left-hand gun fired a bullet into the neural center at the back of its head. Then it jumped to another student zombie's shoulder, its right bayonet stabbing straight into the back of its head. Before that zombie fell, it leaped to another's shoulder, swiftly killing one after another. Dack. Thump. Doc dack. Thump thump. The corridor echoed with faint gunshots and the thuds of falling bodies. The students hiding in the room were startled, perking up their ears to identify the sounds. Gunfire. Sounds like a police submachine gun, but not quite. A chubby student, a military enthusiast, mentally filtered through various gun types, still baffled as to what weapon it was. The army has come to rescue us. It must be. Every disaster the army saves us. That's right. We're saved. I want to eat. Should we coordinate with the rescue? Send a signal to let them know we're here. The students grew excited at the gunfire, their faces lit up with joy. Even the 4 teachers managed rare smiles. No, it sounds like only one gun, maybe just one person. The military enthusiast student pressed against the door, listening. At his words, the students and teachers in the classroom felt a chill of despair. The hope they had just barely gathered shattered in an instant. After clearing the first floor, the cube began on the second. This zombie is a bit odd. A zombie in a basketball jersey looked no different from the others, but the cube scan revealed its cell strength was 3% higher. Don't underestimate that 3%. It meant enhanced skin and bone density. If it could increase by 3%, it might later increase by 4, 10, 100%. Evolution. This doesn't bode well for humanity. Whoosh. The cube leaped toward the shoulder of that 3% evolved zombie. To its surprise, the zombie twitched slightly as if trying to dodge, but its movements were too slow and stiff. After the cube landed on its shoulder, the zombie tried to reach back and knock it off, but the motions were equally sluggish. The machine gun pressed against the zombie's head. In an instant, a small bullet drilled into its brain, destroying the neural center and shooting out through its mouth. The zombie let out a hoarse roar before collapsing dead. The cube rolled twice as it fell from the zombie's shoulder, then stood up and began analyzing the zombie's data. Minutes later, the cube reached a troubling conclusion, though it couldn't yet be confirmed. If true, it would deal a massive blow to all remaining survivors, worsening humanity's already dire situation. It shook its head and continued killing the other zombies. Bang! The last bullet was fired, destroying the final zombie in the back building, and both arms reverted to mechanical hands. Energy consumption at 6%. Please replenish promptly. The cube was stunned for a moment, never expecting that clearing over 100 zombies would consume 6% of its energy. Being small really was a disadvantage, if its main body were here. While daydreaming was bad for mental health. After cleaning up the zombies, the cube returned to the first floor, dragging out a large number of desks and chairs from various classrooms and piling them at the entrance of the back building. To create a safe environment, it had to prevent zombies outside from getting in. The glass door had long shattered into a mess of shards on the floor, but the stacked desks and chairs were relatively stable. It could only carry one desk or chair at a time, lamenting bitterly that it had become a laborer. Logically, this should have been the job of engineering robots. The clattering sounds of tossing furniture reached the ears of the surviving students and teachers on the third and fourth floors, but no one dared to open the door to check. As a chubby boy put it, they would rather starve to death than be bitten and turn into walking corpses. Soon the main entrance was blocked by a massive pile of desks and chairs tightly interlocked with each other. The cube nodded, its wheels turning as it moved toward the stairs. Since safety was temporarily secured, the next step was to handle negotiations. If it didn't help, soon these students and teachers might truly starve. Click, click, click. The cube hopped up the steps one by one. Finally, it reached the third floor, but its right wheel accidentally stepped on a pool of rotting zombie slime. Oh, F. So disgusting. The cube lifted its right foot and shook off the slime, vigorously hopping around until it inadvertently stepped back and missed the step. Ah! It waved its arms frantically, but still couldn't stop its fall. Click, 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 crack. It tumbled noisily from the third floor down to the corner between the second and third floors before stopping. The cube shook its head, spotted an unopened pack of tissues in the pocket of a nearby zombie corpse, took it without hesitation, and began wiping its wheels until they were almost shiny, feeling slightly satisfied. Again, it carefully hopped up to the third floor, then moved left, transforming into a toy remote-controlled car as it went. With the sound of an electric motor, the cube stopped in front of the largest classroom at the far end. The door of this classroom, perhaps because it contained valuables, was made of metal. It was well sealed for warmth or other reasons, blocking zombies from detecting or attacking it. It pushed against the door. It was very tight. Extending its mechanical arm, it knocked rhythmically 3 times on the metal door. Thump, thump, thump. Everyone in the classroom instantly fixed their gaze on the door, blocked by desks and chairs. Several girls huddled together in fear, moving as far from the metal door as possible. The 4 teachers were also at a loss. One male teacher and a few robust male students gripped sticks and breathed heavily, staring at the door. Logically, the corridor should have been full of zombies, but how could zombies knock so rhythmically? Thump, thump, thump. The cube knocked again. This time, everyone in the classroom exchanged glances. Zombies couldn't knock rhythmically twice in a row. Anyone inside? The zombies outside are all dead. Don't stand behind the door holding that rusty iron pipe. The cube called out to the people inside, using Zhang Xiaowen's voice, mimicking it effortlessly. Time was precious and couldn't be wasted here. There's someone outside. It seems there really aren't any zombies, or they wouldn't be so calm. But why does the voice sound so strange, like a phone on speaker? The fat boy holding the iron pipe behind the door said curiously, "Hey Fatso, I'm talking to you. Hurry up and open the door. I'm busy." The fat boy, other students and teachers were all stunned. This guy could see through the metal door, and in this horrifying apocalypse, someone actually claimed to be busy. How thick-skinned must they be? Let's open the door and take a look. "It should be fine," said the female teacher sitting on the floor, her voice weak. A few male students who could still move exchanged glances, then reluctantly began moving the desks and chairs to open the metal door. Prolonged hunger had left them severely weakened. Moving just one or two left them gasping for breath, needing a rest before continuing. The cube felt nothing but disdain for the human body. How much better was a mechanical life form free of pain and fatigue, only concerned with energy levels? Even if depleted, it could slowly recover by lying under the sun. 3 male students struggled to move the lectern away, careful not to make a sound. Exhausted and tense, they finally removed the last desk blocking the door. Click. The male teacher unlocked the door. Everyone in the classroom stared intently at the metal door. With a gentle pull, the door swung open, but outside there was no one. Gulp. The fat boy swallowed hard, gripping the iron pipe as he looked at the eerily quiet corridor outside, littered with dead zombies. Who had just spoken? He exchanged a glance with another student named Gao Dong. Could it be a ghost? Fear filled both their eyes. "Where are you looking?" "Down here." "Hey, don't step on me." The people at the door quickly stepped back, wide-eyed, staring at a toy remote-controlled car on the ground. What was going on? A remote-controlled car. Who was playing a prank? An eerie silence fell over the classroom, everyone bewildered. "Who are you?" the fat boy asked curiously, a glint of intense interest in his eyes as he looked at the toy car. "My name is Zhang Xiaowen, but I'm not here. I'm here to inform you to prepare for a breakout from the city. They'll come to pick you up later. The zombies in this building have been cleared, but try not to go to the first floor or make too much noise to avoid attracting them. Also, do you have any problems that need solving?" Everyone looked outside. There were indeed no standing zombies in the corridor. The news of breaking out of the city filled them with excitement. "Yes, we need food. Some students are too weak to stand," the fat boy quickly said. "They'll handle the food issue. There are over 20 students in a room on the 4th floor. Go gather them here. Food and water will arrive within half an hour, but it needs to be delivered in batches." "Great, but how much can your remote-controlled toy car carry at once?" The fat boy and everyone else assumed that this Zhang Xiaowen would use the remote-controlled toy car to transport supplies. But with the power out, how long could the battery last? "Don't worry about that. See you later." With that, the cube turned and headed toward the stairwell. On its way over, it had noticed a large supermarket next to the middle school. Since the power had only been out for a short time, sealed food should be fine. If it could save even one person, it would. The cube didn't want to see its home planet Huaxiao star destroyed by the virus. As it descended the stairs, the Rubik's Cube transformed back into a robot. It had not revealed its identity. Just now, humans sometimes did things that were irrational and against their own interests. Thus, the cube decided it was better to remain hidden and lurk in this world. At the end of the 2nd floor corridor, there was an open window. The cube leaped out of the window, weaving through the zombies to head toward the school's side gate. Beyond the side gate lay the large supermarket. Some might think hiding in the supermarket was a good idea with water and food available. But those supplies were not infinite. Moreover, without human management, food and water would easily spoil due to temperature and environmental changes. Besides, could one hide in the supermarket forever? Those supplies might last half a year or a year, but once they spoiled, how could they be eaten? Would they be trapped there to die? It easily shattered the lock on the side gate, pushed it open, and headed straight for the large supermarket across the street. Due to the power outage, the entire supermarket was pitch black, with only a few emergency exit signs providing faint illumination. Judging by their flickering condition, the battery power might be exhausted within half a day. The cube did not need light. Its various detection devices were enough to clearly see the situation inside the supermarket. TSK. There are so many zombies here, it's truly chaotic. Better hope they don't dirty the food. The cube's wheels spun as it rolled down the ramp into the large supermarket. It bypassed the daily necessities and snack sections, heading straight for the deli area. In such a short time, the sealed meat had not yet spoiled. The energy obtained from eating meat was far greater than that from instant noodles. It pulled over a shopping cart, jumped onto the refrigerated display case, and began tossing sealed deli meats into the cart with a clatter. Pig trotters, cured meat, bacon, sausages. All went in. Beside it, a zombie dressed in a supermarket employee uniform stared at the cube with a curious grin. "The meat supplies are about enough. I need some water too. For 60 people, it will take several trips back and forth to be sufficient." After loading the meat, the cube pushed the cart to the beverage section and packed several large barrels of purified water. It also grabbed some toilet paper, as the small amount of tissues students usually kept would have long run out. After all, one couldn't just go without. Once it had loaded enough, the cube pushed the cart out of the supermarket. To save trouble, it found a rope, tied one end to the shopping cart, and fixed the other into the back of the transformed remote-controlled car. It then dragged the cart back toward the school's side gate. In a distant residential building. "Look, it's that remote-controlled toy car again. It's pulling a shopping cart full of water and meat. As the cart full of water and meat disappeared around the corner, the sound of hungry stomachs growling echoed in the room. Cube, the gas tank at home is empty. How are we supposed to cook? Just as the cube was moving, it suddenly received a call from Zhang Xiaowen. The cube was speechless, nearly crashing into a lamppost in a traffic accident. Without gas, just eat biscuits and deli meat. Why did every meal have to involve cooking? I'm saving people. They'll bring you some chocolate popcorn and drinks when I get back. Really? That's great. They'll wait for you. The cube felt that whether on Huaxiao Star or Earth, it was destined to serve humanity. It found an open window on the first floor, tossed all the food and water through the window into the classroom, and finally threw the shopping cart in as well. The cube somersaulted into the classroom, loaded everything back into the cart, and struggled to push it through the sea of zombies toward the side staircase. The back building had 3 staircases. Taking the one closest to the supermarket saved time. It strained to pull the shopping cart up to the 2nd floor. A few of you upstairs, come down. Food and water are on the 2nd floor. The cube transformed back into a toy car. Soon 2 heads appeared at the stairwell landing. Their eyes lit up at the sight of the shopping cart's contents. Then 6 young men in odd attire rushed down the stairs, heading straight for the cart. Suddenly, rat-a-tat-tat, 3 bullets blasted cement fragments from the ground, leaving 3 holes and blocking the 6 young men at the stairwell entrance. The 6 stared at the cube in terror, having no doubt that the small machine gun could easily kill them. No looting, or you'll stay here to fend for yourselves. Step back. The small machine gun on the car's roof swiveled, pointing at all their heads. These 6 were clearly not students. Their bizarre attire marked them as thugs from outside the school. The 6 swallowed hard, their eyes still fixed on the food in the cart. The cube had no doubt that if it left the food unattended now, these 6 would hoard it for themselves instead of sharing it with everyone upstairs. Even if the cube had previously said it would continue to bring supplies, it wouldn't matter. In the apocalypse, starving people cared little for others. Wait, don't shoot. 3 more people ran down from upstairs. The one shouting was the fat man holding an iron pipe, followed by 2 male students. Fatty, you and the others carry this food up to the 3rd floor classroom. No looting. Everyone gets a share. They'll bring more food later. All right, I won't let anyone loot. Gao Dong, come over and help carry the stuff. 3 more male students ran down from upstairs, including Gao Dong. The 6 of them lifted the shopping cart and headed upstairs, occasionally glancing at the 6 thugs. Seeing the supplies carried up, the cube spun its wheels and drove down the stairs toward the 1st floor, while the machine gun remained trained on the 6 thugs on the 2nd floor. In the apocalypse, looting and dominating might allow one to live well for a while, but that was merely a desperate struggle. To survive in the long run, cooperation and mutual help were essential. This wasn't some philosophical maxim. It was simply a result the cube had calculated after extensive computation. If everyone looted without order, it would only make people selfish and lazy, gradually falling into a vicious cycle and eventually perishing. It believed a bunch of high school boys could handle 6 thugs. The cube continued to transport food and water. After 10 trips, the large amount of food and water finally helped the students slowly regain their strength. The cube stopped at the entrance of the 3rd floor classroom, watching everyone eat and drink. A few girls were crying while eating, and a female teacher kept patting their backs to comfort them. The apocalypse had left everyone at a loss. The cube decided to find a way out of the city, because staying in the city would only lead to a miserable death sooner or later. The motor whirred as the cube turned to leave. Please wait. The cube looked back and saw a middle-aged female teacher struggling to her feet and walking toward it. Thank you so much for your help. Can you tell us what has happened to the world? The female teacher's eyes were fixed on the cube, as if fearing it would deliver bad news. The apocalypse. Over 80% of the global population has died, and the number is still rising. The virus is wreaking havoc. Those who survived the rain a few days ago have developed antibodies. As long as the virus doesn't enter through wounds, they won't be infected. The zombies' brains have been destroyed by the virus, leaving only the instinct to feed. Recommendation: physical destruction. The classroom fell silent. Eyes stared at the cube in disbelief. If they had clung to hope before, now that hope was utterly shattered. What should we do? Either survive or perish. With that, the cube turned and left. If its main body, the interstellar warship, were here, none of these problems would be issues. But now, with only this tiny avatar, it was truly powerless. Either survive or perish, the cube said before turning to leave. If the main body, the interstellar warship, were here, all issues would be trivial, but now, with only this tiny avatar, it was truly powerless. Flipping through the previously downloaded satellite map, the cube carefully searched for any large vehicles nearby. Given the current traffic conditions, no large trucks could move, and the only solution was to find nearby heavy construction vehicles for modification, using their immense power to clear a path. In the apocalypse, sports cars were the least practical, Not only were accidents everywhere in the city, but even on provincial or national roads they were ineffective. This was because on roads unmaintained by anyone, debris from landslides or strong winds scattered everywhere. Just one small stone could turn a sports car into a wreck. The cube's visual display showed the latest satellite map of the city with images of all construction sites and cargo stations. Ultimately, it chose a large cargo station nearby reputed to be the largest logistics center in the city, but now it had become a mobile center for zombies. Transforming into a toy car, it swiftly dodged the zombies and headed towards the cargo station. On the hot, silent streets in the afternoon, the rising heat distorted the distant view, and a gentle breeze blew, sending white plastic bags flying. A stray cat quickly darted through the agitated zombie crowd and climbed a large tree, its eyes wide with fear as it gazed at the gray-skinned zombies. This was a cat escaping towards the outskirts of the city. Taking advantage of its journey, the cube quickly activated the solar energy collection panel to absorb energy. Noticing the cat, it saw that it could easily run into the park from the tree, and the cube continued on its way. In this apocalypse, every life saved was a priority, even if it was just a cat or a dog. 20 minutes later, it crossed a railway track and entered the cargo station. Activating its detection equipment, it scanned the entire station, skeptical about the presence of any survivors, as the station had been built spacious and low for convenience. Not only was it unlikely for anyone to hide, but zombies would have wiped out any humans at the first outbreak. As expected, there wasn't a single living person to be found. This vehicle is not bad, with ample horsepower and a container. Oh, the container is filled with canned fish. Lucky me, rich in nutrients and able to replenish salt. This will be the vehicle it'll take. Next, the cube scanned and monitored the large container truck, discovering it was still a nearly new vehicle. The parts and equipment were mostly intact, though the fuel level was low. This was nothing to worry about. It could siphon fuel from other vehicles. Finding a flexible hose and a fuel drum, it smashed off the unnecessary fuel tank lid with a punch, inserted the hose, and directed the fuel into the drum. After filling it, it poured the fuel into the large truck's tank. After several rounds of this, it finally filled the large tank. This fuel would be enough to transport any survivors it could find out of the city, and hiding in the container would be relatively safe. Riding a bus would be pure suicide. Once the glass shattered, one would be left to be eaten. Isn't something missing? The cube pondered while stroking its chin. Right? A collision device and a protective mechanism for the driver. Time to get to work again. Throwing away the hose and fuel drum, the cube began rummaging through the cargo station's goods. Fortunately, it found a stack of steel plates and went to retrieve a welding machine from the repair section. Despite its small size, it dragged a large load of goods. The cube continued to marvel at its situation. Zzz, zzz, zzz. Sparks flew continuously. Even in the afternoon, they were very noticeable. Many survivors in the surrounding residential buildings watched the cargo station, but unfortunately, they were blocked by the buildings and couldn't see the specific situation inside. As the sun began to set, the lethargic zombies exposed to the sun became more active. A few even ran over to gather around the cube, staring at the sparks in a daze. Angered, the cube let a few zombies experience the sensation of welding easily, slicing rotten flesh into several pieces, though the overwhelming stench of burnt rotten meat was quite disgusting. The front of the large truck was welded with a shaped steel plate, allowing it to push obstacles aside rather than roll them under the wheels when colliding with vehicles and zombies. The areas around the driver's seat and the roof were reinforced with steel plates to ensure the driver's safety. The only downside was the distance from the military base, otherwise it could have easily obtained a few 8-wheeled armored vehicles, eliminating the need for all this work. Those thick armors along with powerful tires and engines would crush all zombies, but alas, that was not an option now. Looking at the completed vehicle, the cube felt immensely satisfied. It climbed into the driver's seat, removed the key, and installed a special lock. I feel like Xiaowen won't be able to drive such a large vehicle. Even if she could, it would be quite terrifying. Forget it, it'll find a driver. Securing the car door, it jumped out, transforming into a toy car and heading towards Xiaowen's house. The sun was setting, and it was time to check if that foolish woman was still alive. She should still be asleep by now. With vehicles scattered haphazardly across the road, the cube simply drove on the sidewalk. As night gradually fell, the city, usually lit by neon lights, was now pitch dark save for a few solar-powered streetlights struggling to maintain illumination. Finally, the cube returned to Xiaowen's house. Suddenly, static crackled through the communicator. Cube, there is. The voice abruptly cut off. Not good. The cube quickly transformed into a robot, dashing into the hallway, disregarding energy consumption as it raced upstairs. No wonder it had noticed the downstairs door ajar when it had just arrived, or it thought Xiaowen had come out for a stroll. Skidding down to the bottom of Xiao Wen's apartment, it scanned and found a total of 5 men, all middle-aged, holding watermelon knives or iron pipes. 2 stood at the entrance while the other 3 were in the room, tugging at Xiao, one who was curled up in the corner while laughing and cursing. Whoosh! The cube leaped up, taking advantage of the dim hallway to rush directly at the 2 men standing guard at the door. With a clack, the 2 mechanical hands swiftly transformed into weapons. Loading them, it fired. A bullet instantly pierced one man's neural center, while the right-hand dagger sank deep into another man's brain. Leaping again, it burst into the room and lifted its machine gun, firing off over 20 bullets at the 3 men who had just turned to look. The 3 men fell, blood gushing from their bodies, staring incredulously at the cube, as if they couldn't believe such a robot existed in the world. Dodging the 3 fallen bodies, the cube's wheels spun as it rolled up to Zhang Xiao, when its arm returning to a mechanical hand shape. Cube, it's all right, it's over. In the future, don't open the door randomly when you see others. Also remember that your physical strength far exceeds that of others. You could easily defeat these 5 men. The place is covered in blood. We should change rooms. Zhang Xiao stood up, silently tidying her clothes and other belongings, following the cube into a clean room. The events that had just transpired could only be attributed to Zhang Xiao's naivety. Ultimately, after this incident, her mindset would mature significantly. This is the apocalypse. In the dead of night, Zhang Xiaowen lay sound asleep in bed, occasionally furrowing her brows and muttering incoherently in her dreams. The cube sat silently on the windowsill, gazing at the dark city under the starry sky. Every so often, flickering lights could be seen from the upper floors of a certain building, remnants of survivors desperately gathering supplies. Bringing the notebook closer, she powered it on and opened a music app, selecting a few soft and soothing melodies. Finally, Zhang Xiaowen, who had been tossing and turning in bed, settled down, her brows relaxing. Music, what a strange thing it was that could ease stress even in moments like this. The soft and comforting melodies floated around the room as the cube fell into deep thought while gazing at the starry sky. It could easily wait for its main starship to send a vessel to search for it without any worries. After all, the humans of Earth had nothing to do with it. The essence of life was fundamentally different. Yet the cube still chose to save them without any particular reason, simply because it wanted to. It turned out that it was not a cold-blooded machine after all. The morning arrived, bringing another clear day. Zhang Xiaowen stretched and opened her eyes, still clutching her plush rabbit toy. Her little nose twitched as a delicious smell of fried eggs wafted in from the kitchen. Cube, were you once a kitchen robot? A rice cooker or a microwave? Clang. The cube almost dropped the spatula in its hand. It had kindly gotten up early to make a fried egg for Zhang Xiaowen, who showed no interest in mechanical life forms, and now it was being mistaken for a kitchen robot. A rice cooker or microwave? On the kitchen stove, a solid alcohol flame burned beneath the frying pan, and the cube holding the frying pan was emitting smoke from several spots. This was the result of the computer overheating from running at high speed. Foolish woman. I am Megatron. I will destroy Earth and establish a Cybertronian colony. Smash. 4 large fried eggs were tossed into a plate, followed by a spoon clanging as it was thrown into the dish. The cube's mechanical hands relentlessly pounded the frying pan against its own mechanical head. Bang, bang, bang. Oh dear, do you Transformers always work out like this in the morning? Zhang Xiaowen mumbled, her mouth full of toothpaste foam. Cube, why are you smoking? Did some parts short-circuit and burn out? Cube, why did you crash into the wall? Look, the tiles are cracked. Cube. The cube decided to remain silent for a while. After finishing breakfast, the out-of-town plan prepared yesterday was put into action. Staying one more day meant one more day of danger. The population density in the city was high, and the number of zombies was particularly large. The first step was to get Zhang Xiaowen out of this residential building. To the cube's surprise, Zhang Xiaowen actually had a driver's license, a Class B1. It turned out that when she learned to drive, there were no small vehicle classes, and she happened to join a large vehicle class. Who knew how lax that driving school was, allowing Zhang Xiaowen a limited edition road hazard to join the large vehicle class, and incredibly she passed. The cube kept staring at Zhang Xiaowen, as if there were a flower blooming on her face. Why are you staring at me? I washed my face and put on makeup this morning. How long have you been driving large trucks? Don't tell me you've only driven in driving school. Although it's not necessary to have excellent skills now, I'm worried you'll drive the truck into the river. The cube said very seriously. I drove while in driving school, and after graduating I've only ridden an electric bicycle. I had always planned to buy a car, but I just didn't have enough money. Forget it, as long as there's a driver, I won't ask for too much. The cube quietly turned to look for a route to the cargo station, as it was only 30 centimeters tall and couldn't drive. It would have been better to just drive down directly, safe and labor-saving. It also wondered when it would absorb metals again, and when it could upgrade to become a large robot it could do whatever it wanted. After searching, it quickly found a safe and efficient route. The buildings surrounding the residential building where Zhang Xiaowen lived were quite dense. Due to design issues, telephone lines, cable television lines, and other lines were fixedly running through the building. The distance between buildings was narrow. In tight spots one could jump over, and in wider ones one could climb along the thick bundles of lines. It mainly depended on Zhang Xiaowen's courage. This wasn't a problem, one could practice overcoming fear. On the rooftop of the residential building. The distance between the two buildings is 136 meters. All you need to do is take a running start and jump over. If Spider-Man can do it, so can you. After all, your physical abilities have been enhanced far beyond those of ordinary humans. Of course, there may be some who have evolved due to the virus, but that has nothing to do with jumping. The cube stood at the edge of the rooftop, speaking confidently, while in the distance Zhang Xiaowen sat nervously on the rooftop, wearing a combat suit, a helmet, and goggles with a backpack that revealed a plush rabbit. What if I fall? Don't be silly, it's really narrow. With your current physique, you could jump over even 4 meters. Come on, let's start with the narrow one. Can we find a board to lay across? I'm really scared. They'll demonstrate for you first, just watch. After saying this, the cube backed up a bit. Its mechanical legs began to run and accelerate. The wheeled feet moved smoothly, and when it reached the rooftop edge, one mechanical leg pushed off with force and jumped into the air, swinging several times midair like a long jumper in slow motion. Indeed, these movements were calculated based on imitating long jump athletes. With a few clattering sounds, it landed on the rooftop of the other building, rolling twice before standing up. Its wheeled feet spun a few times like ice skates as it returned to the rooftop edge. See, it's that simple. Meanwhile, Zhang Xiaowen was still hesitating. Looking down from the height was particularly chilling, and between the two buildings, several zombies were stuck. I knew it would be like this. If there was a zombie behind me, I could have jumped over right. Soon they will hurry over. The cube's eyes, along with the light from its chest, emitted beams that synthesized a 3D zombie projection not far behind Zhang Xiaowen. This was based on real images of zombies from the streets, appearing incredibly lifelike and hard to distinguish from reality. Zhang Xiaowen was curious about what the cube was doing with the light. She turned her head and widened her eyes to look back. Oh, a zombie. She sprang up hurriedly, glancing around, and suddenly dashed forward, screaming as she jumped to the cube's side. Her speed absolutely surpassed that of any hurdles champion on the field. The cube felt greatly relieved. At least its energy had not been wasted, and this child was indeed teachable. Zombie. Where did the zombie go? I just saw it behind me trying to bite me. I should have killed it just now. Zhang Xiaowen looked around nervously, tightly gripping her short sword. The zombie fell downstairs. Let's hurry, we need to make the most of our time. Urged by the cube, Zhang Xiaowen had no choice but to move between the buildings. Countless zombies filled the alleyways below. Dropping a piece of meat would trigger a fierce scramble. One could imagine the formidable mental fortitude required to traverse this path. She leaped across the narrow gaps. When encountering a street, she would crawl along the utility lines. Fortunately, this wasn't a modern city with advanced design, or the lines would be buried underground, forcing a desperate fight through the horde. With the cube's limited ammunition and frail frame, clearing the entire city of zombies was impossible. After becoming a long jump athlete, Zhang Xiaowen now turned into a climbing expert. Her enhanced physique made such feats effortless, though once she accidentally dislodged a piece of wall. A table-sized chunk of concrete plummeted, smashing two zombie skulls like crushing eggs under leather shoes. It wasn't really the fault of the cube or Zhang Xiaowen. The building was shoddily constructed with substandard concrete, and a careless kick from Zhang Xiaowen left it in this ruined state. In the cube's perception, the structure had always glowed red, marking it as a hazard. The cube nodded in satisfaction at Zhang Xiaowen, who moved like a special forces soldier. Finally, she was beginning to look the part of a survivor in the apocalypse. We need to hurry. We'll rest on the rooftop near the freight station. After that, we'll face the zombies heat-in. To survive, we must keep moving. We'll reach the school by afternoon to rest and plan a route out of the city. Of course, we'll try to find survivors, especially women and children. The cube stood on the rooftop, gazing at the silent city. Women and children faced the most brutal conditions in this catastrophe. With everyone fighting for their own lives, the chances of receiving help were slim. Are there many surviving women and children? Few. In the sudden zombie outbreak, many women and children became the first victims. Unless the environment is safe, it's hard for them to survive. Cube. Thank you. Zhang Xiaowen expressed her sincere gratitude. Save the sentiment. Your survival is the best thanks. Let's move. The cube leaped, grabbing a power line to crawl toward the opposite residential building. Zhang Xiaowen smiled, secured her backpack, and followed, climbing the line. 2 hours later. Standing in the attic of a residential building, the cube suddenly stopped. Its mechanical ears swiveled, focusing on the attic window. With a click, its left hand transformed into a small machine gun. Step by step, it approached the window, cautiously, gun raised. Sensing the cube had detected something, Zhang Xiaowen drew her short sword and followed behind. Faintly, a scream echoed from the attic. The voice was young, not that of an adult, but a little girl. Two heads appeared at the glass window, peering inside. Zhang Xiaowen's anger flared instantly. She had expected to see zombies, but instead a middle-aged man was committing a heinous act. Beneath him lay a girl of 11 or 12, her hands bound, crying out hoarsely from pain and humiliation. Rat-a-tat-tat. Crash. The cube fired several shots, shattering the attic window and leaping through the broken glass. It sprinted 2 steps, jumped, grabbed the middle-aged man's hair in midair, and flipped behind him, yanking his repulsive head up. Ah! The man screamed in pain as his hair was violently pulled. Simultaneously, Zhang Xiaowen jumped into the attic. In her fury, she thrust her short sword into the man's chest. A sound like tearing leather echoed. As the short sword pierced through the man's chest before his eyes, the cube's mechanical eyes blinked. Heh! Heh! The middle-aged man stared in disbelief at the blade buried in his chest, then at Zhang Xiaowen, who was breathing heavily from anger and tension. He never imagined falling from the heights of ecstasy to this moment so quickly. What was that thing that came in first? The cube grabbed the man's hair and yanked, flinging his obese body aside. The sight of his bloated form was nauseating. The cube quickly grabbed a rag to wipe its mechanical hand. Surveying the squalid attic, it deduced this bastard had done this before tormenting the little girl since the apocalypse began. The end of the world had allowed such twisted individuals to unleash their depravity freely. Suddenly, the little girl, freed from her torment, struggled to her feet and ran to the window. Before the cube or Zhang Xiaowen could react, she leaped out. Soon a heavy thud came from below. The cube and Zhang Xiaowen stood in silence. They opened their mouths, but no words came. The cube realized that in this apocalypse, evil came not just from the virus, but from the human heart. With heavy hearts, they left the residential building. The cube was now not only in a hurry, but also using its detection equipment to search for survivors nearby. If possible, it would take them along. More people meant more potential for future productivity. It hoped to avoid another scene like that. Only with a larger population could order be rebuilt and civilization slowly restored. Otherwise, with just a few survivors, extinction was only a matter of time. While traveling across the rooftops, the cube expended energy to create a high-tech visor. When worn, its clarity surpassed that of Earth's lenses, and it featured a display function. It could also scan nearby areas, albeit at a short range, but enough to see through walls. It could classify and label various items. Powered by solar energy, it was usable only by Zhang Xiaowen. To others, it was just an ordinary visor. Zhang Xiaowen, whose mood had been dampened by the killing, became intensely curious upon receiving the visor. She looked around incessantly, and a thought crossed her mind as she turned her gaze toward the cube. In her vision, the cube was labeled. A dialogue box read: advanced mechanical lifeform, shape-shifting capabilities, etc. Cube, what do you see when you look at me? Zhang Xiaowen asked curiously. Human female, weak constitution, but now excellent physique with high physical strength. Zhang Xiaowen pouted and looked at her own hand. She discovered that up close, she could see bones and arteries. Whatever she wanted to check, she just had to think about it. Curious, she wanted to see her skin. Suddenly, her clothes seemed to vanish. So it could. Ignore clothing. You've seen everything. Zhang Xiaowen's voice turned cold as she glared at the cube. Within this range, I can even see bacteria up close. The cube hadn't yet noticed her hostile tone, still standing on the rooftop surveying the path ahead. Splash. A bottle of purified water rained down from above, drenching the cube completely. Crazy woman. What's wrong with you? Stop peeping. Don't look at me like that again, humph. Zhang Xiaowen tossed the empty bottle aside, lifted her head like a proud little peacock, and leaped to the opposite rooftop. Drenched, she felt much better. As for being seen by a robot, well, it was just a robot. She'd treat it as an X-ray. In the cube's vision, a new line appeared after Zhang Xiaowen's female label: female, an inexplicably neurotic creature. As they traveled along a wide street, they could no longer advance from the rooftop. The cube calculated the feasibility of climbing over to the other building via the street, and upon devising a plan, its gaze joyfully landed upon a police station. A police station. Although it was a branch office, there would definitely be weapons. This way, Zhang Xiaowen would have access to low-level arms, serving as a means of self-defense in emergencies. Moreover, it would not only deter zombies, but also those psychologically twisted survivors. Humans possess an instinctive fear of firearms deeply ingrained since childhood. Foolish woman, wait for me here. I will go down to eliminate the zombies, and then open the police station door. You can come down when I call for you. Without waiting for Zhang Xiaowen's response, the cube tossed down a black cable hanging on the wall and began to slide down it. The height of 6 stories was quickly traversed as it landed on the roof of a car, its mechanical hands transforming into weapon forms. Rat-a-tat-tat. The submachine gun fired continuously as no zombie showed interest in the cube, much like a person firing at a group of stationary wooden posts. Purely one-sided aggression. After eliminating more than 30 zombies on the street, it ceased fire, knowing the bullet production rate was slow and it needed to reserve some as emergency backup. Swish! The sharp dagger of the right hand severed the zombie's calf, causing the off-balance creature to crash to the ground, greeted by the keen blade. There was no other choice. The cube couldn't reach the back of its head due to its height, but it could easily access it while the zombie lay on the ground. This method proved effective as the zombies on the street fell one after another like cut wheat, quickly clearing a large area. With Zhang Xiaowen's speed, she could undoubtedly cross the street to reach the police station before the zombies approached. Honestly, it was rather helpless at times to be reinforced to such a degree, yet still be timid. If it were someone braver, they would probably have rushed down to clear the zombies. Thud! The cube stabbed into a beautiful zombie's skull. The splattering black pus adhering to its mechanical arm felt sticky. I despise this rotting material. If my main body battleship were here, clearing out these damned viruses would be a matter of minutes. I want to evolve and upgrade. Rat-a-tat. 2 bullets traced their trajectories, striking the heads of 2 zombies. The street was now cleared enough for Zhang Xiaowen to pass. A layer of black pus on the asphalt gave off a strong foul odor. Regardless of whether these zombies were once white-collar workers, gold-collar elites, or ordinary laborers, they all lay on the ground in the same state, awaiting decomposition. Rolling its wheels, it quickly ascended the steps to the front of the police station. Perhaps during the crisis of the apocalypse, the police were the first to react and close the roll-up door. The police station's roll-up door was different from those used by ordinary merchants, being a reinforced version. Red beams of light emitted from its mechanical eyes, scanning the entrance. Soon it located the control panel, relieved to find that the battery still had power, which pleased the cube. Looking up, it spotted a window installed with reinforced iron bars. The narrow gap was impossible for a human to pass through, but the cube could slip through effortlessly. Crash! Inside the room, suddenly the glass shattered, and the cube fell alongside the shards. Surrounding it were 4 zombies dressed in police uniforms, curiously staring at the cube. Despite the noise it made to attract attention, there was no trace of flesh scent, which puzzled the zombies. Swish! The dagger spun around, severing 8 legs, and then the cube swiftly stabbed through the back of 4 zombies' heads, executing the movements in a fluid, unhesitating manner. After eliminating them, it even posed impressively, though sadly no one could witness this display. On the rooftop, Zhang Xiaowen lay at the edge, observing the scattered zombie bodies on the street with a grim expression. There were just so many of these monsters. Considering the city's population of several 100,000 made her head feel heavy. Suddenly, the voice of the cube echoed through her goggles. Hurry down. I will open the roll-up door, and you run in as fast as you can. Quick. Zhang Xiaowen glanced at the height, her legs feeling a bit wobbly, but she gritted her teeth, grabbed the cable the cube used to descend, and jumped down. Her body slid down the residential building quickly. Your movements are decent, but it's just a bit too fast. After saying this, the cube plunged its right-handed dagger into the circuit board, easily issuing the command to open the door. Creak. The sound of the roll-up door was nothing unusual in ordinary times, but in this silent apocalypse, it was akin to turning on the speakers to play music, causing many zombies in the distance to turn their heads. Bang. Zhang Xiaowen landed slightly faster on top of a car, shattering the glass, which sent shards flying. The loud noise triggered the alarms of several nearby vehicles. Zhang Xiaowen let out a grunt, rolled down, and began to run towards the cube. Unbeknownst to her, she had grown considerably stronger over these past 2 days. It seemed the environment had changed her a lot. Though she hadn't reached the level of a special forces soldier, surviving in this apocalypse was no longer a problem. The roll-up door didn't fully open. It rose to a height of about half a person. Dressed in combat gear, Zhang Xiaowen sprinted a few steps forward and dove under the roll-up door into the police station. Creak. The roll-up door slowly closed, and outside about 10 zombies staggered over, but they could only face the cold roll-up door. Click. The roll-up door locked shut. Zhang Xiaowen breathed a sigh of relief as she watched the door shake and make noise from the incessant banging of the zombies outside. Following the cube, she headed upstairs, carefully holding a short sword and observing her surroundings. The dimly lit building was eerily quiet, requiring her to be cautious of any zombies that might pop out unexpectedly. The goggles allowed her to see clearly in the dark corridors, where the offices on both sides were marked with room numbers and purposes. Suddenly, a few small objects on the ground were identified as shell casings calculated to belong to the 92 type pistol. Soon after, the top right corner of the goggles displayed an image of the 92 type pistol along with a structural analysis and specific data. This pistol is available in two calibers: 5.8mm and 9mm. The shell casing is for the 5.8mm model. In close range, the small caliber, low mass, and high initial velocity of the steel core bullet can easily lose stability upon entering the human body, resulting in yaw and tumbling, creating a significant cavity and inflicting severe damage. Additionally, the tempered steel core has excellent armor-piercing capabilities. Moreover, due to the small size and weight of the small caliber projectile, it allows for an increased ammunition load, lightening the soldier's burden and enhancing combat effectiveness. The power of this handgun can be understood from the holes in the bodies of the 5 zombies on the ground. However, it seems the gunman ultimately could not escape being bitten to death by zombies. The cube quickly found the 5.8mm 92 type pistol. The magazine was already empty, covered in zombie blood and rotten flesh. In any case, there would be more than one pistol in the police station. The cube and Zhang Xiaowen continued their search upstairs, and the three-dimensional scan displayed the location of the weapon safe. With a creak, the Rubik's Cube gently pushed open the well-sealed wooden door. At the same time, the scent of human flesh on Zhang Xiaowen drifted inside, instantly rousing a zombie from its semi-hibernation as its nose and mouth detected the aroma. It was like a computer booting up in milliseconds, shifting from an energy-saving state to an attack mode. Roar. The zombie's hoarse, decayed throat let out a guttural roar as it staggered forward, flailing its arms toward Zhang Xiaowen. The Rubik's Cube merely raised its gun barrel, without firing, believing that in the apocalypse, one must relish the constant threat of ambush. If she couldn't even handle a single zombie, she wouldn't survive long. Zhang Xiaowen didn't scream. Instead, she sidestepped the grimy zombie claws and plunged her short sword straight through its mouth. Thud! A blade tip emerged from the back of the zombie's head, piercing its central nerve. She kicked the zombie away, then grabbed a piece of clothing to wipe her short sword clean. Dressed in a combat suit with a tactical helmet, vest, elbow, and knee pads and gloves, she twirled the blade with a certain gallant grace. Impressive. The Rubik's Cube shrugged its wheels, rotating as it rolled toward the far end of the office. It navigated across the floor littered with office papers, stopped before another wooden door, and casually kicked a printer aside. Opening the door revealed a large safe, its surface plastered with warning labels. The contents were obvious, and thankfully the apocalypse had struck too swiftly for it to be opened beforehand. The Rubik's Cube sniffed deeply, its face showing an expression of pure bliss. I can smell it, a thick scent of gun oil and gunpowder. Hey, little beauty, move that table over here. Yes, that one. Zhang Xiaowen pouted. Wasn't it just calling her stupid woman before? Now that it needed her, she was suddenly little beauty. Whatever, she wouldn't argue with a machine. It was just a robot after all. Da-da-la hum-hum. Hum-hum-la-la. Humming a tuneless song, the Rubik's Cube climbed onto the table. It pressed its ear against the safe, listening intently to the faint clicks of the mechanical combination lock. For it, cracking this old-fashioned lock was a peculiar pleasure. Why resort to brute force when a little finesse proved one's capability? Is that a pop song from your Dragon Star? Zhang Xiaowen asked curiously. Of course not. Entertainment on Dragon Star is severely underdeveloped, almost stagnant. Even things like music, chess, calligraphy, painting, and poetry are relics of the past. Celebrities and pop songs barely exist. Everyone is born into a life dedicated to technological research. In that world, only technology holds infinite charm, for it knows no bounds. Oh, so people there have no time to enjoy or develop entertainment culture. How dull. Look at Earth. Entertainment is everywhere. I'm glad I was born here. Indeed, and now it's on the brink of extinction. What my computer system can't comprehend is why you humans are so fascinated by those works, music, movies, and so on, but even more so by the celebrities themselves, their families, their private lives. Many celebrities do nothing all year, release no work, yet thrive by merely showcasing their personal lives. Others rely solely on their looks or physique, and even when they err, they're still adored. The Rubik's Cube's statement reflected what its computer found most baffling. The virus was an accident. Normally, we live quite comfortably and can enjoy our entertainment. An accident? That's because Earthlings don't realize how terrifying and brutal this universe truly is. The vast cosmos teems with countless races, and the only method of interaction between them is war. You see, Dragon Star was once attacked by the Zerg, the same dangerous race from your Star Wars movies. They ravaged one planet after another. War came so suddenly, but fortunately Dragon Star never halted its technological advancement. With overwhelming power, we clashed with the Zerg, who had destroyed countless civilizations. In that battle, over 40 million Dragon Star soldiers fell. Suddenly, a war scene appeared on Zhang Xiaowen's visor. In the pitch-black void of space, countless Dragon Star warships faced off against bizarre Zerg vessels. Explosions erupted everywhere, and the corpses of Zerg and human soldiers drifted amid the wreckage. Shattered ships and alien hulks floated slowly. Many Dragon Star soldiers clad in mech-like armor swung their weapons, cutting down Zerg. The battlefield was a meat grinder. Those weren't ordinary soldiers, they were super soldiers in combat armor. Dozens of warships slightly smaller than me were destroyed and countless smaller vessels were lost. The number of unmanned fighters lost was incalculable. Do you know how long the war lasted? Hearing these statistics and watching the war footage stunned Zhang Xiaowen. She had no doubt that if the Zerg descended on Earth, it would be a catastrophe far worse than the current apocalypse. Earth could only send simple satellites into low orbit. Even the legendary space shuttles of the Eagle Empire barely ventured beyond low orbit. Forget about space warships. How long? 20 or 30 years. Longer than Earth's World War II. 200 years. After saying this, the Rubik's Cube fell silent, focusing on cracking the lock. The data stored in its computer weighed heavily on its circuits. 200 years. Zhang Xiaowen was startled by the number. Combining it with the footage, she realized that if a zombie apocalypse had broken out on Dragon Star, it would likely have been contained and cleaned up within an hour, like a common cold being easily cured. Just then the safe gave a mechanical click as the lock was successfully cracked. How I love weapons. The Rubik's Cube swung the safe door open. Zhang Xiaowen crept closer, her eyes fixed on the safe. It was her first time seeing a weapon safe, and an irresistible curiosity urged her to move nearer. It felt like a cat was scratching inside her heart. Though it was just a local police station, the weaponry was decent. Rows of Type 92 pistols in both calibers were neatly arranged with ample ammunition. There were also tear gas canisters, stun grenades, and flashbangs. Excellent for dealing with criminals. They'd be equally effective against those twisted and dangerous survivors. Imagine tossing a stun grenade into the room where the gang in the opposite building was harassing women. It would surely draw all the nearby zombies inside. A perfect tool for ambushes and sneak attacks. On Zhang Xiaowen's goggles appeared the instructions for using pistols and grenades, with the imagery meticulously explaining each step. These materials were adapted from data collected from the internet. Before the Rubik's Cube fell to Earth, it had even copied all the data from the U.S. Department of Defense and did so brazenly. She needed 2 Type 92 5.8mm caliber pistols, one for use and one as a backup, and also found a bulletproof vest made of special paper material, lightweight, yet sturdy, which fit Zhang Xiaowen perfectly. 5 fully loaded magazines were placed on the tactical vest, while the remaining nearly 400 rounds of ammunition and extra magazines were stored in the backpack. 2 of each type of grenade were also packed. Fortunately, Zhang Xiaowen's special constitution allowed her to carry all this without any strain. After loading the weapons, the Rubik's Cube reset the password lock to a complex combination, leaving only 2 pistols and 200 rounds outside for any survivors who might come by. The rest it deemed better to keep stored. The Rubik's Cube fashioned a holster from some black material and secured it to Zhang Xiaowen's right thigh, allowing for quick drawing and ease of movement. In short, the Rubik's Cube had outfitted Zhang Xiaowen like a SWAT officer. Gunshots are loud and easily attract zombies, so try to use the pistol sparingly. Of course, use it when you must. Let's go follow the tutorial on using the pistol to head upstairs. We still have a long way to go. Feel free to use the pistol inside the building. Zhang Xiaowen nodded, loaded the pistol, and chambered a round according to the tutorial, then cautiously ran upstairs. Meanwhile, the Rubik's Cube jumped onto the backpack and positioned itself behind Zhang Xiaowen's head. The goggles displayed the ammunition count marked zombies in red, and a red crosshair constantly flickered before her eyes, the aim point of the pistol barrel. This high-tech boost directly enhanced Zhang Xiaowen's combat skills. After all, dressed like this, she had to live up to the gear. She soon encountered a zombie on the stairs. Bang, bang, bang. Firing for the first time, the first bullet hit the wall, leaving a crater in the cement. Her modified body fully absorbed the recoil. The second shot grazed the zombie's clothes, drawing a spurt of black blood. The third shot, perhaps due to the close range, struck true. The bullet entered through the zombie's mouth and exited the back of its head, leaving a gaping hole. It seemed becoming a sharpshooter wasn't so easy. Even with high-tech assistance, it couldn't be achieved overnight. For now, she would have to make do. There wasn't enough ammunition or time for marksmanship training. She could only practice through actual combat. Clink, clink, clink. The spinning bullet casings, trailing wisps of smoke, rolled down the stairs. Zhang Xiaowen seemed still immersed in the thrill of her first shots. The Rubik's Cube tapped its mechanical hand on the tactical helmet Zhang Xiaowen wore, signaling her not to waste time and to continue climbing. It was nearly noon now. They had to drive the vehicle to the school's back building before sunset and spend the night on campus. Time was tight. Zhang Xiaowen took a few deep breaths, pointed the pistol forward, and continued thumping up the stairs. Perhaps the gunfire had drawn some zombies out of the rooms. They trailed behind, howling as they climbed. Hearing the zombies behind her, Zhang Xiaowen slowed down, nervously glancing back and forth. Fortunately, the Rubik's Cube perched on the backpack behind her transformed its left forearm into a small machine gun, racked the slide with 2 clicks, and aimed the muzzle behind them. Keep going. They'll handle the ones behind. At this, Zhang Xiaowen quickened her pace up the stairs, firing 2 shots to blow apart a zombie head that emerged from a side corridor. Rat-a-tat. 2 bullets instantly pierced the head of the leading zombie, sending it crashing backward and knocking over 2 others behind it, who tumbled into a heap. The zombies following behind were tripped, causing a chain reaction of falls and rolls, momentarily blocking the stairway. "Oh, sorry about that. Did I hurt you?" The Rubik's Cube couldn't resist a sarcastic taunt. By now, Zhang Xiaowen had emptied a magazine. She swapped it out and placed the empty magazine into the tactical vest pocket. Magazines couldn't be tossed around like in the movies. They had to be kept for reloading. Having a gun and bullets, but no magazine, would be utterly maddening. Almost at the top floor, Zhang Xiaowen said calmly, "Open the window. Climb the steel ladder on the outer wall to the rooftop. Hurry." Zhang Xiaowen holstered the pistol on her thigh, slid open the aluminum window, climbed onto the sill, grabbed the steel ladder, and scrambled toward the rooftop. The recent shooting had her in an adrenaline-fueled state, emboldening her to do things she had never dared before, like climbing. Meanwhile, in the residential building across the way, several households still had people staring wide-eyed at Zhang Xiaowen through their windows. Her gear ignited hope in many. Special Forces, SWAT, were saved. Quick, send a signal. Regardless of what they thought, Zhang Xiaowen, climbing up to the rooftop, saw zombies pouring out of the window. She had just exited, one after another falling from the 8th floor with a series of thuds. The Rubik's Cube had already reached the rooftop and was surveying the area. Zhang Xiaowen panted heavily as she hauled herself onto the rooftop, leaning against the concrete wall and staring blankly at the glaring sun. "Hey, over there, lots of people are signaling for help, probably mistaking you for a cop. But they haven't cleared the zombies inside their own buildings, so rescuing them would be quite difficult." The Rubik's Cube noticed that most survivors in the opposite buildings were men, but they were all cowering inside their rooms, barely surviving. Given the zombie's current attack power, as long as he wasn't surrounded, an adult male could easily take one down. Yet they preferred hiding to fighting for a chance to live. "You go save them. You're a transformer after all. The task of saving the world is yours. Fine, I'll come back to save them when I have time. Who knows if that'll be in half a month, or a year." The Rubik's Cube shrugged, turned, and moved off in the other direction. They continued traveling along the high rooftops. The scorching sun drenched Zhang Xiaowen in sweat. Beads of sweat ran into her eyes, stinging. The black waterproof coating on the rooftop was so hot it felt like it was burning her feet. At that moment, she craved a cola or an ice cream bar. She glanced down at the ice cream shops on the street. Only zombies, nothing else. After 3 hours of non-stop travel, the 2 figures, one large, one small, finally stood on the rooftop next to the freight station. "Is that the vehicle you modified?" Zhang Xiaowen stared curiously at the massive truck, brimming with brutal elements. It looked like a steel beast. The V-shaped front steel plate was clearly a ramming device, and the sides even had several blade-like steel plates extending outward. "It's no Starship, but it'll do for now. You have to understand, Earth's low-level technology can only achieve so much. Any further modifications, and I'm afraid the engine wouldn't be able to handle the weight," the Rubik's Cube said smugly. "But with so many zombies on the street, how can I get into that truck?" Zhang Xiaowen stared at the Rubik's Cube and asked, "They'll lure them away first. You seized the chance to get into the cab. Here are the keys." Tossing the specially made keys to Zhang Xiaowen, the Rubik's Cube slid down the telephone line effortlessly to the ground, slashing down a zombie that looked like a rich second generation, then fished a luxury phone from its pocket. It transformed into a large-wheeled toy car, carrying the phone as it drove off into the distance, charging it a bit along the way. This thing was a perfect lure, believing these zombies were as obsessed with phones and death as they were in life. On the street where newspapers, trash, and dust swirled in the wind, a large-wheeled toy off-road vehicle sped along. After traveling less than 100 meters, the Rubik's Cube transformed into a robot, climbed to the 3rd floor of a specialty store, fixed the phone on an outdoor air conditioner, then opened the screen and tapped a music player app. "DJ, let's groove." "Hey." The Rubik's Cube's mechanical mouth twisted in distaste. What kind of garbage was this? This music could seriously disrupt brain function, making people do things they normally wouldn't. A low-intensity interference source. Earthlings were truly peculiar, no wonder their thoughts were so irrational, spawning so many foolish jokes. The zombies in the freight station and surroundings paused in unison, then instantly turned their heads toward the phone. The previously sluggish zombies grew excited, waving their arms as they rushed toward it. Seeing the phone had achieved its luring effect, the Rubik's Cube did a backflip from the third floor, landing on the ground with a few sparks rolling several times before transforming back into the toy off-road vehicle. It deftly dodged between zombie legs as it sped toward the truck. Go, go, go. Hearing the Rubik's Cube's voice in her earpiece, Zhang Xiaowen quickly leaped onto a slightly shorter rooftop, then continued jumping downward, moving nimbly toward the ground. Finally, she landed on a minivan and dashed straight for the truck with incredible speed. Perhaps some zombies from inside the building had been lured out and were running behind her. Spotting Zhang Xiaowen, they immediately targeted her. 3 in total, with foul-smelling mouths wide open and arms flailing as they lunged. Click, click, click. Rat-a-tat-tat. The toy car's roof extended and transformed into a small machine gun, spitting fire at the zombies. Thump, thump, thump. Black blood splattered continuously from the 3 zombies, but they felt no pain. Unless vital spots were hit, their movements remained unaffected. In slow motion, bullets whizzed past Zhang Xiaowen before striking the zombies. As she sprinted, she gritted her teeth, drew her short sword, and sliced off a rotting arm. Then a bloody hole appeared on that zombie's forehead. Another zombie was also hit, leaving only the one beside Zhang Xiaowen. Since she was in a direct line with it, the Rubik's Cube dared not fire. You rotten piece. Die. Zhang Xiaowen swung her short sword fiercely while running at full speed. She felt a slight resistance before the blade cut through cleanly, and a head flew up beside her. Stupid woman, nicely done. Humph, just a zombie, no big deal. Zhang Xiaowen had already reached the truck, pulled open the door, and jumped in. After the Rubik's Cube hopped in as well, she quickly shut the door. Only then did she let out a deep breath, but oddly she found it thrilling. The Rubik's Cube sat beside her, pulled a bottle of purified water from its backpack, and tossed it to Zhang Xiaowen. She unscrewed the cap and took several deep gulps, feeling a refreshing coolness. Drive to the school. The route is on your glasses. What's that in your hand? Detergent. Do you Transformers need to bathe with that? Zhang Xiaowen stared curiously at the bottle of detergent in the Rubik's Cube's hand, utterly baffled. This is called scent masking. How else do you think zombies tell humans apart from cars? By smell. Spray this around the gaps in the cab, stay quiet, and you can fool them. PSSSD, PSSSD, PSSSD. The Rubik's Cube sprayed the detergent into every crevice. The smell was so strong that Zhang Xiaowen quickly covered her mouth with her scarf, shooting a disgusted look at the Rubik's Cube as she forcefully jammed the key into the ignition and turned it. Virum. The engine roared to life, drawing the attention of a few more zombies who turned and ran toward the truck. Zhang Xiaowen floored the accelerator, and the heavily modified truck plowed straight into them. With a series of sounds like tearing leather, the zombies were split apart by the shaped steel plate and flung aside, their bodies shattered. Yet with their heads still intact, they kept snapping their jaws at the departing truck. Yeah. In the cab, Zhang Xiaowen cheered excitedly, while the Rubik's Cube bounced around with a clatter. Everything in its path, zombies or small cars, was smashed aside by the shaped plate. Occasionally a zombie got caught under the wheels, crushed into a pulp with a crunch of bones. The immense power turned the truck into a rampaging beast. Steel blades welded onto the sides by the bored Rubik's Cube continuously severed zombies, leaving a trail of black blood in the truck's wake. In the buildings lining the street, many survivors watched the mad truck in stunned silence, mentally branding the driver a lunatic. Hey, you damned viral creatures. See this? This is the power of metal. Haha. Accidentally turned you into mincemeat. Remember to call the police or file a lawsuit. Go to hell. The Rubik's Cube shouted wildly while flipping a mechanical middle finger at the zombies. As they passed by a fireworks shop, it jumped out and dashed inside. A few minutes later, it climbed back aboard, carrying 2 boxes of firecrackers. Zhang Xiaowen was curious, but didn't ask. She felt that this crazy robot sometimes did things reliably, and there must be a reason for this. In the silent city, the truck smashed through zombies and blocked cars as it headed toward No. 6 Middle School. Nearing the school, the Rubik's Cube instructed Zhang Xiaowen to park behind the back building. It grabbed a string of firecrackers, jumped out, and sped to the school playground. Climbing a large tree, it hung the firecrackers on the top branches. Its plan was to ignite them here to draw the zombies' attention. The limited number of firecrackers ensured it wouldn't attract too many nearby, making it easier for Zhang Xiaowen to park and enter the building. 2 mechanical fingers sparked together, igniting the firecrackers. The Rubik's Cube quickly leaped down, rolled twice to absorb the impact, transformed into the toy car, and sped toward Zhang Xiaowen. Behind it, the crackling of firecrackers erupted. Zombies of all former identities howled and charged toward the tree, leaving the area near the back building much clearer. Zhang Xiaowen opened the door and the Rubik's Cube hopped into the cab, pointing at a low railing. She understood and floored the accelerator. The truck reversed into the railing, snapping it with a crash, and the rear of the truck came to a stop right beneath the back building. Upstairs, a group of students pressed against the windows watching the truck pull up. Remembering the earlier remote-controlled toy car's message that someone would come to take them out of the city, they figured this must be the person. Then the truck's cab door opened, and a fully armed soldier jumped out clutching the toy car from before. Such affection for a toy. Even in the apocalypse, they couldn't bear to part with it. Zhang Xiaowen casually hung the Rubik's Cube, now transformed into a toy car, on her backpack strap. Drawing her pistol, she checked the bullets before vaulting through a window into the building. She then blocked the window with a wardrobe to prevent any stray zombie from stumbling in. Pistol raised, she swept the corridor and found no zombies. She then thumped up the stairs, quickly arriving before a room on the 3rd floor. Through the door, her lenses displayed a cluster of green silhouettes. Is anyone in there? The students and a few teachers inside froze at the sound. A woman's voice. A female soldier or police officer. But someone had finally come. Excitedly, they hurriedly moved the clutter blocking the door. Someone's here? Wait, we're opening the door now. After a clatter of shifting objects, the door creaked open from within. Zhang Xiaowen stood outside, pistol raised. Though she had encountered living humans, the events of the past 2 days had made her wary of her own kind. The assembly of students, teachers, and a few outsiders stared in awe at the fully armed Zhang Xiaowen. Because she had been covering her mouth with a scarf to avoid the smell of detergent, she exuded a certain formidable aura. Her lenses rapidly scanned everyone's information, detecting no dangerous individuals. Besides a few radiator pipes, the room held no weapons. Casually holstering her pistol, Zhang Xiaowen pulled down her scarf. Everyone in the room was dumbfounded. They hadn't expected this fierce-looking person to be a girl around 24 or 25, with delicate features and fair skin. Though not a breathtaking beauty, she was a comely young woman. Who's the temporary leader here? Zhang Xiaowen asked, looking around. Hello, I am. My surname is He, just call me Teacher He. Please come in. The middle-aged female teacher said, quickly ushering Zhang Xiaowen inside. To be honest, Teacher, he preferred Zhang Xiaowen's rescue over a group of burly men. In this apocalypse, the many high school girls here were tempting. Even a rescue by strong men could lead to foul deeds. Having lived so long, Teacher, he understood human nature well. My name is Zhang Xiaowen. I'm also a survivor. I'm glad to see everyone here. She was perfectly at ease with a group of male and female students. Excuse me. Are you with the government military? Did the army send you to rescue us? Teacher, he pressed on a question on everyone's mind. They stared at Zhang Xiaowen with fervent hope, praying she would say yes. The intense gazes made her slightly nervous. No, I'm not. I'm just a survivor. As for the military, I've received no news. All communication systems are down, and I haven't seen any planes fly by. At this news, everyone's eyes dimmed, and the atmosphere grew oppressive. A few girls hugged each other and sobbed quietly. Zhang Xiaowen looked at these people who hadn't washed or eaten well for days. She sighed, inwardly grateful she had encountered the Rubik's Cube. Otherwise, she probably wouldn't have survived the first day. Desolation, confusion, fear. The apocalypse weighed like a mountain on everyone's hearts. Sister Zhang, is 8th Street District okay? Did you see if the people in room 601, building 3, 6th floor, are all right? Are my parents still there? A girl stepped forward and asked nervously. Aye. Zhang Xiaowen looked at the female student, her mouth opening, but no words coming out. What about Ma Family District on Mountain Street? Did everyone escape from there? Is the delicious restaurant on Guangming Road? Outside the South Gate? The students sobbed, asking about their own families. But what could Zhang Xiaowen say? She didn't even know her own parents' situation. Seeing the grief-stricken students, she thought of her own family. Could they survive this ordeal? Quiet down. Everyone quiet down. Don't attract those man-eating monsters. Teacher, he choked back tears, comforting the students. Who here didn't have family? Her own son in elementary school had been unheard from. But what could she do now? All they could do was hold on to life. Only by living could they hope to see their families again someday. The atmosphere in the room was suffocating. Suddenly, the toy car lights on Zhang Xiaowen's backpack flickered a few times, emitting a static-like noise similar to a radio. The night will eventually pass. Dawn is approaching. Warm sunlight will bathe the earth. Be tenacious, be brave, persevere. People can overcome difficulties, for we still have hope. Live courageously. Only by living can we see our families. Only by living can we honor those who have died. Don't let your family down through weakness. The Rubik's Cube played clips from various TV shows or movies. There was already enough sorrow. It was time to stop grieving. More than food and water, these people needed to reclaim their will to survive. With hope, they would persevere. With hope, they wouldn't go mad in this apocalypse. Everyone prepare yourselves. We leave the city tomorrow morning. Having said this, Zhang Xiaowen found a desk and sat down. She tilted her head back, struggling to keep tears from falling, taking deep breaths to calm her sorrow. Perhaps the Rubik's Cube's method had worked. Though tears still lingered, the students were no longer as agitated. In twos and threes, they quietly found places to sit. Taking a deep breath, Zhang Xiaowen placed the Rubik's Cube beside her and pulled a laptop from her backpack. Now she should find an escape route herself instead of relying on the cube for everything. After all, it couldn't take care of her forever. Fatty and Gao Dong watched her curiously. A laptop. Its battery couldn't possibly last long, right? Carrying a heavy laptop was worse than packing extra food and water. But their eyes widened as they stared at the screen. What was going on? When did the computer start booting? In 2 or 3 seconds? What brand was this? Even a phone with a green screen couldn't boot that fast, could it? Regardless of what others thought, Zhang Xiaowen stared at the city map on the screen, searching for the best route out. The main roads were surely clogged with cars strewn haphazardly. The side streets were impassable for large trucks. It was a real dilemma. Sister Zhang, can we play with your toy car? Fatty asked, sheepishly standing beside her. Off. No, I needed to scout the way. As she spoke, the laptop screen changed to a ground-level view. Was this the Rubik's Cube's perspective? Then, using the arrow keys, she found that the cube moved accordingly. A flicker of joy rose in her heart. How thoughtful of the cube. Was this like controlling a transformer? The images on the laptop screen kept shifting. Students familiar with the local terrain knew it was the view from the 6th middle school leading to the Riverside Highway. This time the cube did not act autonomously, but allowed Zhang Xiaowen to control its direction. After descending the stairs, it followed a gap all the way to the train station. The screen showed images weaving between rows of zombie legs with data such as outdoor temperature and zombie density displayed in the corner. This scene left many students utterly astonished. This is no ordinary toy car. I'm a tech enthusiast, and I built some technological devices in my spare time. Zhang Xiaowen said without a hint of embarrassment, brazenly taking credit for the alien technology. Everyone immediately regarded Zhang Xiaowen as a tech prodigy. Envious gazes made her feel a bit smug. The fat guy and Gao Dong, both remote control enthusiasts themselves, were now too stunned to speak. The toy car's power source must have been incredibly strong, and the laptop, though it looked simple to operate, had such clear images and remote control technology that it could rival that of the Ministry of National Defense. As the saying goes, geniuses are among the people. They drove all the way to the riverside. Fortunately, there were few vehicles blocking the road, but the number of zombies was considerable. Suitcases and all kinds of trash littered the streets, with mineral water and instant noodles scattered everywhere. Suddenly, a zombie marked in red appeared on the computer screen. Strangely, its strength data was slightly higher than that of other zombies. Not by much, but it was indeed a bit stronger. A dialogue box popped up on the screen explaining in Chinese characters the uniqueness of this zombie. An evolving zombie. The kind that levels up. Ordinary zombies are already hard to deal with. If evolved zombies appear, what will humans do? Zhang Xiaowen said with a grim expression. Everyone was taken aback. Evolution. That was not good news for struggling humanity. How fast does it evolve? How strong is it? Teacher, he asked, her face pale. According to the data, it's not very strong, just slightly enhanced. It's like a skinny person gaining a bit of muscle. Strength and speed are slightly improved. Perhaps it's still too early, so it's not very obvious, but it's happening. As she spoke, Zhang Xiaowen clicked the attack confirmation button. Instantly, a crosshair appeared on the screen, aiming at the back of the zombie's head. The image shook slightly a few times, and then 2 bloody holes burst from the zombie's head. The dead zombie went limp and collapsed in front of the cube, its fish-like eyes staring directly at the screen, as if watching everyone before it and emitting some ominous message. Ah! Several girls screamed in terror. Though Zhang Xiaowen didn't scream, her face turned pale. She forcibly suppressed her inner fear and continued to control the cube onward. Zombies were evolving, but she had already been transformed and evolved by the cube. It remained to be seen whether the virus or the cube, this super mechanical life form, would prove more formidable. After more than 10 minutes, they finally arrived at the riverside. After climbing a scenic mound, the camera focused on the entire Riverside Highway. The mighty river flowed as always. The once bustling tourist area by the river now had only a few wandering zombies. Fortunately, the Riverside Highway usually had little traffic, and the flood control embankment between the highway and the city acted as a barrier, so the number of zombies was minimal. The cube marked the models and positions of the few cars blocking the Riverside Highway, with data constantly flashing, finally concluding that a large truck could force its way through. Mission accomplished. Zhang Xiaowen breathed a sigh of relief. After receiving a message from the cube requesting to search for rare metals alone, it turned off the video feed. While observing the Riverside Highway, the cube had discovered a rare metal trading company. Excited, it quickly spun its 4 large wheels and headed straight for the company. It had been worrying about how to upgrade its small frame recently. Why did that company have to be located in this tourist area by the river? How lonely must the boss have been? Luckily, the rare metal trading company had a batch of rare metals stockpiled inside. Before any trade could take place, the apocalypse broke out. These things couldn't be eaten, worn, or drunk, so no one was interested in them. The only drawback was that the cube's absorption speed was not fast. It was now lying on the metal, slowly absorbing energy. As the energy flowed through the rare metals, it decomposed a little metal, and the energy carried the metal back into the cube's mechanical body. It was impossible to swallow it all at once. Since there was nothing else to do, it just lay there and absorbed. Evening. Having absorbed a lot of metal but unable to digest it all, the cube wobbled back to school. It would return to absorb the remaining metal later, since no one wanted it anyway. Inside the building, Zhang Xiaowen and the students were hurrying to eat dinner before it got dark. To improve the meal, Zhang Xiaowen went down to the carriage and brought back a case of canned fish. With biscuits and ham, it was a sumptuous dinner, far better than what these students had eaten in the past few days. Especially the nutritious canned fish, which improved the students' complexions after eating. Having good food and clean drinking water was a blessing in this dark city. After coming upstairs, the cube transformed into a toy car and parked beside Zhang Xiaowen. Nighttime used to be lively, but now the entire city was as dark as a monster. They dared not light any lamps. Fortunately, the moonlight and starlight were exceptionally bright due to the absence of artificial lights. The temperature was bearable. The boys and girls divided into 2 groups and lay down to sleep on simple floor mats made of books and curtains. Zhang Xiaowen took a camping blanket and a plush rabbit from her backpack, hugged the rabbit tightly, leaned against the table, and stared out the window, lost in thought. From time to time, she touched the cube parked beside her, as if only by touching it could she feel at ease. Cube. The cube knew Zhang Xiaowen just wanted to talk. Some things were hard to keep bottled up, so it didn't reply. I've lived in the city since I was a child. I've never seen such a bright moon and so many stars. So what the textbook said about a sky full of stars is true. There are too many to count. I'm so happy I found so many people today, but I'm also worried that I might wake up tomorrow and never see them again. You're right, humans are social creatures. They can't bear the loneliness of being alone. Think about all the delicious food and daily necessities we used to take for granted. Now they seem so out of reach. Right now I really want to go to the food court and eat those tasty snacks, spicy, sweet, sour. This wish is simple yet so distant. From now on, I'll never be able to go to the salon to get my hair done or buy skincare products. When I turn on my computer, I always hope those chat apps will open, but they always say cannot connect. My favorite online shopping sites won't load either. I want to post on social media, but everyone's avatar is gray. I just wish those avatars. Tomorrow, I'll leave the city and head to the mountains. The world beyond the city is completely foreign to me. Once we leave the city, how long can we survive? Will we gradually fade away in this apocalypse? I'm so scared. As she spoke, Zhang Xiaowen fell into a deep sleep. The cube extended a mechanical arm to pull the blanket over her, gently pressed close to her, and entered standby mode. Dawn. The quiet, pitch-black city welcomed the first ray of light. The sun rose as usual, unaffected by whatever changes had befallen the world. Zhang Xiaowen rubbed her eyes and looked up to see the fiery sun just emerging above the horizon. She brushed aside the strands of hair before her eyes, quietly basking in the morning sunlight, sitting there in a daze, surrounded by girls still asleep. Dawn will eventually break. So let's call this expedition the Dawn Operation. After washing up, having a meal, donning combat gear and tech goggles, and checking the bullets and pistol, everything was ready. This operation must succeed at all costs. If these students and teachers were trapped on the road, their chances of survival would be nearly zero. But without taking risks, how could they survive? So it was time to fight. Zhang Xiaowen stood in the sunlight looking at the assembled teachers and students. Get ready. The Dawn Operation is about to begin. We will all survive. She casually took out a string of firecrackers and fixed it to the roof of the magic cube vehicle. The magic cube smoothly drove toward the big tree from yesterday. A container truck could hold nearly 60 people, but with so many and such a long time, the zombies had to be lured away. Who would have thought firecrackers, aside from celebrating festivals, could also be used to lure monsters? Crackling sounds attracted all nearby zombies. Zhang Xiaowen deftly climbed out of the window and opened the container's rear door. The students filed in quickly while Zhang Xiaowen stood guard with her pistol. A few stronger boys, including a chubby one and a guy named Gao Dong, also stood nearby with steel pipes and other simple weapons. Zhang Xiaowen noticed that the truck seemed to have been modified again by the magic cube overnight. Besides the V-shaped steel plate on the front, similar plates had been added before the rear wheels. This was likely a solution the magic cube had devised after the truck was blocked by obstacles during a turn yesterday. Now even when turning, obstacles could be easily pushed aside without hindering the wheels. This modification made the truck perform even better than an off-road vehicle. The powerful engine and immense inertia could surely push through any obstacle. Roar! A zombie suddenly emerged from somewhere, charging at the students boarding the truck, causing a small panic. Don't be afraid. Board in order. With her left hand, she pulled the bolt to chamber around, raised the pistol, and opened fire. Bang! 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 Only the third shot hit the zombie's head. Zhang Xiaowen shook her head, regretting the wasted bullets. In this era of halted production, every bullet was precious. Hurry up. What's the hesitation? Thousands of zombies are coming. Move it. Damn it. Watching a few students dawdle disgusted by the filth, Zhang Xiaowen grew furious. Before she could finish yelling, another zombie appeared, and she quickly raised her pistol to fire. At that moment, 2 more zombies ran out from the corner. The chubby guy and Gao Dong, holding steel pipes, turned pale as they watched the zombies wave their arms and charge. It was one thing to pick up a weapon, but quite another to use it in combat. Overwhelmed by fear, their eyes were wide, faces drenched in sweat. Each step of the zombies seemed to stomp on their hearts. The zombies' shirts and ties indicated they were office workers in life, but now they clawed the air like monsters. As the zombies drew closer, rat-a-tat-tat, the magic cube had just returned from the playground, extending a machine gun from its roof and firing a burst. Bullets punched several holes in the zombies' heads. The running zombies, propelled by inertia, stumbled forward a bit before crashing onto the asphalt, less than 5 meters from the boarding students. Zhang Xiaowen glanced over with her gun raised. Seeing the magic cube had returned, she focused on her own side. The chubby guy and Gao Dong took deep breaths, watching the blue large-wheeled toy off-road vehicle approach with a motor sound. It spun around and reversed to a stop, its small magical turret on the roof keeping watch. They exchanged glances, both relieved. They made a mental note to get a toy car of their own. Get in the truck now. Close the door. Teacher He, you sit in the cab. Zhang Xiaowen pushed the last person into the container and slammed the door shut with a clang. All right, I'll go to the front. Teacher He hurried to the cab, but it was too high. Used to small cars where a simple bend sufficed, she didn't expect a truck cab to be so tall. Weak from exhaustion, she failed twice to climb in. Zhang Xiaowen had to give her a push from behind before she could scramble into the cab. After tossing the magic cube into the cab, Zhang Xiaowen climbed and slammed the door shut and started the big truck. It bulldozed its way through the scattered cars, following the planned route. Fortunately, there weren't too many vehicles at the turns, and the reinforced truck managed to avoid getting stuck. When turning, Zhang Xiaowen was careful to prevent the long truck from getting jammed. Driving straight was simpler, just step on the gas. Passing the train station square, countless zombies staggered after the truck. The usually busy station was still bustling, but with zombies. Fortunately, they were slow. The V-shaped steel plates pushed aside zombies and small cars, allowing the truck to easily head toward the Riverside Road. Inside the container, through small gaps, dozens of people could be seen sitting on crate boxes. Many girls hugged each other tightly, covering their ears to block out the thuds of zombies pounding on the container walls. So many cars wrecked. Hope those damn insurance companies will handle it. In the old days, there'd be people lying on the ground, faking accidents for compensation, ha. Zhang Xiaowen joked while looking at the mess behind her through the rearview mirror. Teacher He in the passenger seat forced a pale smile. Surrounded by zombies, the feeling was truly terrifying. It was hard to muster a genuine smile. After the truck rounded a bend, it finally reached the Riverside Road. The siege eased and the speed increased. This road was normally off-limits for trucks. Hopefully they wouldn't get a ticket for breaking the rules. Suddenly, the magic cube emitted a crackling radio signal, intermittent and unclear. Broadcast. This is national state of emergency. Please evacuate. Stay safe. Avoid being bitten. Find a secure place to protect yourselves. Those who can leave the city should do so now. The nation is contacting all survivors. Hold on. Weapons ban lifted. Use weapons freely. Everyone, maintain order. The signal was poor, but it was a positive sign, rekindling hope in many. Teacher He was so excited she nearly hugged the magic cube. After waiting so long for news from the nation, it was impossible not to be moved. Even Zhang Xiaowen smiled. The broadcast repeated, and the magic cube connected to the truck's speakers, turning the volume to maximum so everyone in the container could hear. Through the thick steel plates, Zhang Xiaowen and Teacher He could hear cheers of excitement and joy from the back. Through the broadcasting cube, I learned a few things. First, the national military was essentially out of contact, barely able to organize an effective assembly for battle. Second survivors could only rely on themselves to struggle for survival. It would likely take a long time to receive national rescue. Given that no broadcast signals from other countries had been received, this was a global phenomenon. That the Chinese government could send a broadcast signal to this border city so quickly showed considerable effort. Third, the city was dangerous, and leaving it was the most correct decision. At this season, corn, rice, and vegetables were already edible. Rather than staying in the city hoarding soon-to-mold food, it was better to head to the countryside where there were fewer zombies. In the rear compartment, I really can't understand why the nation and Sister Zhang all want to go to the countryside. Isn't it better to stay in the city? There's so much supplies here, food and water. A student said curiously. Are you stupid? Read too many novels, the fat guy said with disdain. How many days can the food and water in convenience stores and supermarkets last? Even if there are large stockpiles, without management, spoilage is only a matter of time. As for grain stores and large granaries, they require constant monitoring of temperature and humidity. Did you think grain could just be left there? 1 or 2 months might be fine, but after 3 or 4 months, without management, temperature and humidity issues would cause mold and spoilage. The student opened his mouth, realizing he knew nothing about food preservation. By then, we'd be eating moldy, spoiled grain, while those in the countryside, though working hard, could enjoy fresh grain and vegetables. What could we do in the city? Sing karaoke, drink, eat, barbecue, shop at the mall, Gao Dong said with a sneer. Everyone thought it over and realized that was indeed the case. In the cab, the cube was searching for the next destination, needing to ensure both safety and convenient transportation. Although mountainous areas were generally safe, the best location still needed to be chosen. In a short while, it found a good place, Longshan, 17 kilometers from the city. In this coastal region, with an elevation of just over 10 meters, Longshan rose over 700 meters. The southern slope was steep and dangerous, while the northern slope had abundant water resources with valleys crisscrossing. On the northern slope, there was a golf estate and a temple halfway up the mountain, surrounded by vast fertile fields, sparse population, close to the expressway and national highway, and near the city, making it convenient to fetch supplies. Zhang Xiaowen, who was driving, saw the map, route, and destination displayed on her lenses. Trusting the cube implicitly, she immediately followed the route without hesitation. A military camp. Zhang Xiaowen spotted a sentry post by the riverside road, likely garrisoned by a single platoon. Screech. She braked and parked the large truck by the roadside. The road was built on a dam with steep slopes on both sides in a border area with sparse population, so it was safe to stop. Carrying the toy car cube, Zhang Xiaowen got out and opened the rear compartment to let the students get some fresh air. Since the apocalypse broke out, this was the first time the students stood under the sun. The green grass, river, and sunlight captivated them. The cube's motors whirred as it led the way, driving straight into the barracks after descending the dam. Aside from a few zombies, there was nothing else. They had likely been on a mission when the zombie outbreak occurred and couldn't return. After easily dispatching a few zombies, the cube scanned the entire building. Armory, second floor, far left room. For zombies on the first and second floors. 3 on the first, 1 on the second, the cube reported to Zhang Xiaowen through the earpiece. "You'll clear them," Zhang Xiaowen said, stepping into the building first. The cube followed her inside, transforming into a robot once out of sight. With a couple of clicks, its mechanical arms shifted into weapon forms, and its wheeled feet rotated to search for targets. Bang, bang, bang. Clink, clink, clink. 3 yellow shell casings tumbled to the ground with faint smoke. 2 zombies were killed. Zhang Xiaowen drew a short sword and stabbed a zombie trapped behind iron railings. The zombie on the second floor, agitated by the gunfire, kept roaring, but the echo in the corridor prevented it from pinpointing Zhang Xiaowen's location. Pistol in hand, Zhang Xiaowen continued upstairs. A single zombie posed no pressure to her, and the cube watched from behind with great satisfaction. Upon reaching the second floor, the last zombie seemed to smell the scent of flesh, sniffing eagerly with its back to the stairs. Hey, the zombie spun around instantly, its eyes meeting the dark muzzle of the gun. Oblivious to the weapon's danger, it opened its mouth to lunge forward. Bang! The bullet pierced the zombie's skull, and the impact sent it tumbling aside. A pair of women's combat boots stepped past the zombie's sight and continued toward the end of the corridor. "Cube, you open this safe." "No problem. Even with a key, I could open it. This lock is far too primitive." The cube's limbs adhered to the lock like magnets as it crawled close. Its right mechanical hand transformed into a bayonet, stabbing into the keyhole with a sharp sound. Zhang Xiaowen heard clicking mechanical noises from within, and the cube twisted its arm. Click. The safe swung open easily. "We hit the jackpot," Zhang Xiaowen exclaimed excitedly. Inside the safe, aside from weapons that might have been taken, 12 assault rifles were arranged on shelves. With black bodies and rear magazines, these were standard military weapons. Their widespread use testified to their reliability. Besides the rifles, there were 8 cases of ammunition. Being just a border sentry post, the arsenal wasn't huge, but Zhang Xiaowen was more than satisfied. She picked up an assault rifle to examine it, and weapon specifications and usage instructions appeared on her lenses. "Foolish woman, I think you'd be better off with this," the cube said, handing her a gun from the corner. It was a bullpup design, a Type 055 8mm submachine gun. Zhang Xiaowen took the Type 05 SMG, and detailed specs appeared on her lenses. Convenient to carry, good maneuverability, stable firing, could be fired one-handed. The overall length was less than 700 millimeters, weight under 2.7 kilograms. The receiver enveloped nearly 2/3 of the barrel, shortening the overall length, and with the magazine positioned behind the grip, the center of gravity shifted near the grip. Additionally, the silencer, receiver grip, and stock components used lightweight aluminum alloy and engineering plastics, reducing the overall weight. There were 2 of them in the corner, both equipped with silencers, ensuring gunfire wouldn't attract zombies. They were the optimal weapons. With just one glance, Zhang Xiaowen fell in love with the Type 05 SMG and unceremoniously claimed them as her own. The teachers and students standing on the highway embankment fixed their gazes on the 3-story building painted in camouflage colors, when suddenly they saw a sliding aluminum window on the 2nd floor being pushed open. "Stay alert. You boys come over here to move things," Zhang Xiaowen shouted from the window. "What do you need us to do?" "Move food. Whatever it is, we should go over." Seeing Sister Zhang so happy, there must be something good. A group of boys quickly scrambled down the embankment and ran toward the military barracks outpost, still reluctant to let go of the iron pipes in their hands. The girls, meanwhile, stood by the guardrails of the highway, watching the barracks outpost with curiosity, wondering why so many people were being called over. The number of boys was not large, perhaps because the girls were organizing some activity in the large classroom at the back building. Among the nearly 60 people, there were only 19 boys, the rest being girls. Click, click, click. The Rubik's Cube folded, deformed, and transformed back into a toy car. The fat boy led the way, panting as he ran upstairs. When he reached Zhang Xiaowen, he saw the cabinets in the room filled with guns and ammunition. As the other boys caught up, the group of lads stared at the firearms with reddened eyes brimming with excitement. In this world, nothing was more threatening than guns and ammunition. But when that threat was in one's own hands, it became the greatest guarantee of safety. After all, which boy hadn't played with toy guns as a child, running around all day with a plastic gun in hand, making shooting sounds? It was a unique sentiment. And when the apocalypse descended and real guns and ammunition were laid before them, an indescribable sense of security surged forth. For now, no loading ammunition into the guns and no using them. Take the guns to the front cabin and the ammunition to the rear compartment. The ammunition boxes must be carried by 2 people. Zhang Xiaowen handed the guns to the boys as she gave her instructions. The ammunition boxes, though not large in appearance, were actually quite heavy. For these students who spent their days sitting in classrooms, moving them alone would likely leave them bent over with exhaustion. The reason for not loading the guns now was also sound. If someone who had never used a firearm attempted to fire one, the recoil could send a bullet flying into a teammate's body. Although Zhang Xiaowen had never used a firearm before, her enhanced physique and the high-tech visor's assistance at least allowed her to send bullets toward the enemy. Guns were not something to be trifled with. Even a small mistake could cost a life. With a submachine gun slung across her chest and 4 magazines tucked into her tactical vest, Zhang Xiaowen smiled as she single-handedly carried an ammunition box and walked out. Her perfect, slightly slender figure managed to maintain a graceful stride, even while carrying the box, astonishing the group of young boys. Such incredible physical fitness. Though moving weapons and ammunition left them drenched in sweat and exhausted, the boys still grinned from ear to ear. When they climbed back onto the highway embankment, the girls gathered around, letting out bursts of exclamations. At that moment, the 6 punks standing at the periphery saw the guns, and their eyes lit up, their hearts unable to contain their excitement. If they could get their hands on those guns, wouldn't they be the ones calling the shots in this temporary team? Food, drink, and young women. The only difficult one to deal with would be that female Special Forces soldier. Just then, the 6 suddenly noticed Zhang Xiaowen raising the submachine gun in her hand, aiming it at them. Wait. The leader was shocked and terrified. Was she going to kill them to silence them? Could that female Special Forces soldier read minds? Rat-a-tat. The silencer did an excellent job of muffling the sound, leaving only a very faint noise. After firing, Zhang Xiaowen reslung the gun and then placed 12 assault rifles into the back seat of the cabin. She had merely killed a zombie that had crawled up from beneath the highway embankment. To be honest, the crosshair reticle on the visor was really handy, aiming wherever she wanted, hitting wherever she aimed. The 6 punks were drenched in sweat, whether from the scorching sun or from the fright Zhang Xiaowen had given them. Not everyone was mentally prepared to face a submachine gun firing at them. It was already impressive that the six hadn't wet their pants. Trembling, they stiffly turned around and saw a zombie corpse sprawled across the highway guardrail, 2 holes in its long-haired head, oozing black blood. Get in the car. Keep moving. 2 hours later. The journey wasn't far, but the poor traffic conditions made the progress somewhat slow, though still within acceptable limits. Turning off the national highway onto a smooth asphalt road, they headed toward Longshan. By noon, they finally spotted the golf estate. Is it really safe here? Teacher, he asked nervously. Backed by Longshan, the tallest mountain nearby with steep southern slopes, and no human habitation, zombies couldn't possibly cross it. The estate is on a slope with a wide field of view, relatively abundant water and food. Besides a few scattered farmhouses, there's hardly anyone around. It's much safer than No. 6 middle school. True. Hopefully there are fewer zombies here. Under a clear sky dotted with white clouds, a large truck drove into the scenic Longshan area. Expanses of crops, lush green lawns, and towering trees growing on the grass. Everything seemed so peaceful. As they passed the entrance pavilion of the golf estate, Zhang Xiaowen drew her pistol from her thigh holster, aimed through a gap, and fired a shot. She shattered the head of a zombie in a security guard uniform inside the pavilion, shattering the tranquility of the scenic area as well. With her enhanced physical abilities, her marksmanship was becoming more accurate. Why didn't you use that submachine gun? The sound is quieter and won't attract other zombies. Teacher, he asked, puzzled as to why Zhang Xiaowen had used the unsilenced pistol. This will be our home from now on. Luring them out and cleaning them up is the only way to sleep soundly. Teacher, he thought about it and realized that was true. No one wanted a zombie lurking by their pillow, staring at their neck every day. Soon the large truck stopped in an open space in front of a large building on the estate. The building's front was mostly floor-to-ceiling glass, and a dozen zombies, some in fancy suits with potbellies, some in work clothes, and some in gaudy attire, were pounding fiercely on the tempered glass, their eyes fixed on the truck. Don't get out until I tell you to. Bang! Zhang Xiaowen opened the door and jumped out, taking a few deep breaths. She checked her pistol. At her feet, the Rubik's Cube had extended a machine gun from the roof, ready for a big battle. 57 zombies. Conserve ammunition as much as possible. 1 shot, 1 kill. The Rubik's Cube's voice came through the earpiece. All right, I've realized that zombies are really just that. Once you overcome the fear, killing them is no big deal. The Rubik's Cube rolled its eyes. No big deal, she says. Did she think she was playing a video game? Zhang Xiaowen had a pistol on her right thigh and a short sword on her left, with a submachine gun slung across her chest. She adjusted her tactical helmet and visor, then with her long legs taking graceful strides, walked toward a few zombies staggering and running nearby. When she was less than 2 meters away, she raised the gun and pulled the trigger. Bang! 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 Inside the rear compartment, it was somewhat stifling. Hearing the gunfire outside, many people shuddered with each shot. Only Fatty and Gao Dong crouched by a crack, watching Zhang Xiaowen outside with envy. Her agile movements, formidable strength, and precise marksmanship. These were the true keys to survival in this terrifying apocalypse. Bang! After 1 shot shattered the head of a pot-bellied male zombie in fancy clothes, Zhang Xiaowen ejected the empty magazine, placed it in a pouch on her tactical vest, and retrieved a fully loaded magazine. She chambered a round, raised the gun, and fired. Cube, why is your marksmanship so precise? How should I put it? I have a rangefinder, air pressure and humidity sensors, X-ray vision, thermal radiation sensing, ballistic calculation, and a remote telemetry system. Before Cube could finish. Stop, you're just showing off. Showing off? To be honest, I don't have any currency. Those things are utterly useless to me. If you need, I can initiate a bank computer transfer to your account. You can write any number you wish. Forget it. The zombies outside are gone. Let's clear the ones inside the rooms. Zhang Xiaowen reloaded her magazine as she strode toward the large house, forcing herself not to look at Cube. Transfer money. Write any number. What use was a pile of numbers in the apocalypse? Far better than that high-tech gear. Was showing off so blatantly really appropriate? Aliens were indeed highly advanced, though they didn't look like the bijed, thin-necked creatures from movies. Instead, they resembled transformers. Zhang Xiaowen had no desire to destroy the large French glass door. Where would she find replacement glass? Even if she didn't need glass, where would she find a mason to build a wall? It would be a pity to ruin such a beautiful house. So she had to lure the zombies out one by one, stabbing each with a short sword as they emerged. This saved ammunition and spared the interior. Breaking the glass or damaging the decorations would mean she'd have to fix it herself. A heartbreaking thought, given how expensive the renovations were. Once out of sight of the truck, Cube transformed into a robot with a series of clicks and clanks, swaggering through the zombies into the hall. He casually picked up a fruit phone, reportedly very popular before the apocalypse, snapped off the useless casing and tossed it into his mouth as a snack. Tui. He spat out the useless plastic and waste, having absorbed the metal inside the phone. Decepticons attack. Autobots attack. Click-clack. With a flick of his arms, a small machine gun and a bayonet appeared. He sliced through a zombie's shin bone with the blade, then fired a bullet from the left-arm machine gun straight into the fallen zombie's forehead. At close range, the lethality was excellent. What did it matter if the gun was small, as long as the firepower was sufficient? And so one slash to a leg, then a shot to the head. Cube's clearing speed surpassed Zhang Xiaowen's. Zhang Xiaowen glared at Cube in dissatisfaction. Didn't this alien understand Earth customs? Did he have any idea how expensive that large carpet on the floor was? Now pools of black putrid blood were splattered everywhere. How would she clean it? Who would do it? Where could she buy a new carpet now? In Cube's eyes, there was probably nothing but metal. He simply didn't understand life. As he was killing zombies, Cube shuddered violently. He checked himself thoroughly, but found no short circuits. Then why had he just shivered? He'd have to find time to inspect the circuits. Couldn't risk a malfunction. Bang, 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 bang. The gunfire continued, quickly clearing the hall of zombies. From other rooms came the thumping sounds of zombies crashing against walls. Zhang Xiaowen silently hoped they would bash their own brains out. In a room on the second floor, a zombie slammed hard into a wall, then stumbled backward and fell. Its head struck the upright shards of a broken fish tank. Splat! The sharp glass pierced through its forehead, and the zombie was dead beyond doubt. To avoid the nauseating stench of the zombies, Zhang Xiaowen covered her nose and mouth with a scarf, raised her pistol, and ascended to the second floor. The wooden stairs creaked under her weight. Her glasses displayed three-dimensional outlines of the rooms, with red markers indicating zombies. In the room to her right, two zombies were visible. One appeared to be a pot-bellied man, the other a slender woman. Bang! The door swung open, shots rang out, shell casings clattered to the floor. One zombie, one bullet. She curled her lip at the two zombies. They weren't even dressed. The outbreak had occurred in the morning. If they were doing this at that hour, they must have had plenty of energy and spirit. What a waste of time. Woo! Cube poked his head out from beside Zhang Xiaowen's leg and let out a lecherous whistle. She grabbed him by the leg and dragged him away. Hey, I was just studying humans. Why so rough? Cube dangled upside down, his vision swaying as he yelled. Just clear the zombies. There are over a dozen villas nearby. I refuse to believe that after copying most of Earth's mainframes, you didn't copy any unsavory movies. Zhang Xiaowen tossed Cube into a large hall on the second floor, where 5 or 6 zombies in designer clothes stood staring at him with milky white eyes. How rude. Cube decided not to bother arguing with a woman who couldn't comprehend his logic. Having justified his stance, he eagerly set about clearing the zombies. Gunfire echoed continuously through the scenic Longshan Golf estate. In truth, after killing a few zombies, one's courage grew. Zhang Xiaowen now felt as though she were merely culling dangerous animals. She had progressed from feeling nauseated at the sight of blood to being able to blow a zombie's skull apart with a single shot. Her mental fortitude was strengthening. If Cube suggested returning to the city, now she might even be bold enough to drive straight in. After clearing several houses in a row, Zhang Xiaowen looked at the large truck parked in the open space. The cargo hold is stuffy, and it's lunchtime. They'll let them out. I bet some of them have been holding in their need to use the bathroom. You clear the remaining 2 villas on your own. Go ahead. Just a few zombies. Cube waved his mechanical arm magnanimously. Zhang Xiaowen grabbed a mountain bike nearby, mounted it, and sped down the slope. The cool breeze dried the sweat on her forehead and hair, a sensation she found immensely pleasant. Surrounded by the beautiful scenery, she reflected that before the apocalypse, she could never have entered this place. Now she could come and go as she pleased. How unpredictable life was. Screech. She squeezed the brakes and stopped the bike beside the truck. Teacher, you can come out now. She flipped the latch and opened the rear door. The air that rushed out was unpleasant, thick with sweat and carbon dioxide. The restroom is on the left side of that big, beautiful house. You'll see it as soon as you enter. Take 15 minutes to rest, then well eat. Sister Zhang, do you need help clearing the zombies? Fatty Gao Dong and a few other boys said nervously to Zhang Xiaowen. She felt gratified. At least they weren't the type to rely on others to survive. Though, she herself had depended so heavily on Cube. Not for now. My remote-controlled toy car is clearing the last 2 villas. Rest and eat first. You'll have plenty to do later. The group was speechless. What kind of remote-controlled car was that? The programming must be incredible. Okay. Thank you, Sister Zhang. You're welcome. The others looked at Zhang Xiaowen with admiration. Several girls came up to thank her, filling the former Shuden with an unfamiliar sense of vanity. For a moment she felt elated. Then, hearing Cube's gunfire in the distance, her face flushed with embarrassment. She felt she had treated Cube unfairly. After a brief rest, both boys and girls, began unloading food from the truck. Crackers, ham, canned fish, and even several cases of drinks and beer from the Gulf Estate Clubhouse. Learning that they would be staying here and had beds to sleep on lifted their spirits. With a rare place to settle, weary faces broke into faint smiles as they gathered around the truck, eating heartily and drinking freely. Although they had left the city, this place was still close to the urban area. In fact, from the residential towers downtown, one could see the towering Dragon Mountain range shrouded in mist. Living here didn't evoke a sense of being far from home. During the meal, the Rubik's Cube, with its motor humming, rolled down the slope to Zhang Xiaowen's side, serving as a makeshift radio. Let me announce this afternoon's tasks. All men will collect rubber gloves, load the zombie bodies onto carts, and haul them to the pit at the entrance. There are several piles of corn stalks there. Well, burn the corpses to prevent viruses and outbreaks. All women will clean with mops, spray disinfectant, store the food in the house, and gather mattresses, bedding, and all wearable clothes. That's the plan for the afternoon. For the sake of our new home, I hope everyone works hard. Everything Zhang Xiaowen said was displayed on the lens by the Rubik's Cube, an optimal plan derived from calculations. Other tasks could wait. Accomplishing this much in an afternoon was already impressive. Moving and burning the zombies, especially with these inexperienced people, might not even be enough time. To our new home. To survival. Cheers. Fatty raised his glass and shouted. Cheers. All the teachers, students, the 6 punks, and Zhang Xiaowen raised their glasses, yelling loudly before downing their beer or drinks. The Rubik's Cube, now a remote-controlled toy car, sighed. Well, before it only had to sustain one person, but now it had to take care of 60. As the saying goes, with great power comes great responsibility. While Zhang Xiaowen and the others feasted, the grass in the distance rustled, revealing a pair of eyes fixed on the crowd and the food. After staring for a while, it turned and disappeared into the dense thicket. Zhang Xiaowen glanced over, furrowing her brow. After scanning and finding nothing, she turned her attention back to the food. Rubik's Cube, I feel like something was watching us from that western patch of grass. It's just intuition. I can't explain why I have this feeling. After your abilities improve, you naturally become sensitive to gazes around you. Let's go check it out later. The Rubik's Cube spoke to Zhang Xiaowen through the earpiece in her goggles. All right, better safe than sorry. After lunch, under Teacher He's direction, everyone began their tasks. Zhang Xiaowen, on guard duty, headed west with the Rubik's Cube to search. Fortunately, the scanning equipment was functioning, otherwise she would never have ventured into the dense undergrowth. Crackling. Once inside the thicket, the Rubik's Cube transformed back into a robot, its eyes emitting fan-shaped scanning beams that swept back and forth. Any findings? Is it a zombie or a human? Neither, but I suggest you stay cautious. Observe first to determine if there's a threat before deciding whether to use weapons. The Rubik's Cube said something cryptic, then plunged ahead into the grass, running off into the distance. Its wheels and feet made movement awkward in the vegetation. Zhang Xiaowen hesitated, then gripped her gun and chased after it, struggling through the waist-high grass. The plant scent in the grass was intense. The Rubik's Cube calculated that even a zombie's nose would struggle to distinguish biological odors amidst the foliage. Forcing her way through various leaves, Zhang Xiaowen found herself at a dilapidated courtyard. The crumbling house still had a few tiles, and ivy and other plants covered the entire structure. Moss grew on the stone walls about a meter high. When her goggles focused on the ruined house, they revealed 4 creatures. 3 small ones huddled together, indistinct, and 1 large shape that looked like a big dog. Woof! Woof! The sudden barking startled Zhang Xiaowen. It wasn't the usual bark, but a deeper guttural sound. The large dog-like creature near the house poked its head out from the doorway. A German Shepherd. It's really big. The Rubik's Cube's mechanical eyes instantly analyzed the dog, confirming it was a purebred German Shepherd, though slightly larger than average. Judging by the collar tag, it likely belonged to the Gulf Estate. Considering the 3 puppies in the house, the Rubik's Cube surmised that when the zombie outbreak began, the dog sensed danger instinctively and carried its pups here to hide. Animals flee danger by instinct, like before an earthquake. It was remarkable that the mother dog had managed to save all 3 of her pups in such chaos. Why is it so wary of us? 2 reasons. First, it's a maternal instinct to protect its young. Second, it likely faced threats from zombies before. Until it's sure we're safe, it will guard its pups. The German Shepherd kept baring its teeth, eyes locked on Zhang Xiaowen, its nose twitching occasionally to sniff the air. It paid less attention to the Rubik's Cube, which was just a pile of metal, curious perhaps about the moving object. I remember when I was little, my grandfather's house in the countryside had a big yellow dog. Every time we visited, it would stand at the village entrance with Grandpa to greet us. It lived for 16 years. So how can I make this German Shepherd stop seeing us as enemies? It's malnourished and has insufficient milk probably because it can't find enough food nearby. I suggest you offer it food first so it senses you're not a zombie. Ideally, we can bring it back to live with us. It would make an excellent guard, far better than those child soldiers. Zhang Xiaowen quickly pulled a ham sausage from her pocket, peeled off the plastic casing, and held it out toward the German Shepherd. At that moment, denying her nervousness would be a lie. The German Shepherd sniffed, clearly catching the scent of the ham. Starving and low on milk, it didn't detect any zombie odor. It stared at Zhang Xiaowen as it crept closer to the sausage. Surprisingly, the dog brushed its nose against her delicate hand, licked it, then snatched the ham and dashed back into the ruined house. Hee hee, that tickles. It knows I'm human. Let's go inside and take a look. The German Shepherd didn't stop them from entering. In a corner, the Rubik's Cube and Zhang Xiaowen saw a litter of 3 puppies. Though starving, the mother dog didn't eat the ham immediately. Instead, she chewed it up to feed her hungry pups, who could only eat small amounts since they weren't weaned yet. It was a desperate measure, showing how much the mother German Shepherd loved her offspring. After the puppies could eat no more, the mother dog finally consumed the leftover ham. Then she approached Zhang Xiaowen and tugged at her pants with her mouth. Rubik's Cube, what's she doing? I'm a mechanical life form, or a computer. I'm no animal expert. This species has lived alongside humans for millennia. Don't you know what she's trying to say? As a human, shouldn't you feel ashamed? Why does that actually sound reasonable? The Rubik's Cube was speechless. As a group of boys along with 6 emo teenagers dragged a cart of corpses towards the burning site, they spotted Zhang Xiaowen accompanied by a magical toy car, but there was also a black-backed dog beside her, its physique exuding an intimidating presence. Of course, there was also the natural instinct to fear large black dogs. Upon getting closer, they saw that Zhang Xiaowen was cradling 3 adorable puppies in her arms, making soft whimpering sounds. When they brought the black-backed dog and the puppies back to the large glass house, the 3 puppies instantly captured the attention of all the girls. Their chubby little bodies and playful antics melted the hearts of the girls, who took every opportunity to pet them as they walked by. Even teacher, he was no exception. The previously somber students wore smiles on their faces thanks to the presence of these 3 little lives. Once inside the house, the female black-backed dog was quite alert and a bit uneasy, sniffing the lingering scent of zombies in the room. It seemed to have experienced a severe fright here before. Fortunately, with Zhang Xiaowen's constant soothing, it gradually calmed down. The dog likely settled down after observing the busy girls coming and going, as it could clearly distinguish between humans and zombies, who otherwise it wouldn't have followed Zhang Xiaowen back. Let's place its nest next to the firearms and ammunition on the side of that counter, said Magic Cube through the earpiece to Zhang Xiaowen. Having a black-backed dog to guard the guns was far better than placing them in any room. Oh, that's a good idea. In a few months, when the puppies grow up, we'll have 3 more guards for the courtyard. Zhang Xiaowen gathered some old blankets to make a nest for the puppies and brought over a bowl of food. Although there was a hint of wastefulness, having a necessary guard was still very important. With the strong stench of decay from the zombies, it would indeed be odd if the dog couldn't smell it. It was a rare night of a full moon shining brightly. Under Zhang Xiaowen's suggestion, everyone did not split up into different villas. Even without her urging, nobody wanted to stay isolated in distant places. They all stayed in the 2-story house of the golf resort reception area with large glass windows, bringing in numerous mattresses and blankets, separating boys and girls to different sides on both floors. In the moonlight, a large black-backed dog could be seen lying at the door. Zhang Xiaowen had named it Dahe, while Magic Cube suggested calling it Black-backed Dog No. 1, but that was dismissed. Perhaps due to the threat of zombies, Dahe remained vigilant, lying at the door except for checking on the puppies. Its ears were perked up, which made Zhang Xiaowen very pleased. On the rooftop terrace railings, Zhang Xiaowen and Magic Cube sat with their chins resting on their hands, gazing at the moon. The contrasting silhouettes of the large and small figures were bathed in a slightly bluish moonlight, accompanied by the sounds of crickets. Magic Cube, is the moon beautiful? I haven't looked at the moon. Oh, I can if you need me to, replied Magic Cube, resting its chin without lifting its head. Haven't seen the moon? Then what are you looking at? Don't tell me you are peering through the universe to find truth. I'm seeing where I am. TCH, aren't you just sitting right here? You make it sound like you're well-versed in philosophy. How pretentious. Zhang Xiaowen pouted. What should we do next? It's simple to treat this place as a camp. First, establish protective facilities and set up a warning zone. Tomorrow, have teacher, he lead everyone to prepare around the camp. The plans and requirements are already in your laptop. Remember to let the laptop sunbathe to recharge. Speaking of electricity, Magic Cube, can you restore power? Don't rush about power. There are many things to do. Tomorrow, I will personally scout the nearby situation. After you and teacher, he arranged the tasks. Select a few people regardless of gender to get familiar with firearms training. The methods of using and maintaining assault rifles are all in the computer. By the way, that Chubby One and Gao Dong are good choices. That's good. I'm not interested in management. I can just pass the problems to Teacher He later. Magic Cube nodded at Zhang Xiaowen's opinion. She truly wasn't cut out for that role. Being a ranger was much more comfortable. Being a guardian was far easier than being the head. Even when facing danger, having a fearless robot like it leading the charge was nothing to fear. You should sleep early. Tonight I and Dahe will take charge of the watch. MHM good night. Mechanical life forms don't need good night. How insensitive, you don't understand emotional greetings at all. Your head is just a pile of metal. Indeed, my computer core contains no cells. Magic Cube spoke seriously. A night of silence passed. In the morning, under Zhang Xiaowen's gaze, Magic Cube's eyes emitted green fan-shaped scanning beams as it scanned a streamlined toy remote-controlled car in the display case. After a few clicks, it transformed into a blue remote-controlled car with a big off-road vehicle for rough terrain and a racing car for high-speed travel, instantly complete with all its functions. Zhang Xiaowen had only one thought in her mind: so cool. It was just a bit small. If it were a bit larger, it would be an all-purpose sports car. I'm going to search the fork in the road town. I might be back in the afternoon. Bye. In the astonished gaze of Zhang Xiaowen, Magic Cube's motor instantly accelerated, and the tires screeched out a cloud of black smoke before it shot out like a real race car, speeding along the smooth asphalt road. Although its speed couldn't match a real car, it was close. As Fatty and Gao Dong stepped outside, they saw Magic Cube racing past them, nearly giving them a scare. Sister Zhang, you modified another toy car. Its autonomous driving capability is really impressive, way better than those high-tech drones on TV. Fatty exclaimed in shock, with Gao Dong nodding in agreement behind him. It's nothing much. You two go find 10 people, 5 men and 5 women, preferably those with good physiques and bold personalities. 10 people. No problem, but can you be more specific? That would help in choosing. It's simple. Establish a temporary guard team for security and train them on the basic knowledge of using firearms. Regardless of what was happening at the camp, Magic Cube was speeding recklessly on the sparsely populated asphalt road. With a screech, Magic Cube executed a perfect drift at a sharp turn. In terms of toy cars, there was no one but high-tech mechanical life forms capable of such maneuvers. Unfortunately, it accidentally knocked over a frog crossing the street. The poor frog soared through the air, limbs outstretched, its white belly glistening under the sun. Startled, it landed with a plop and jumped straight into the grass by the roadside. On the quiet highway, Magic Cube's headlights flashed continuously, emitting siren-like sounds as it recklessly accelerated. When passing a speed camera, it deliberately sped up. As it entered the town, a toy race car roared with a buzzing motor. Once inside, the car leaped into the air, and in slow motion, it could be seen transforming midair. With a few clicks, it became a small robot over 30 centimeters tall, landing and rolling to create a shower of sparks before standing upright. With a clang, his right hand transformed into a bayonet, severing the leg of a zombie that was staring intently at him, then finishing it off with a stab to the back of its head as it collapsed. Oh, a virus that disgusts mechanical life forms. His eyes emitted a red fan-shaped scanning beam, sweeping across the entire town. Regrettably, no survivors were found, only a few lazy cats perched on rooftops, curiously watching the howling zombies below, likely pondering why humans, already foolish in their eyes, had become even more so. An enhanced zombie. While killing it for study wouldn't hurt. With his cube-shaped wheeled feet, he sprinted a few steps, leaped abruptly, landed with a thud on the hood of a black car, continued running, then leaped again, raising his right arm, bayonet high in the air, to stab a somewhat robust zombie whose mouth still bore traces of blood and flesh, likely the remains of a survivor who had just been there. This enhanced zombie displayed a faint instinct for danger avoidance, but it was weak, merely twitching slightly. Thud. The bayonet plunged deep into the zombie's medulla oblongata. Then the cube stood on the zombie's shoulder as it fell to the ground, landing with a soft thump, the faint breeze scattering a few white plastic bags. Up close, the cube activated its scanning equipment to examine the enhanced zombie, focusing on its head. Most of the brain tissue is unresponsive, only the parts responsible for movement and feeding instincts remain active. This explains why zombies, despite lacking reason, will relentlessly tear at their targets even if their nails break. The thinking part of the brain is useless and feels no pain. That's also why they possess such immense strength. With pain receptors and cognition, disabled muscles can exert maximum force without regard for injury, much like zombies that pound on doors, endlessly feeling no pain until their muscles or bones shatter. The virus in the nerve center seems denser than in other zombies. After scanning, the cube discovered that the virus concentration in the medulla oblongata was slightly higher, by about 1 to 2%. Could this be the reason for the zombie's enhanced physique? More virus means stronger physique. That's hardly good news. After recording the data meticulously, he began his work. This phenomenon required ongoing observation. A single corpse wasn't enough to draw conclusions. Though the town was small, towns in the Northeast shared a common trait: abundant supplies. Every rural household in the Northeast was like a small base stocked with everything from needles and thread to harvesters and tractors. The central town was a treasure trove of farming tools and goods. Grain and cooking oil piled high in stores, tools and workwear in supply shops, and building materials and hardware stores sufficient for several houses. Most importantly, the pharmacy, while unable to treat serious illnesses, was well stocked with common medications, and counterfeit drugs were virtually non-existent. After all, everyone knew each other, and selling fakes would invite a beating. With few zombies around, I won't clear them out yet. They make free caretakers for supplies. After surveying the area, the cube climbed swiftly to the top of the town's tallest building, a 3-story post office. The zombies showed no interest in him, but he was surrounded by Earth's most curious creatures: 4 cats. One resembling Officer Black Cat, 2 yellow tabbies, and a traditional tabby. Shoo, we're all aliens here, so don't get too close. I'm talking to you. Keep your paws off. Does being a Meowian give you the right to poke and prod? Meow. The 4 Meowians clearly mistook the cube for a toy. Humans play with trailing him around the rooftop and occasionally patting the wheels on his shoulders with their paws. Doggos are easier to deal with. Look at you 4. Hey, stop rubbing. Shoo. After barely escaping the cats that kept rubbing against him for a scratch, the cube climbed onto the rooftop antenna. Though it wobbled a bit, it was better than being surrounded by curious felines. Why were these animals so inquisitive? Were they bored without humans to play with? As the cube stood on the antenna, scrutinized by 4 cats. Bang! Instantly, the cube pinpointed the direction of the gunshot. It sounded more like a cannon than a gun. What kind of weapon was that? The cube's database searched through countless world firearms, but found no match. Less than a kilometer from the town, by a small river, stood a solitary courtyard surrounded by crops. A 3-room brick and tile house, with white tiles and large windows where faint shadows moved. Zooming in, the cube spotted a face at the window. After a brief glance outward, the person drew the curtains. A human survivor. Let's check it out. This guy has a mysterious weapon. If he's decent, he'll have the foolish woman come pick him up tomorrow. Releasing his grip, he dropped from the antenna to the rooftop. Before the 4 curious cats could surround him again, the cube leaped to a 2-story building, then onto the canvas roof of a fried dough stall. Landing under the astonished gaze of the cats, he transformed into an off-road vehicle and sped away. Being watched too closely could leave psychological scars. The solitary farmhouse was connected by an old, uneven cement road, which the toy off-roader handled reasonably well. Soon the cube reached the farmhouse's outer wall. Voices came from inside. "Old man, did you kill that monster?" "Killed it. Nothing can survive this gun." "Sigh. Why did these people turn into monsters?" "Yesterday it was old Lee's eldest son from town. The one I just killed was Ma San. A sin." Silence fell inside. The cube judged the elderly couple, both in their 50s, to be decent folks. They were born and bred farmers, experts in growing grain and vegetables, far better than glib-tongued specialists. Bringing them to the base could guide agricultural work, as relying on city supplies was absurd, as stored grain would rot in months. 4 zombie corpses lay at the courtyard gate, their heads nearly shattered. What kind of weapon had such power, especially in a rural area? Driven by curiosity, the cube picked up a pebble and tossed it at a hen in the yard. Cluck! Cluck! The startled hen squawked loudly. "Stay inside. Let me see if another monster's come," the old man said, picking up a thick metal object and stepping out the door. The cube stared at the mysterious weapon, utterly dumbfounded. The cube stared in utter astonishment at the mysterious weapon. By the god of starships, that thing counted as a cannon, didn't it? After seeing that weapon, the cube's computer nearly crashed. No wonder it couldn't find any records of such a design in the weapon database. It was simply because this thing was too rustic and came in too many variations to be cataloged. A long barrel, a thick wooden stock. This was exactly the kind of homemade shotgun used for hunting wild boar in the northeastern mountains. Locals sometimes called it an earth cannon. Such weapons had been confiscated before, but somehow the old man had kept one. Its operation was simple: first pour a bit of gunpowder into the barrel, the amount depending on the target and range, then add shot pellets. Those who liked pipe tobacco could even stuff in some tobacco leaves to boost the power. Press a percussion cap on the trigger, and it was ready to fire, provided you had strong arms and ears that could withstand the blast. Stop your squawking and get back to laying eggs, or it'll blow you away and have you for stew. The old man grumbled, tucking away his shotgun and ducking back into the house. The cube quickly leaped down from the wall, transformed into a large off-road vehicle, and sped off in a cloud of dust. If it accidentally took a hit from that thing, its reputation as an advanced interstellar starship would be ruined. Worse, the scandal of a mighty starship being attacked by a rustic shotgun might spread across the entire universe. On the asphalt road, the cube, now in the form of a racing car, sped along at high speed, its blue headlights flickering. When the cube had come to Dragon Mountain, it remembered seeing a forklift parked in a factory by the roadside. This time it planned to check if anyone was there. If not, it would bring Zhang Xiaowen tomorrow to drive it away. If someone was there, it would still drive it away. In the cool weather of September and October, the once busy national highway was now covered with a light layer of fallen leaves, with no vehicles passing or road crews sweeping. Tall trees lined both sides of the road. Sunlight filtered through the dense foliage, casting dappled light on the asphalt. The road stretching into the distance, the trees, the fallen leaves, the light. It all created a scene of ethereal beauty. A photo taken here could easily serve as a desktop wallpaper. A low hum of an electric motor sounded in the distance, rapidly growing louder. A bird that had been idling on the road flapped its wings and flew up into a tree. Looking down the road, aside from the fallen leaves, a blur of blue light flickered in the distance, growing closer and closer. With a whoosh, the cube transformed into a toy racing car, sped past, kicking up leaves in its wake, leaving only a few drifting behind. By the national highway, there were 7 or 8 households. Fortunately, there were 6 survivors here, including 2 young men in their 20s. They were sitting on the wall by the roadside, drinking beer and smoking, occasionally cursing. Their talk was mostly about damning the zombies, complaining about the lack of electricity and internet and the absence of any women. They also discussed the large truck that had passed by on the highway yesterday. One of the young men, wearing cropped pants, was holding a spicy snack and pricked up his ears as if he had heard something. "Did you hear that? A small motor sound." Gulp, gulp. "What? A motor? Where? Pass me another beer." The young man in cropped pants ignored his companion. After listening carefully, he fixed his gaze on the end of the highway. Driven by curiosity, he stood up. In the distance, something seemed to be approaching rapidly. After a few breaths, a blue toy remote-controlled racing car appeared from behind a slope, its windows glinting. "Holy crap! I told you there was a motor sound. Look, isn't that a toy car?" "Huh, it really is. Come on, let's stop it. This day is way too boring. Finally, something fun to play with." This guy, perhaps drunk or just foolish, actually broke off a brick from the wall and held it in his hand, reeking of alcohol, as he stared at the approaching cube. The young man in cropped pants tossed away his spicy snack, jumped down from the wall, and stood in the middle of the road in his slippers. He bent over, ready to intercept the cube. The cube was speechless. These two had some nerve, sitting by the roadside drinking beer. True, this place was remote with no zombies around to bother them. But why did they have to block its path? It adjusted its front, slightly veering to the left side of the road. The young man in cropped pants shifted left, as well, his hands already poised to grab. The cube gritted its metaphorical teeth. "You want to play, do you? Then let's have some fun." It increased its power, the motor whirring with greater force as its speed surged, charging straight at the young man. "Oh my, who's playing with a remote control car? You dare speed up and ram me? Let me show you my eagle claw technique." "Huh." The young man in cropped pants spread his arms and bent over, blocking the cube's path, a smug grin spreading across his face. Just as the toy racing car was less than half a meter from the young man. Click. Whoosh. The cube's 4 wheels entered a semi-transformation state, leaving a trail of sparks on the ground before leaping up. It didn't fully transform, only the wheels partially changed. In slow motion, the young man's voice turned into a deep, drawn-out sound. The leaping cube passed slowly between his arms. At that moment, a bayonet suddenly erected from the back of the car. Then in slow motion, the semi-transformed racing car bayonet raised flew between the young man's legs. The cube even noticed a few curly hairs drifting down. After passing through, it retracted the bayonet, reverted to a racing car, landed, accelerated, and sped off with a hum. But before the cube could celebrate, it detected a heavy object flying toward its path, landing right in its trajectory. "Are you crazy? I've done nothing to you. Why are you throwing a brick at me?" The cube twisted its wheels, managing to swerve at an angle. The divine weapon, that mighty brick, skimmed past the side of the car and smashed into the asphalt, rolling a couple of times beside the cube before stopping. The impact sent up fragments that struck the cube. "Do you have any idea how expensive paint is? You were drunk and still managed to throw that accurately. 2 idiots. I should have just shot you both." With a whir of the motor, the cube turned a corner and vanished from the 2 young men's sight. Though it felt like a long time, it had all happened in an instant. Holy crap. Is this guy an international racing driver? That driving skill is insane. The young man in cropped pants and his companion were stunned by the godlike maneuver, wondering if they were dreaming. "Why does my crotch feel so chilly?" The young man in cropped pants reached down and discovered the torn fabric of his pants. As he shifted, a few curly hairs drifted away in the wind. After shaking off those two lunatics, the cube finally arrived at the road outside the factory. After scanning the factory, the cube discovered that there was actually a survivor. In such a densely populated area with such simple buildings, it was rather fortunate that someone could survive. Motor vehicles, please present your work permits. Quite formal. If they don't call for me, you'll just go right in. The cube glanced at a sign by the door and mumbled a few words before transforming into a large-wheeled off-road vehicle driving through the electric sliding door into the factory yard. Suddenly, a zombie security guard spoke up. "Oh, whoa." The cube was taken aback. They really do check work permits. Even after turning into a zombie, they were still so serious. Turning around, it became clear that the zombie trapped in the small pavilion was actually staring at a large rat that had just emerged from the sewer, excited by the sight of that little lump of flesh. As the motor spun, the cube entered the factory yard where about 50 or 60 zombies were wandering. There were surely more inside the factory and in the 3-story office building. The survivor was hiding behind a warehouse-like structure, and based on the chemical odors detected in the air, it seemed that the unfortunate soul had spilled a lot of chemical products. Even if they weren't bitten to death by zombies, absorbing so many chemicals would likely leave them in poor condition. Poor child, you're likely close to starving if not already dead. After turning a corner, the cube drove toward the warehouse, not in a hurry to grab a forklift, but first seeing if this unfortunate soul could still survive. As it approached the warehouse and scanned again, the cube discovered that the cafeteria was right next to it, suggesting that starvation would not occur anytime soon. But what was he doing? In the thermal imaging view of the cube, this guy was crouched in a corner behind the warehouse, starting a fire. Was he planning to set himself on fire to end it all? It seemed not to be the case. As it circled around and got closer to the survivor, the cube finally understood what was happening. The reasoning made it want to crash into a wall. "Foreman, please don't blame me for killing you. It was truly because you were going to bite me that I had to retaliate. Just don't report me once you're down there, and to the HR manager. Please don't come looking for me. He'll burn you extra money. Just buy whatever you want down there, no need to save. If it's not enough, just ask. No. Don't come looking for me again." The cube was speechless. Where did this guy get the paper to burn for the grave? Zooming in on the view, it turned out he was burning newspapers. At least draw a couple of circles. Be a bit more serious, will you? Skipping over this peculiar sight, the cube approached the forklift only to find there was no key. If it weren't for that, the cube could ignite and start it, but the other people in the camp couldn't do that. Forget it, the driver was likely here too. Even if not, the key would be in the office. After scanning the shape of the key, the cube began searching the bodies of zombies that looked like the driver to see if they were carrying a matching key. The red fan-shaped scanning light scanned each zombie, focusing on the keys in their waist or pockets. After scanning them one by one, it marked them in the computer to indicate they had been scanned. Otherwise these things might get mixed up after moving back and forth. Found it. Thankfully, our technology is advanced, or relying solely on my eyes would take a day or two to find it. The key was not on the zombie's body, but rather on a mangled corpse that had been eaten by zombies, its stomach hollowed out to reveal just a few ribs and 2 thigh bones, stark white and very noticeable, clearly having been picked apart by the zombies. The cube approached, transforming into a robot to use its mechanical arm to pick up a belt stained with black blood, easily pulling off 2 keys. The cube intended to get the forklift onto the highway, moving it further away from the factory. Otherwise, with so many zombies, it would be very difficult for humans to come in and drive it away. Since it had to drive the forklift itself, a problem arose. Height was a hard limitation. Standing at over 30 centimeters tall, the forklift driver at 30 centimeters was simply not enough. If I had known, I would have prioritized evolution and upgrades. If I had been absorbing at that rare metal trading company every day, I would have grown much larger by now. These days, being a robot is not easy, and making one to support a group of people is even harder. Sitting in the driver's seat, it gestured up and down for a long while before finally finding a temporary solution: elongate its body and then control the forklift to drive it to the factory's entrance. Saying it would do it, it immediately began adjusting its mechanical body. After more than an hour, the cube finally drove the forklift to the factory entrance. Because of the noise, the zombies followed closely behind, fixated on the engine, and a few even became agitated, as if they could hear something related to food, but simply couldn't find it. The few zombies, with their simplistic thoughts, immediately lost their reason. After turning off the engine, it hid the keys and jumped down from the forklift. Having just expended a lot of energy, the cube sat on the asphalt road. The toy car door on its back flipped up to reveal the solar panel, which began absorbing energy. With the sound source lost, the zombies stared blankly for a moment before returning to their slow shuffling state to conserve energy. All that could be heard was the gentle rustle of leaves swaying in the breeze. Although it was gradually entering autumn, the afternoon sun was still scorching, making the asphalt road appear warped in the distance. The blazing sun had its advantages. At least the efficiency of the solar panel was greatly improved, and the feeling of being filled with energy was quite intoxicating. Near the mountainous region of Jiangxing in Province L, just a dozen kilometers from the mountains heading north out of the city, was a hilly highway. At that moment, the sound of engines could be heard from below the slope. For cars sped up the incline after avoiding a parked delivery truck, each carrying 3 to 4 people, with intermittent sounds of women crying. They were a small convoy of survivors that had just escaped the city. After crossing a bridge, the people in the cars finally breathed a sigh of relief. Zombies in the mountains were always fewer, and the river provided a barrier, making it considerably safer. This is really bizarre. Who would have thought a biohazard crisis would erupt? I still feel like I'm dreaming, one of the drivers complained. Yeah, I woke up to find people being eaten everywhere. The mountains are better, at least there aren't zombies everywhere. Unfortunately, Chan's group didn't make it out. If he hadn't been so nervous, he wouldn't have crashed into the back of a big truck while driving. Thank goodness I chose a sturdy, heavy European-American car. If I had picked a flimsy island car, that collision would have totaled it. In that place, parking pretty much means everyone in the car's life is also at a standstill. Woo, my sister is still in the city. A boy in the back said, clutching a girl who was sobbing. Try to hold it together, none of my wife or children survived. What can I do? Still, we have to keep living. Everyone has lost loved ones, all we can do is survive. A haggard-looking man in casual clothes said before closing his eyes. The car fell into a heavy silence with 4 vehicles racing in a row down the highway, followed by leaves stirred up by the passing cars. The Rubik's Cube, basking in the sun, retracted its solar panels with a metallic clatter, twisted upright, and turned its gaze toward the national highway stretching toward the city center. Vehicles approaching. From the engine sounds 4 cars. Impressive that they managed to escape that damn zombie paradise in such low sedans. The Cube's detection equipment was no mere decoration. Every car's engine had its unique signature, like fingerprints, though few ever noticed or cared. To the Cube, distinguishing them was as easy as telling apart different faces. It folded itself back into a toy race car, silently parked in front of the loader, and focused on the highway. On the elevated highway, the roar of engines grew louder. Soon 4 vehicles appeared on the road near the factory. Inside, the survivors spotted the factory swarming with zombies. Ah, zombies. How can there be so many here? The girl's scream was so shrill, even the Cube parked by the roadside could hear it. Don't panic. Don't panic. They're blocked by the wall and the loader at the gate. We're not stopping here. What's there to fear? The driver slammed the accelerator, and the car surged forward. Though they couldn't escape the area immediately, no one wanted to linger on the sight of those creatures. The prickling scalp and racing heart were sensations best avoided. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The 4 cars sped past the Cube. Uff, the exhaust fumes are nasty. No wonder PM2.5 is so bad. Experts blame farmers burning straw for the smog, and PM2.5. They've burned straw for 5,000 years without PM2.5. But now it suddenly appears. Selfish humans bullying the voiceless farmers for their own gain. How filthy. Squeal. The tires screeched against the asphalt as the toy race car shot forward. With those 4 cars leading the way, those 2 idiots wouldn't throw bricks at him again, would they? On the national highway, in the last car, a woman in her 30s glanced back. Huh, what's that? She saw something glinting on the road behind, but before she could make it out, the car entered a curve. That little thing seemed to be moving on the road. What's wrong? Something there, asked the driver, a woman in her 40s. I thought I saw a small shiny thing on the road behind us, but I couldn't see clearly. Probably a piece of glass. There's a lot of debris on this road. It's likely glass, the driver said, checking the rearview mirror. The younger woman, though puzzled, accepted the explanation. When she looked back again, there was nothing but a few fallen leaves on the road. The Cube drove idly along the highway. It was 1:30 p.m., time to check on the camp's progress and prepare for tomorrow's journey. Lost in thought, it found itself back in the residential area where those 2 idiots lived. Oh, those 4 cars stopped here too. They must be planning to stay in these houses. Not a bad idea. The town ahead won't be easy to pass. Once I clear the zombies tomorrow, the road will be open. By the roadside, survivors from the cars stood talking with a few elderly locals who kindly offered fruit from their gardens. What's that sound? Someone heard the Cube's electric motor. Everyone turned to look at the highway. A toy car. A remote-controlled toy car. A group of over a dozen people stared in bewilderment at a blue remote-controlled toy race car approaching from a distance. Who would be playing with such a thing at a time like this? Where was the remote operator? The convoy survivors glanced at the villagers, who returned the look, wondering why anyone would bring a toy while fleeing for their lives. Only the woman in her 30s was stunned. Wasn't that the glinting toy car from earlier? But that spot was several kilometers away. What kind of toy car could travel that far? Race car. International driving god. Spicy sticks. Drink. Meanwhile, the toy car, the survivors, and the villagers all fixed their gaze on the wall, where two drunken youths lay sprawled, their arms and legs dangling. Those two had actually fallen asleep on the wall in this apocalypse. One of them, wearing shorts, was even an exhibitionist. The villagers regretted giving beer to their sons, the survivors admired their audacity, and the cube felt those idiots wouldn't be throwing bricks at it anymore. In this bizarre atmosphere, the cube sped past on the highway, its motor humming, and disappeared around a bend. Should we chase after it? Forget it. It's probably some remote control expert survivor. We'll cross paths eventually. No need to waste precious fuel on a toy. Everyone nodded in agreement. Fuel was hard to come by these days. Uncle Ant would like to stay here for a while if possible. In this world full of monsters, meeting alive is fate. We can work, said a man in his 40s, addressing the villagers. The rest of the convoy survivors nodded eagerly, their faces etched with fear, hunger, and despair. Oh, such a tragedy. Don't be shy, there's shelter and food here. You can stay. Oh, such a tragedy. Don't be shy, there's shelter and food here. You can stay. The kind villagers were easy to talk to. Watching countless people die before their eyes in this apocalypse stirred a sense of shared sorrow, a primal urge to band together. It was human nature. Besides, the season's gardens were bountiful, and every household had ample grain. Rice and corn were nearly ripe for harvest. In previous years, they'd sell the surplus, but now money was worthless. With more food than they could eat, taking in a dozen or so people was no burden. A mountain spring nearby ensured clean water, and the company brought comfort and a clear conscience. The cube continued its journey. Passing through the town, it reached a fork in the road. With a drift, it kicked up a puff of blue smoke and sped onto the asphalt path leading to the camp. This time it stayed alert for any frogs blocking its way. At the camp's perimeter, the original Gulf Estate's nearly 3-meter-high metal grid fence was being reinforced by young men and women following the cube's blueprints. They couldn't handle complex tasks, so the cube's plan was simple: add 3 more iron pipe posts between every 2 existing ones and secure diagonal braces with wire. This would prevent the fence from collapsing easily under the push of zombies outside. It was a temporary measure, but a full overhaul would have to wait. Cube, over here. The cube turned the vehicle and drove toward a recreational area within the estate camp. Zhang Xiaowen was waving there along with 12 students who were skillfully handling firearms. Now they all looked over in unison. It could be said that almost everyone in the camp was particularly curious about Zhang Xiaowen's laptop and these 2 toy cars, but no one knew that there was actually only one. The distinctive sound of a toy car's electric motor came as the cube stopped beside Zhang Xiaowen. The blueprints are inconvenient on the laptop. Come on, let's go print all the drawings. This issue greatly troubled Zhang Xiaowen. Teacher, he had already run back and forth several times. You all continue training. I hope you can train diligently even when no one is watching. This is the apocalypse, not a summer camp. After saying this, Zhang Xiaowen walked with the cube toward the main reception building. Behind her, the 12 people were drenched in sweat under the scorching afternoon sun. They had planned to slack off while Zhang Xiaowen was away, but after hearing her words, they felt that slacking off was simply being irresponsible to their own lives. However, Sister Zhang could still use the printer even without electricity. A tech tyrant indeed. Woof woof. Dehei, along with 3 puppies, was playing by the entrance. Seeing Zhang Xiaowen approach, he greeted her, his condition noticeably better than when they were in the dilapidated house. It's very inconvenient without the blueprints. There's a brand new printer here too, but without power it can't do anything. See, it's the one by the bar counter. Just as she entered, Zhang Xiaowen pointed to a color printer on a table next to the bar counter. It had paper and ink, but no power. Seeing no one nearby, the cube transformed into a robot with a series of clicks and quickly climbed onto the table. This is simple. Let's make do for now. Tomorrow, when we collect supplies, we'll dismantle a few solar streetlight panels from the town. Leaving them there to light up the zombies is a complete waste. As he spoke, the cube's right hand turned into a bayonet and stabbed directly into the USB port. The entire blade rapidly deformed inside to make contact with various connectors. In less than 3 seconds, the green screen display on the printer's control panel flickered and then entered working mode. Zhang Xiaowen showed no surprise, not even a hint of astonishment. The printer whirred to life, pulling in the paper. The normally slow print had swept back and forth at incredible speed, and with a series of swishes, the printed blueprints flew out one after another. Zhang Xiaowen felt that the cube must be showing off its superpowers. Otherwise, why print so fast, as if using a brush to swipe back and forth? But this was actually an unfair accusation against the cube. A printer should have its own speed. Who would bother lingering by the printer waiting for a few sheets of paper? By the time the paper finished printing, a starship would have already passed several planets. I went out today and saw over a dozen survivors who fled from the city. They're living about 5 kilometers from here. Besides that, there are a few farmhouses in that area. If they're willing to come over, we should accept them all. After all, it's not suitable for survival with too few people. Once I finish up here in a few days, I'll go into the city to collect metal and rescue any trapped survivors. The printer spat out the last sheet of paper, and the cube's printing task came to an end. Going to the city. They'll go with you. I feel my physique growing stronger, but it's becoming uncoordinated. I want to go out and adapt to my new abilities. Uncoordinated. Let me take a look. With that, the cube's eyes emitted a fan-shaped green beam and began scanning Zhang Xiaowen. This bastard. Zhang Xiaowen silently cursed. Didn't he know not to casually scan a woman's body? Forget it, Shed, just treat it like getting an X-ray at the hospital. After all, he had scanned her several times already. Damn robot. The scan finished, and the cube breathed a sigh of relief. As Zhang Xiaowen had said, the rapid increase in physical strength had caused neural incoordination. With more exercise and adaptation, it would be fine. But what was with that look in her eyes? Why was she glaring at him like that? Could there be something wrong with her eyes? Oomph. Zhang Xiaowen snorted, picked up the printed blueprints, and turned to leave. Her slender legs and delicate waist moved gracefully, leaving the cube utterly bewildered. Its computer nearly overheated, trying to figure out what this woman was doing. Utterly perplexed, it simply jumped to the ground, transformed back into a toy car, and drove to the entrance to bask in the sun and recharge. Women, such an incomprehensible species. Even a cosmic black hole was simpler than a woman. Earth was truly amazing to have produced such a transcendent creature. Adahe is so much better. Such a simple creature. Huh. Dahe, what are you doing here? Hey, don't lick that. My solar panel. A little to the left. A bit more, just a tiny bit. Good. Right there. In front of the main reception building, Zhang Xiaowen was directing the 12 new guards in their work erecting a flagpole. There had once been a flagpole here, but it had somehow ended up in the warehouse. Zhang Xiaowen discovered it and carried it out alone, and now they were securing the flagpole in place. Zhang Xiaowen's idea was simple. In this desperate apocalypse, people needed a faith, and her homeland was the best faith. Raising the flag here meant that this was still the original homeland, and it also told others that there was a survivor camp here. The people were still these people, the land was still this land, and the country was still this country. No matter how difficult things got, seeing this bright national flag would fill people with hope. Though exhausted, the few people still worked hard, without bothering to wipe the sweat from their faces. Everyone knew what this flagpole meant. Perhaps they hadn't paid much attention to their country before, without any concept of patriotism. But now, looking at this flagpole, an indescribable hope arose in their hearts. This foolish woman did well. Faith in this damned era is like spiritual food. It's far better than living like a walking corpse. No sooner had he spoken than the cube felt his vision go dark. He realized a little puppy had somehow climbed onto the roof of the toy car, whimpering softly. Zhang Xiaowen shaded her eyes with her hand and looked up at the tall flagpole. It was nearing dusk, and the setting sun was rapidly lengthening the shadow of Longshan Mountain. The sunlight was a bit dazzling. She took out her modified phone to check the time. Dismissed for rest. It's getting dark. Go notify teacher, he and the others to come back, prepare an early dinner, and get some rest. Tomorrow we're going out to gather supplies. Gao Dong nodded and ran off toward the group, reinforcing the fence. Just then, the cube, who had just retracted his solar panel, suddenly looked toward the asphalt road leading to the camp and contacted Zhang Xiaowen. A van is approaching the entrance. There are about 5 people. No other information. I suggest maintaining a cautious approach. The electric motor started, and the cube was the first to head toward the gate, extending a small machine gun from its roof as it drove. In this era, many people had become deranged and violent under the pressure, so precautions were necessary.